Today we're going to look at the absolute worst thing every single Hazbin Hotel character has done. And before we begin, we have to shout out the characters we couldn't find anything adjacent to a bad deed for. Emily, Zestiol, Kiki, Fat Nuggets, Razzle, and Dazzle. Congrats to these 6! Not to discredit them, but the bar is quite literally in hell. And with that, let's begin with the less hell-worthy deeds, more specifically the ones that weren't intentional. These are the simple mistakes.
And action.
First up is the leading lady herself, Charlie Morningstar. Charlie was a difficult character to find a worst deed for because, well, to be blunt, she's pretty unambiguously sweet. The absolute worst we could come up with for her was an incident during which she fully meant well, worsening Angel Dust's abuse. In the episode Masquerade, Charlie tries to visit Angel at work against his wishes, with the intent of helping make his job easier, trying to share information about the hotel with Valentino's workers and suggesting less violent scripts for Angel to be part of. Unfortunately, this only results in an accident on stage that sets Valentino off enough to abuse Angel and force him to film all night. Naturally, Charlie was trying to do good, but this plays into a prominent flaw of hers. Charlie can be too optimistic. Her insistence on getting involved with everyone's problems comes from a place of kindness, but here she failed to realize her own limitations. And while we can't fault her for wanting to spare her friend from abuse, her determination to fix a problem she had no control over ended up making things worse. For the literal Princess of Hell, it's a reasonable human flaw and just barely qualifies for even being in our lowest tier. Next up, we have Sir Pentious' minions, the Egg Boys. We would call helping Pentious with his goofy evil schemes their worst deed, but honestly, we don't think they're intelligent enough to even have ill will towards anyone. We're gonna call general clumsiness their worst deed. They're certainly not out to hurt anyone, but if you want someone to keep your secrets, maybe don't count on the Egg Boys. Up next, we have Tom Trench, another character in the really? That counts as a worst deed category? Due to his very limited screen time, the worst thing we can come up with for Tom is his tendency to ogle women on the news. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that a woman is hot, but commenting on how much you'd like to bang her on live television while she is literally in the process of committing highly destructive crimes, mind you, isn't a great look. Then again, he is in hell, so this is probably par for the course. This next entry is a surprising one. Lucifer. If you've ever even been near a Sunday school class, I'm sure you're confused right now, but hear me out. Despite the inspiration taken, Hazbin Hotel's lore is obviously very different from that of the biblical creation story, especially in terms of Lucifer and his motives. In the Bible, people had free will from the start, and the temptation was specifically meant by the serpent to bring evil into the world, basically taking a perfect, peaceful creation and tarnishing it so he could rule instead. In this regard, Hazbin's Lucifer couldn't be more different from his biblical counterpart. He just wanted to share his ideas with a world of people that didn't have free will yet.
You know, I've just been really busy, with, important things.
Unfortunately, through giving people free will, he accidentally let evil into the world, causing him to fall into a deep depression and be cast into the hell he inadvertently created. The effects of both Lucifers may have been the same, but the intentions behind Hazbin Lucifer's actions are what keep him from falling any lower. From this guy's perspective, he was trying to give humanity a gift, and it just went unimaginably wrong, but he is doing what he can do to make up for his failures as both an angel and as a father, so we'll give him some grace despite that little slip up. And rounding out this first section, we have the first of many lethal crimes on our list, Carmilla, whose worst deed was killing an angel in self-defense. Originally, we weren't going to call this a mistake since you don't just accidentally kill an angel, but then we remembered that Carmilla herself acknowledges it as a mistake in her musical number, and we're going to respect that. But even if she hadn't used that wording, honestly, this just feels like the right place for this deed. Carmilla killing this angel wasn't some kind of premeditated murder or anything. It was an act of both self-defense and the defense of her daughters from a powerful creature who was bent on systematically reducing their population. I would hope we all see why that isn't a particularly evil deed. Killing isn't good, yeah, but I mean, you were literally about to do it, my guy. But now let's start moving on to the more unambiguous misdeeds. These deeds were bad, but forgivable. While this deed is less lethal as last category's finale, Katie Killjoy has a lot less justification for her misdeed. Frankly, we could pick out any of her deeds and call almost any of them the worst.
Look, my time is money, so I'll keep this short.
Her whole character is basically mean newscaster lady, but there was one deed of hers from the YouTube pilot that stands out. Scorching Tom's penis with hot coffee. Was it polite of Tom to comment on Cherry's body like that? No. But not only did Katie just waste a perfectly good cup of coffee, she also just scalded a man's genitals for the crime of calling a woman hot. Like, I mean, you realize this is hell, right? Isn't being kind of dirty-minded basically par for the course? Let's also make note of the fact that Tom can be heard saying, "not again," after the fact, implying Katie has done this more more than once, he should really get some heat-resistant pants at this point. I'm sure you were all waiting for Mimsy to show up, and she had one of the easiest deeds to decide, endangering the hotel. In her only appearance so far, Alistair's old buddy shows up to catch up with him and absolutely no ulterior motives.
Why is everybody gawking? Is it because I'm adorable?
But then, in a total coincidence, some loan sharks show up that she happens to owe $50,000 to for animating a video of her being chased down the streets by Charlie. Even though we all know Mimsy would never take advantage of her friend, much less buy such a weirdly specific commission, the fact that she knew these guys were chasing after her and still chose to endanger the hotel's guests and staff speaks a lot about her character. And none of it is exactly good. You know what else isn't good? Genocide. Vaggie's life isn't defined by her working as an exorcist, but it's definitely a mark against her. Right off the bat, we want to give Vaggie some leeway because while just following orders isn't an excuse for helping someone commit genocide, Vaggie is an angel being sent to fix Hell's population problem. By killing some of said population, there was probably a lot of anti-sinner demon propaganda leading up to that, and to save Charlie's not exactly better half from falling any lower, she at least had the compassion and integrity to not kill a kid. And yes, I know the kid was in hell, but I'm not buying that this wasn't some kind of oversight. Surely this universe's heaven doesn't send kids to hell. Surely, right, Sarah? Before we have to think about that dilemma, let's talk about Cherry Bomb. Cherry's worst deed is one that's related to a word right in her name. General public endangerment is a pretty nasty side effect of Cherry's love for bombs. Through her fights with Pentious and other chaos enthusiasts, she causes a lot of destruction of property and endangers plenty of lives. Or afterlives, I guess. It's not that any of what Cherry does comes with ill intentions, but she simply endangers a lot of people just by doing her thing. And rounding out this section is none other than Sir Pentious. Sir Pentious is basically the show's non-kid-friendly version of Dr. Doofenshmirtz. His evil schemes are done less out of malice and more out of a desire to fit in with people.
Guess he's not much of a threat without the war machine. Or even with the war machine.
Unfortunately, he chose the wrong way to do this before his redemption by trying to take over Hell, whereas Cherry just kinda likes blowing stuff up without too much rhyme or reason. Sir Pentious actually had a twisted goal. He wanted to become an overlord to gain more power and influence in Hell. Of course, season 2 revealed that Pentious never really had any true ill will towards anyone. The dude just wanted to make friends and feel like he wasn't a complete failure. And considering how he was willing to get vaporized to protect his friends, I don't think he would have done that much evil if he had become an overlord. On the other hand, these next few characters have some truly terrible deeds under their belt. And believe it or not, Nifty is first up in this section. If the worst thing Nifty did was killing Adam or even her disturbing eagerness to stab things, she wouldn't be quite so high on the list, but Nifty has a mind so twisted that even the radio demon himself can't exactly comprehend it. Take her habit of warning baby bugs, for instance.
Sometimes I kill mother bugs in front of their children as a warning to others.
You know what, I think Nifty explained why she's in this section very succinctly. Let's move on. As for the four-armed Angel Dust, he might be a bit more surprising. Angel is a victim of some truly terrible circumstances throughout the series. Sometimes it's due to his own bad experience, while other times it's just bad luck. But while he's certainly hedonistic during his time in Hell, that's basically just life in the Helliverse by default. The really bad stuff Angel's done came in his earthly life. Angel was part of an Italian mobster family. This is a piece of trivia VivziePop mentioned in his stream, and it definitely explains why Angel is so efficient at using heavy weaponry. Unfortunately, the fact that he's so good at it also means that he almost certainly murdered a lot of people in his earthly life. He's not any lower simply because we don't know all the details of his mafia lifestyle, and like Sir Pentious, he is well on his way to redemption, so he deserves a lot of leeway. Another unfortunate soul is Husk, and several more unfortunate souls belong to his victims because Husk got hooked on gambling with people's souls. Not only did he get Dr. Facilier's voice actor, he got one of his favorite pastimes. Unfortunately for Husk, things didn't end so well for his gambling career. Once he lost to Alistair, he got a taste of his own medicine. We acknowledge that he's becoming a better person through his work at the hotel, but using someone's soul to fuel your gambling addiction is absolutely wild.
Don't get me started. I see right through you and all this bull.
And even then, it's still not quite worthy of our final category. Without a doubt, our biggest category of the day, we've finally reached the deeds that there's no coming back from them. With the most shocking and large-scale displays of evil of the day, these sinners' low points are straight up depraved. First up in this section is Rosie. Sure, she has a sweet friendship with Alistair and offered Charlie some much-needed advice during a rough patch in her relationship, but let's not forget the place she's the overlord of.
Okay, we'll be back after a brief intermission.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but organized cannibalism isn't much better than, what, casual cannibalism? I swear, we're on the first entry of this final category, and I'm already having to make up new names to cover what these sickos do. And Rosie is one of the more pleasant overlords. She just happens to be a likable overlord who leads a place with a culture revolving around cannibalism. I guess in her limited defense, if you go to a place called Cannibal Town, you wouldn't expect there to not be cannibalism. We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Now let's move on to one of these straight-up villains, Vox. As a fellow overlord, his worst deed is mass brainwashing.
Trust us. with your safety.
You know you're a really nasty dude when you told one of the most lovable characters in the cast to off himself, and that isn't even your worst deed. As an underworld media mogul, Vox has been seen using his power and influence to hypnotize numerous people watching his broadcasts. He uses this power to not just paralyze them, but to basically brainwash them into buying his mostly useless products. You think unskippable ads are annoying now? I mean, they are, but imagine if you were forced to buy from every single one that you saw. That's the future Vox wants for entertainment. Perhaps the one thing Vox wants more than all that profit is to see Alistair undermined. But with how much crazy stuff the radio demon has gotten away with, we wouldn't get our hopes up. Alistair's motives are an intriguing mystery, but one thing is clear, this overlord isn't one to mess around with. His worst deed, however, is detailed in the pilot episode. His grand debut consisted of a rampant streak of murdering, torturing, and enslaving several of Hell's most powerful overlords. Even worse, he decided to broadcast their screams on the airwaves as a sickening display of power.
This face was made for radio.
Alistair is a fun character, and he certainly isn't pure evil, but we have to look at him objectively. The fact is that, as much as we like him, he's done some of the most unspeakable things in the entire series. What keeps him out of the top 5 is the fact that we don't know everything about his overarching motives, and we also have to mention the infamous scene of him threatening Husk's life for mentioning his own debt, implying that at least some of Alistair's actions are done due to some kind of blackmail. It's not an excuse by any means, but it sets him apart from some of the more heartless overlords. It also sets him apart from some of the more heartless angels. Enter Loot. As Adam's right-hand lady, she's automatically guilty of helping with numerous exterminations Adam has been carrying out for years. That alone would be enough for her to land near the top evil of our list, but to talk about her worst moment, we have to go back to Vaggy's. Remember earlier when we talked about that heroic scene of Vaggy sparing a demon child's life because, you know, killing kids isn't okay? Yeah, Loot took that personally, apparently, because she then mutilated her comrade for sparing a child. There's no context that makes that okay, but it's made even worse by the fact that Loot and Vaggy were angels. As if going along with the killing spree weren't bad enough, she proceeded to leave one of her own in the pits of hell itself just for having more of a moral compass. Nearing the end is the second of the V's, Velvet. While she hasn't had nearly the amount of screen time as the other two, Velvet has still made some impact on the series so far.
If these holy rollers can be killed, the game has changed.
As an influencer, most of her worst deeds involve pushing her friends' misdeeds to an even wider audience than they would have otherwise, but the worst example of this is definitely love potion distribution. Love potions are one of those tropes that have come under fire in recent years, and for good reason. Like, it's literally a drug designed to force you to fall in love with someone. It's like taking advantage of a drunk person, but 10 times worse, and even in hell, selling your friend's roofie moth spit is a pretty low-down thing to do. It's also really gross. Even so, I think it's pretty clear that Valentino is the worst of the V's by just about any measuring stick. Val's worst deed doesn't even need to be stated, but of course, it's committing and profiting off of SA. Again, like I said, we aren't going to go in too much depth on this one because, like 98% of the fandom, we are made viscerally uncomfortable by every second this creep is on screen. But we do want to use this as an opportunity to say that Valentino is not evil only for his sexual abuse of his workers, he's evil for basically spearheading the industry that victimizes them in the first place.
Which of these makes me look sexier?
Routinely manipulating and abusing others, all for the sake of his own power, control, and pleasure. Valentino is the kind of guy hell was made for, so it's a shame that he's basically living his dream down there. But while our second place pick is a character nowhere near as evil, we had to look at Sarah with some serious scrutiny. Approving of the exterminations, to Sarah's credit, wasn't a decision she made lightly, nor was it one she made happily. From her perspective as a high-ranking angel, Sarah was trying to keep the peace. Fearing that Emily and the other younger angels could be cast out as fallen angels like Lucifer if they questioned Adam's methods, she agreed to sanction his yearly exterminations to help fix Hell's overpopulation issue. While her intentions may have been for the good of the angels, the fact remains that they're the only ones she took into consideration. Sarah was willing to do anything to keep Emily and the others safe and happy, which is good to an extent, but her total disregard for human life and refusal to acknowledge even the possibility of sinners being redeemed led to her sanctioning one of the most vile atrocities in the series.
Fuck yes! I win!
She also kept her people in the dark about what was truly going on, which is a complete and utter failure as a leader. Hopefully seeing Sir Pentious in heaven will be the push Sarah needs to change her ways. But while we've seen a lot of low points today, none of them come close to the top spot on our list. Adam's worst deed is undoubtedly the yearly exterminations, aka Sinner Demon Genocide. All three of our top picks are guilty of horrifically mistreating Sinner Demons who are already in the literal worst situation possible. Valentino makes life for them even more hellish than it already was, and Sarah was willing to act like their lives were totally expendable as long as the angels didn't have to stress over what they went through. But the thing is, Adam was the first human. Valentino is a depraved scumbag in general, and Sarah is literally a supernatural being. While Adam has supernatural powers now, he was the first human being on Earth, which means that, in his own words,
all of mankind came from these f***ing nuts!
And you know what that means? Adam's exterminations aren't just some means to fix overpopulation. This dude is systematically murdering hundreds of his own descendants on a yearly basis. In other words, Adam is killing his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. Whether they're in hell or not, that has to be one of the least heaven-worthy things I could ever imagine someone doing, especially since someone is actively trying to redeem those poor souls. Adam's gotta be like in a double hell for that one. Today we're taking another hellish trip to the world of Hazbin Hotel, taking 30 of its most iconic characters and running them through the Squid Game. Only one player will walk away with all the money, so let's look at our contestants.
Welcome to the Squid Game. We're excited for everyone to play.
Today's roster of contestants is as follows: Charlie, Vaggie, Alistair, Angel Dust, Husk, Nifty, Serpentious, Katie Killjoy, Tom Trench, Frank the Egg Boy, Fat Nuggets, Razzle, Dazzle, Rosie, Mimsy, Adam, Loot, Zestial, Camilla, Valentino, Velvet Vox, Lucifer, Lilith, Cherry Bomb, Emily, Sarah, St. Peter, Kiki, Susan.
The following are the ground rules in this Squid Game. Number 1, no outside allies or sidekicks. 2, no outside weapons, with the sole exception of any equipment needed to survive. Number 3, no magic. 4, natural abilities are allowed.
Now then, let's get started with the beloved opening round.
The first game today is red light, green light. You may move forward when it shouts green light. Stop when it shouts red light. If your movement is detected afterwards, you will be eliminated.
Speed, composure, and general athletic ability will be your best friends in this round, and knowing how to play the game would help a bit as well. Last time we thought about this scenario, Tom Trench and Katie Killjoy were the first 2 characters to be eliminated. Luckily for them, this is season 2. Katie knows this is an opportunity for clout chasing, and Tom knows that he's going to die if he fails to make it through this round, so we're gonna say that they pass this time.
But Kiffy Nosy, I hear you saying, shouldn't everyone be able to pass by that logic?
And yeah, honestly, Serpentious has a heart of gold, so we'll assume that he'll use his painfully underutilized hypnosis ability to make sure the less intelligent pets like Frank and Fat Nuggets are able to pass this game. Heavy-hitting overlords like Zestial, Alistair, and Valentino, and high-ranking heavenly officials like Emily, St. Peter, and Sarah aren't going to have trouble getting through this round either, nor helping others do the same. Even newcomer Lilith could easily adapt to this game's circumstances since we barely know anything about her. The one thing we know for sure is that she's great at chilling. That said, this is life or death we're talking about here. Characters like Adam, Velvet, and Vox are both skillful enough to pass with flying colors and ruthless enough to try and sabotage the competition.
But it's time to die with the rest of them.
Which is sure to lead to at least an elimination or 2. But the first one to go is, for totally unrelated reasons, Susan.
Player eliminated.
Susan.
Susan.
Susan, she always has something to say. I can practically hear her interrupting the guards while they explain the game to her just to complain about the temperature or the humidity or even the color of the floor, only to be interrupted by a single gunshot. She would then follow this up by complaining that her bullet was undercooked and will have the indecency to die before explaining what the actual heck she meant by that. Then we have to consider the previous season's high rankers. Baddies like Adam and Vox would ideally be gunning for the previous season's finalists, Carmilla and Zestial, but given that they can't use their powers during the challenge, lest they be disqualified, I think that even they would be smart enough to hold back. That leaves Rosie as their ideal target, since she's an overlord who would be the least likely to be surrounded by allies during the games. While Alistair did care for her sincerely, he'd probably be more concerned with his underlings.
28 of 30 players remain. Let's move on to the next game, Honeycomb. Players must cut out the shape from their cookies. Those who break their cookie or run out of time will be eliminated.
Patience, steady hands, and artistic skills will come in handy here, as will general resourcefulness and creativity. Angel Dust has 4 arms and has done significantly less pleasant things with them than precision carving a shape out of a cookie. He's got this in the bag, and you just know he'll make sure to carve Fat Nuggets' cookie for him as well. Characters like Charlie and Serpentious, who have a sense of childlike playfulness around them, are also likely to do pretty well at the more non-violent games like this, and that means Frank, Kiki, Razzle, and Dazzle are all going to be just fine with their help. Lucifer, as we all know, has his iconic rubber duck making hobby, which means he's got some experience with small tools like needles.
Oh god, who am I kidding? This sucks.
Lilith might not have the same hobbies, but she is, again, a master at chilling on the beach, so I feel like this sort of precise yet satisfying game is just right for her. Last time, this was where we said, get the fuck I mean, goodbye to Valentino due to his tendency towards temper tantrums, but this time around we're going to say that Vox bails him out. Vox is a cunning businessman, and at least slightly more in control of his emotions than Val, so he'd be more than willing to strike a deal to help his buddy out, at least in exchange for his help later on. Adam has similar temper problems, but Lute definitely seems like the type who'd help him stay focused long enough to not die for a few more minutes. But not everyone will have such a seamless time in this round. I mean, most of them will. They are used to hell itself after all. But this is where Katie's trolling of Tom Trench comes back in full force.
Player eliminated.
She never misses an opportunity to take a jab at this guy, so even if she were to somehow restrain herself from shanking him with the needle, we're sure she would startle him into breaking his cookie anyway. As long as Katie is around, Tom is simply not allowed to take a W.
27 players remain. It's time for our next game, Six-Legged Pentathlon. The rules are as follows. Players will split up into groups of 5, tie their legs together, and move in tandem around a track. Every 10 meters, one player will play a mini-game until it is completed, with each member playing once. The goal is to complete all games in the allotted time, repeating each one until it is complete.
So here are the mini-games. Dakji, throw a paper tile at the ground to flip over another paper tile. Flying stone, throw a small stone at another small stone and knock it down. Gonggi, a traditional game of Korean jacks. Spinning top, jeggy kick a jeggy in the air 5 times in a row, kind of like hacky sack. Balance, composure, and most importantly, general gaming prowess are the most important characteristics for this game of games. That is, for those popular enough to find a team in the first place. This will be the point of the game where alliances and teams start to be formed. Charlie and Vaggie are definitely sticking together through this challenge, and their pets, Kiki, Razzle, and Dazzle, would as well. Razzle and Dazzle are probably both capable of throwing the flying stone and spinning a top, and while Kiki seems like she'd be pretty good at Dakji, cats are used to swatting things off tables, so it seems like throwing a paper tile would be manageable for her. Other members of the hotel crew would have an easy time here as well, like Alistair and his teammates who don't have a say in the matter, Husk and Nifty. The Heaven Gang is a similar case. St. Peter welcomes guests with a smile and a song, so we're sure he'd do the same for new games to play, and his positive attitude would probably help Emily feel more at ease despite the absolute horrors going on around her. However, suffice it to say, there are a few less unfortunate competitors in this round. There are some characters who would be less than likely to get a team made in time, and the first to come to mind in that regard is Mimsy.
Player eliminated.
Mimsy isn't particularly powerful, nor is she overly honest nor reliable. When even Alistair calls you out on being a manipulative snake, you know you aren't the kind of person most people want to team up with. Then there's Katie Killjoy, who I'm sure nobody wants to be tied to at the hip after what she did to poor Tom. We miss you, champ. As for the remaining teams, well, sadly, there is one team that we don't think would make it through this round. This is where we have to say goodbye to Sir Pentious.
Player eliminated.
Pentious knows what it's like to feel rejected and useless, and he knows even better what it's like to have friends who are willing to pull you out of that.
Just make it quick, I guess. Not that I deserve it.
It's for that reason that we refuse to believe that he would leave his egg boy Frank behind.
Player eliminated.
Oh, look! Frank is up there. We have names?
Who, let's be real, is the least ideal teammate since he is in fact a literal egg. Similarly, Angel Dust's growing sense of compassion would lead him to being determined to protect fat nuggets, a mission we're sure Cherry Bomb would be more than happy to help out with.
Players eliminated.
This ragtag team would put up a good fight, but since one of them is a non-anthropomorphic animal and another is Frank, I think they're the only team who doesn't have much of a shot at getting through this game in time. It's okay, Frank. You did your best.
20 players remain. Our next game is Mingle. Here are the rules. Players will stand on a rotating platform in the center of a large circular room. At any given moment, a number will be called out, at which point players have 30 seconds to get into groups of said number and secure a room for themselves. Any player who does not find a room with the correct number of players will be eliminated.
Composure, focus, and charisma will be helpful aspects in a mental sense, but players will also need to be both fast and strong to ensure they don't get separated from their groups. Maybe I'm thinking superficially here, but Lilith managed to hide away from her daughter, the literal princess of hell, for at least 7 years. If there's anyone with the connections to make sure she's never left without a room, it's her. Lute and Adam would also have strong chances here. They're both experienced with leading straight up genocidal attacks on the citizens of hell, so most people would be smart enough to steer clear of them. Lucifer is not most people, though, so he would definitely make sure his daughter would be safe from their rampage. He is hell's greatest dad, after all.
My daughter wants to see me. Take that, depression.
Nifty is just small enough to hitch a ride on her owner slash bestie Alistair, and since he does seem to genuinely like her to some degree, I'm sure he'd be fine with that. You know who wouldn't be fine? Vox.
Player eliminated.
The V's are popular media influencers in hell, which means they'd probably be sticking together for the camera's sake, but celebrities liking each other doesn't always bring those ratings. What if we split them up, like, say, having that random number be 2 at one point? Vox is 1000% the kind of guy who'd be strategizing how to best deal with his current predicament, only for Velvet and Valentino to immediately kick him to the curb and save their own butts. It's not that Vox wouldn't have turned on the other V's, they were just faster about it. I know what you're thinking, didn't Val owe him a favor for helping him out in the Honeycomb Challenge? Yeah, they didn't think Valentino was actually going to hold up his end of the bargain though, right? While not quite so callously, Husk would also likely suffer a similar fate.
Player eliminated.
While we've seen nothing but positive interactions between Nifty and Alistair, Husk is one of the few people who's seen Alistair go fully mask off for a moment. Being a former overlord with a penchant for gambling, Husk definitely has the potential to at least try to pull a fast one on the old radio demon, and even if he might not go through with it, Alistair would definitely prevent such a situation before it could happen.
Good talk, my good man. Always nice to catch up.
Zestial is the next to go.
Player eliminated.
He's lived longer than pretty much anyone else here and seems to be pretty content with just sipping tea and spending time with friends despite being a hugely feared overlord. We have a feeling that while Zestial absolutely could win in this round, he just doesn't really feel like it. He'd probably just casually give up his spot to save someone else like the absolute gentleman he is. Similarly enough, Sarah is a high-ranking angel in heaven, and on top of that, she's currently dealing with some guilt over allowing the Exorcist's genocide in hell. We could see her sacrificing herself to make sure Emily and St. Peter could move forward as a means of redeeming herself and regaining their trust. Finally, we sadly have to say farewell to Razzle and Dazzle here.
Players eliminated.
Like Fat Nuggets and Kiki, these two are more or less regular pets with animal intelligence. They're strong and fast, not to mention able to fly, but they'd have a harder time grasping the rules of the game, which would not be a good thing considering the short time limit of each round. Unlike Kiki, they aren't quite tiny enough to stay attached to Charlie the entire time, and even if they were, they'd have to split up eventually. With that, we've just about reached the halfway point, which means it's time to recap the surviving contestants. Charlie, Vaggie, Alistair, Nifty, Adam, Loot, Carmilla, Valentino, Velvet, Lucifer, Lilith, Emily, St. Peter, Kiki.
14 players remain. Congratulations to everyone who made it this far. Now it's time for everyone to get some rest. Lights out.
They will not, in fact, be getting some rest. In this season, players are able to vote on whether or not they want to continue the games after each round, wearing a patch that confirms which side each of them is on. Tensions are high, alliances are straining, and people are this close to snapping, so it's time for a good old-fashioned brawl. Since this is an unofficial bonus round, it's also going to be the one time where powers and the like are allowed, which means some of you guys might want to hide. As her name implies, Kiki can just turn into a key. Charlie could then put Kiki in her pocket, take comfort in the fact that most intelligent people wouldn't want to screw around with supernatural royalty, and move along. Given her small stature and non-violent nature, Emily would prefer to hide from the horror rather than partake in it. We're sure she would usually refuse to participate in such a violent game at all, but not wanting to let Sarah's sacrifice be in vain, she'd relent here and just focus on survival, along with St. Peter. Nifty would be effective as both an attacker and as a hider, and with Alistair's help, she'd pass this round easily. But as you might expect, this is where things start to get intense. Carmilla is one of the strongest fighters left in the game, having even won our previous Hazbin Hotel Squid Game video, and that's exactly why she'd be a target here. We could definitely see Adam and Luke ganging up on her to take her out as a major threat so they wouldn't have to deal with her later. After Carmilla goes her student, Vaggie.
Player eliminated.
While Charlie and Kiki are probably safe, Vaggie wouldn't stop until that probably became a definitely. Given her bad blood with Adam and Luke and her determination to protect her partner at any cost, it's safe to say that this is where Vaggie goes out. For love, love, think of who you care about. Something, something, something out. Finally, Velvet and Valentino were shady enough to throw their buddy in the proverbial trash can, which begs the question both of them are undeniably thinking. That V wouldn't do that to me, right? I could absolutely see these guys tear each other apart for no reason other than the sheer fact that they think the other person would do it to them.
Good morning, players. 10 players remain. It's time for the next game, Marbles. You will play the game of your choice with your partner. The player to take all 10 marbles wins. The loser will be eliminated.
Whether it's gaming skill or good old-fashioned psychological manipulation, this is a game that requires its players to be absolutely ruthless, and with the high stakes involved, these guys are done holding back. Lucifer is a very creative guy. He's a man behind the famous backflipping rubber duck that breathes fire, after all. Anyone who could come up with an invention so bizarre yet so brilliant is sure to have a pretty brilliant game in mind to go up against their opponent with. Then there's Alistair, the demon Husk gambled his soul away to. Alistair might care about his new hotel buddies to some extent, but that doesn't mean he isn't ruthless. He he'd do whatever it takes to survive, even if it means tricking his admittedly few friends. Unfortunately, this is the point where, as formidable as many of the contestants are, we have to say goodbye to some of them. In a show of pure coincidence, Adam is losing in the same round he did last time.
Player eliminated.
There's no way this dude would turn down a challenge from Lucifer after all, and since Lucifer is both stronger and smarter than him,
And now I am going to you.
This is where Adam's reign of terror ends. Until we know more about Lilith, all we can assume for now is that she might end up playing with Lute, who seems to have some sort of leverage over her at the moment. Lilith is definitely smart and crafty, but we can't shake the feeling that she would be so focused on the big picture plan she has in mind that she'd end up screwing up the game she's playing right now. Props to her for making it way further than she did last time, but Charlie is the next one to go.
Player eliminated.
Our reasoning? Well, she's teamed up with Kiki, being her owner and all, and she, being Charlie, just doesn't have the heart to trick her cat into losing a life or death game of marbles. Granted, that's not the kind of dilemma anyone really expects to face in life, but it doesn't change Charlie's likely response of accidentally managing to lose a game of marbles to her own cat. Nifty is out next.
Player, you have been eliminated.
We're all gonna die!
Since she'd likely team up with Alistair and be more focused on enjoying her boss's orders than actually surviving. Finally, it's time to take a look at the remaining angels with moral compasses. Emily and St. Peter. Both of them are good-natured people who never resort to deception, so I like to think they would play a sincere guessing game of marbles. You know, God's will and all that. No disrespect to you, Peter, but I think Emily is pure-hearted even by heaven's standards. Truly a character with power of both God and anime on her side.
Only 5 players remain. It's time to move on to our penultimate game, Glass Stepping Stones. In this game, players will select numbers that determine the order in which they play.
The game is to cross a bridge made of 2 types of glass tiles. One will break, the other will not. Unfortunately for those who picked low numbers, they'll basically be cannon fodder. Since they all know the rules, let's review our final 5. Alistair, Lute, Lucifer, Emily, Kiki. So that begs the question, who's the most likely to go first? Well, knowing the danger, i.e. certain death, that going first yields, it's safe to say that some of the contestants are going to be hesitant. Kiki is neither anthropomorphic nor possessing of human intelligence, so she's probably getting last pick this time around.
Player eliminated.
While she's the easiest loss to count in this round, we do want to commend her for inexplicably making it so far. Next up is Lute, who is currently down to a whopping 0 allies and would probably pick a low number out of certainty that they'd switch the games up to try to kill her. And as much as it absolutely pains me to say, Emily is neither aggressive enough to rush for one of the highest numbers, nor paranoid enough to pick one of the lowest. She'd probably choose right in the middle, and given how these games go, that would mean she'd be going no further than the bronze.
Player, you have been eliminated. With that, we've reached our final 2. Congratulations to Lucifer and Alastair. It's now time for the final round. Prepare for Squid Game.
Rules. In this game, 2 teams, or more often 2 opponents, must go up against one another, with one acting as a defender and the other as an attacker, with the attacker doing everything they can to reach the top of the court, or the squid's head, and touch it with their foot, with the defender doing whatever they can to stop them. Or at least that's how Squid Game is traditionally played. Here, though, it's more of a battle to the death type of deal. In this round, nothing is held back. Anything goes, and it's time to lay this age-old rivalry to rest. Now, if you watched our Weak to Powerful ranking, you might have an idea of where this is going, but bear in mind that magic is forbidden in this round, which means that while Lucifer would absolutely smoke Alistair in a normal 1v1, they're both dealing with some limitations here. Even with that considered, though, Lucifer still seems like a pretty clear winner here. He has angel and demon powers on his side, and while he can't use them in this battle, all of his fighting experience is still very much a factor. While both he and Alistair were able to go toe-to-toe with Adam, Lucifer had a far better fight with him, considering Alistair nearly died, while Lucifer barely had a scratch on him after the fact. Still, when you think about it, we haven't seen Alistair's full potential in battle yet, and he did manage to strike down some powerful overlords practically overnight when he first appeared, but that was before he was on whoever's leash she's currently on. And while there has been a lot of speculation that the creditor in question is Lilith, we don't have absolute confirmation of that, so we have to assume that Alistair is still holding something back. He is just unpredictable enough to keep Lucifer on his toes, but Hell's greatest dad is a master of both offense and defense, not to mention the fact that his daughter was eliminated and he's probably just itching for someone to take his anger out on. Alistair is a tough nut to crack, but against a bloodlusted Lucifer, yeah, I mean, it's not even close.
So, with that, congratulations to Lucifer for winning the Squid Game.
Take that, depravity! soon.
It's a happy day in hell, at least if you're watching it on TV. After years of waiting, Hazbin Hotel has gone from an ambitious YouTube pilot to a full-fledged Amazon Prime series. Nice work, VivziePop. With a first season of 8 episodes and hopefully more to come, the show's universe has already been expanded exponentially. So let's talk about the colorful cast of characters that inhabit the underworld. Which of Hell's residents are the least fit for their environment?
Let the slaughter begin.
I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is Hazbin Hotel Season 1 characters, good to evil. Now let's start with our first category. If we were in charge, these characters would have a spot in heaven. These characters are the good, and we have to give the gold medal of good as a special treat to the pets of the Hazbin Hotel. Fat Nuggets, Kiki, Razzle, and Dazzle. Sure, they don't have a major role in the series by any means, that is unless you count Razzle and Dazzle helping Charlie and Vaggie in the final battle as their noble steeds. But while they aren't the most complex characters, they're the most pure and wholesome for sure. They're always there to comfort their owners. Whether it's Fat Nuggets concerned for Angel after a hard day, to Razzle and Dazzle providing tissues for Charlie during a good cry session. That sort of companionship means the world to a lot of people. So we'd say that these creatures are about as pure as you can get in hell. Next up, the silver medal of good has to go to our first resident of heaven, Emily. She's a high-ranking seraphim angel who resides in heaven, welcoming newcomers alongside St. Peter and Sarah.
I go by whatever. Welcome to heaven.
Emily is everything you would expect from an angel in heaven. Sweet, open-hearted, and willing to speak out against injustice. When Adam accidentally reveals his genocidal actions against the demons of hell, she's absolutely revolted, even further so by Sarah's approval, and shows major support for Charlie's plan to help redeem the sinners. Thankfully for her, she was in for a very welcome surprise in the grand finale, but more on that later. For now, we have to give the bronze medal of good to the main character herself, Charlie Morningstar. Really, everything we said about Charlie in our Good to Evil on the pilot episode still applies here. She's an incredibly compassionate ruler who's so determined to make the people around her happy that she struggles to take full advantage of her royal status.
The first step to becoming a better person is to admit when you are wrong.
Charlie works herself to the bone to help her hotel's residents redeem themselves and get a chance at heaven. Her mercy is definitely her best character trait. She's extremely forgiving, from accepting Vaggie despite finding out about her true identity, to giving Sir Pennius a shot at redemption and a new friend, and even to telling her dad to stop beating the absolute tar out of Adam. Though one could argue that's one of her less good moments, as the dude had it coming. If we had to say anything negative about Charlie, it would be that in her efforts to please the people around her, Charlie often makes things worse, like when she tried to convince Valentino to give Angel the day off, which only made Angel's day and workload significantly worse. Despite this, Charlie is always well-intentioned and works hard to help save her people from a terrible fate, though there was that one time she chased that YouTuber Verbalise. Oh wait, that wasn't canon. That was just the dark side of the internet. Never mind. Let's quickly mention St. Peter. He's the MC at the pearly gates who greets those who approach and lets them know whether or not their names are on the list. When he's given the okay by Sarah and Emily, he not only invites Charlie and Vaggie into heaven, but gives them a full-on musical number. Now that's going above and beyond, which I guess makes sense for heaven, of all places. Rounding out our top 5 is Sir Pennius. This goofball secondary antagonist from the pilot made his grand return and had quite the character arc, as you can probably tell from his very different placement.
I have to go home and study.
After being used as a mole by the V's and caught by Angel, Sir Pennius left his fate in the hands of the hotel. And thankfully, instead of death, Pennius was offered a second chance through one of the absolute sweetest musical numbers you'll ever see. Throughout the season, he slowly breaks his habits of building superweapons and plotting world domination to become a true friend to his buddies at the hotel, always being supportive and helpful wherever he can be. This can range from him tearing up at how sweet Charlie's reunion with her father was, to being generous enough to not only buy drinks for everyone at the club, but to have sex with everyone at the club. He did it to try to pick up Cherry, but it's still a valiant effort. What cements him having such a high position, of course, is his ultimate sacrifice in the final battle, using his death ray / blimp thing to try and hit Adam with all he's got, regardless of the danger. It was devastating when he got vaporized. Then he popped up in heaven, proving that Charlie's hotel does work, and that he absolutely nailed his redemption arc. Moving on to Charlie's girlfriend, Vaggie. Among other bits of lore, Season 1 made sure that there was zero doubts about these two and their relationship status. And Vaggy's loyalty to Charlie and her plan is definitely her best character trait. She is a ride or die in every sense, always being supportive of Charlie's hotel, and doing what she can to help, even when she thinks her plans are frankly insane. That said, a major character twist for Vaggy loses her a few points. Said twist being that she was once an extermination angel, who was cast out for sparing a demon child and rescued by Charlie. But it makes for an interesting start to their relationship. She was more of a soldier than anything, and she ultimately got kicked out of heaven for sparing a child, which, I mean, it's not a very heavenly decision, guys. And at the end of the day, Vaggy's heroic deeds far outweigh her evil ones, which earns her a respectable spot in the good section. And speaking of which, we've talked about a regular angel and a fallen angel. Now it's time to talk about a guy named Angel. Introduced as a sleazy, duply armed porn star who gets his thrills from every sin in the book, Angel has already shown fantastic progress in a short time at the Hazbin Hotel. In this season, he slowly learns to come out of his shell and be more open about who he is and who he wants to be, instead of hiding behind his celebrity facade.
This body is flawless. Everyone wants some of me.
The fruits of this are seen in his more selfless attitude towards the people around him, specifically in episode 6, Welcome to Heaven, where we see him acting as an impromptu babysitter for Nifty. He's also proven to be a loyal friend, always willing to stick up for his buddies when push comes to shove. Most notably, he stood up to his boss, Valentino, before a misguided Nifty almost got herself into a very unpleasant job. Sure, he's still got some work to do, but Angel is already making some incredible progress, and will probably continue to evolve. But we can't ignore that a lot of his progress comes from his newfound connection with the hotel bartender, Husk. Although he starts the season as stoic and admittedly insensitive as always, Husk proves to be a great asset to the team. He might cause some messes, but he's always there to clean them up, most notably when he causes Angel to storm off from the hotel. He rescues him from being roofied at a club and finds common ground with him due to both of them being owned by a total psychopath. Husk isn't the most outwardly sensitive guy around. I mean, his whole musical number with Angel was about how they're both losers, but if someone ever needs a listening ear or a good drink, they can count on him when really needed. Oh, and he also helped defend the hotel from genocidal angels, so that's worth some brownie points. Now we get to one of the most powerful overlords in hell, Carmilla. She's a weapons dealer who holds the secret to killing violent angels. That secret happens to be their own weapons, and we're with Vaggy there. How did they not think of that sooner? And Carmilla happens to be so confident in this quote secret because she herself has killed an angel, in self-defense of course. Her willingness to protect her people by any means necessary says a lot about her character. That said, she can suffer from tunnel vision, often caring more about her own circle than hell as a whole. She did ultimately teach Vaggy how to fight angels though.
Did you know angels could be harmed?
And provided the hotel with plenty of weapons to fight them. So while she's not exactly a saint, she's definitely more good than most overlords by the end of the day. Just like their beloved master, we're giving the Egg Boys a spot in the good category this time around. From Frank to the other guy to the one on the left, he's my favorite. The Egg Boys are simple creatures. They're more than happy to follow the lead of anyone, encouraging and praising them all the way. Not to mention that, much like the aforementioned pets, they offer Serpentius comfort. We rank them a bit lower because the Egg Boys are willing to pretty much just do whatever.
What's that, boss? Want me to rough him up for you?
They certainly aren't malicious, and they've done a lot more good than bad this season, but we can't fully ignore the fact that they're at least willing to serve evil, if the opportunity presents it. But given how quickly they told Serpentius about Alistair's secret,
and I was not supposed to talk about it.
They won't do it super competently, which is what earns them the Darwin Medal. Now, rounding out our good section, we have Lucifer Morningstar. He's easily the most shocking in terms of where he ended up on our list. Charlie's phone call with her mom's voicemail and the pilot sort of gave off the vibe that Lucifer was a distant parent by choice. But boy, did we miss the mark here. Lucifer's distance from his daughter was more of a result of his split with Lilith, which drove him into a deep depression where he found it difficult to do anything but create brilliant rubber duckies. He may not have been the most present in Charlie's life, but for a guy named Lucifer who resides in hell, he's sure a heck of a lot nicer than you would expect. From the get-go, Lucifer is doing his best to make up for lost time with Charlie, offering her sincere advice and support despite his own reservations about the hotel idea. He saves her life from Adam in the grand finale and has really proven himself to be genuine in supporting Charlie, so hopefully we'll be seeing much more of this overlord in the future.
Take your little friends and go home!
take that, depression. You can't keep this guy out of the good tier. Now we have to move into our rankings equivalent of purgatory, so to speak. These characters fall in the gray area. First up, we have Tom Trench. He's one of the two co-anchors of 666 News alongside Katie Killjoy. We honestly don't even think he said a full sentence in the season. He was technically there though. We guess he didn't really do anything wrong. Like Katie said, nobody really cares who he is, but maybe we'll see more from him next season. Zestial, like Lucifer, ranks kind of shockingly high on our list given his role. He's another powerful overlord who's so terrifying that the other demons shudder or incinerate themselves at the mere sight of him. Even Alistair is kind of uneasy upon seeing him, which should give a good indication of what kind of ruler he is.
It has been an age since thou hast graced us with thy presence.
That said, surprisingly, Zestial doesn't seem to be anywhere near a villain. He's calm, polite, and actually pretty sympathetic. When he senses that his old friend Carmilla's in trouble, he offers her a listening ear with no strings attached. Though we are still going to rank him in the gray area given how terrified everyone is of him, and how little we know about why that is. Landing significantly lower this time around is the hotel housekeeper, Nifty. Nifty is, what is Nifty? I guess imagine Gur from Invader Zim, but with a more stabby side to her character.
Hey, not him!
Nifty might seem cutesy and friendly at first glance, but she's had more than her fair share of questionable traits, like her infatuation with bad boys and, like we mentioned earlier, her tendency to stab things. But Nifty is still generally friendly with the other hotel staff members. She's less evil and more like a toddler who's on cocaine. It's a weird analogy, but it's all I got. Next we have the Cannibal Town overlord Rosie. Despite that admittedly intimidating title, worry not, Rose is actually quite friendly and helpful. Sure, she is a cannibal, but if you can get past that detail, you've got someone who was willing to help Charlie recruit her entire town to help defend the hotel against the extermination, not to mention offering her free relationship advice.
Perhaps this girl was trying to redeem herself too.
We're not going to act like she's a saint, but as far as demons go, Rosie is a decent, surprisingly compassionate person, just, you know, also a cannibal. So obviously we have to give her the gluttony sinner medal, because there's not much of a more sinful way to eat. Landing significantly lower than her young comrade is Sarah. Sarah is the mighty seraphim angel who helps to rule over heaven. She's willing to hear Charlie out about her hotel and is generally shown to be a decent ruler to her people. That said, she is also the one who approved of Adam's plan of genocide against the demons in hell.
Keeping heaven safe was my only reason for allowing it.
While you could argue she should get some leeway for the fact that she insisted on taking the moral burden of this decision for her people, she still approved of a genocide and lied to her people about it. Pretty sleazy, but at the end of the season, hopefully the redeemed sinner right in front of her face changes her tune. Side note, isn't it weird how much most of these angels hate the idea of redemption? Next up, we have quite the explosive entry, lovable arsonist Cherry Bomb. A loyal friend to Angel, Cherry is always itching for action, whether it's fighting, drugs, sex, or some good old-fashioned pyrotechnics. There's never a dull moment. While Cherry is not one to talk about your feelings or the meaning of life with,
Come on! What you really need is a recharge!
she's definitely someone you can count on when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Or you can just hand her a stack of cash and she's reliable. Alistair's old pal Mimsy is the last character in our gray area. She's one of the less major characters, only appearing in a single episode, but she's definitely made a mark. Note, the mark was not good. Mimsy visited the hotel mid-musical number to ask for Alistair's help with some trouble, as she apparently does often.
Thanks for helping little old me out of a tough spot.
Although Alistair doesn't mind helping her in a general sense, she manages to overstep his boundaries by bringing a group of dangerous loan sharks to the hotel, placing it and everyone there in danger. Even Alistair was annoyed with her over this, and we can't blame him. We wouldn't call Mimsy evil, but only coming by when she needs to be saved from the ludicrous amounts of trouble she gets herself into is pretty scummy. We know they're bad guys, but you killed the man's girlfriend. That said, it's not quite scummy enough to lock her into our final category. These characters have earned a stay in hell. They are the bad and the evil. Like the gray area, we're kicking this section off with a news anchor, Katie Killjoy. Like Tom, she really doesn't have all that much screen time, but she has enough to remind us that she's just as much of a jerk as always.
Look, my time is money, so I'll keep this short.
We're not sure we'd call her a full-on villain. Again, she's barely in the season, but her mistreatment of Tom for seemingly no reason is enough to conclude that, whether or not she's truly evil, she's definitely just mean. Landing just outside of our top 5 is the first of the V's, Velvet. Velvet is a celebrity social media influencer and fashionista. True to the stereotype, she's mean, snarky, and verbally abuses her employees on a regular basis. The furthest thing from pleasant to be around. She's also quite outspoken about her lack lack of respect for the Overlord's unwillingness to attack Heaven, ignoring the clear risks of going in without a plan.
The game has changed. We can take the fight to them.
While you could argue that, in a way, Velvet is trying to push the Overlords to use their authority to stick up for Hell, she's still a reckless person who sees anything less than violent assertion as a lack of backbone. We'd say she deserves a Pride Sinner medal for her own insistence that it's her way or the highway. We only rank her this high because despite her lack of any fully redeeming traits, the final 5 are definitely more evil, in terms of their deeds if nothing else. And the bottom 5 kicks off with the last of the Hazbin Hotel staff, the radio demon, Alistair. While he initially hopped on board with Charlie's hotel for the fun of watching her fail, Alistair seems to have grown some kind of fondness for her over the course of the season. He helps defend the hotel from harm on numerous occasions, most notably fighting off Adam and nearly dying in the process. He even uses his connections with other overlords, like Rosie, to help Charlie run her hotel and keep it out of danger.
Considered an investment in ongoing entertainment for myself.
But while all of these are good traits, we still can't confidently place Alistair any higher because he's just so mysterious. There's no doubt that he's a bad guy. He took down other overlords and broadcasted their tortured screams for his own sick pleasure. And as we see from his treatment of Husk, he's far from a caring host to the souls and his ownership. At least, not when they question him. Our only uncertainty about him is whether or not he's pure evil, or just a more moderate case of evil. Right outside our podium, we have the ruthless extermination angel Loot. As happy as Heaven may seem, in this universe there are some less than savory characters running the place. Sarah may have okayed Adam's plan of genocide, but she at least did it for the sake of what she saw as protecting her people. Loot, on the other hand, is totally ruthless in her drive to exterminate the demons of hell, and is closed off to the idea of them having any chance at redemption, which is still super weird. On top of that, she's also extremely brutal. She has a habit of threatening her opponents with such detailed violence that even Adam, who, spoiler alert, is way worse than her, often has to tell her to chill the hell out.
You just chill, Loot.
Her grudge against Vaggie also earns her a Wrath Sinner medal. As for her good traits, she does seem to be genuinely heartbroken at Adam's death, showing that she does have something she's genuinely fighting for, which is really grasping at straws, but honestly, any redeeming qualities at all can make her stand out from the podium. The Bronze Medal of Evil goes to the next of the V's, Vox. Not to be confused with the main villain of the PS2 game Ratchet Deadlocked, but props to you if you get that reference. Vox is a demon who's got a serious rivalry with Alistair. Actually, rivalry might be the wrong word. It's more like seething hatred. Vox considers Alistair a mortal enemy, wanting to keep Pentagram City's media under his own control via controlling the TV and news, along with some classic hypnosis. He's level-headed enough to keep the other V's in check during their more impulsive moments, like stopping his on and off again lover Val from attacking the Hazbin Hotel on a whim. Vox manages to be even worse than Alistair, due to his own seething rage at the latter being good at anything. Seems like as good a reason as any to give out the Envy Sinner medal. He's also quite the sadist, watching the Hazbin Hotel staff fight against Heaven, and literally getting a hard-on by the possibility of them dying. The Silver Medal of Evil has to go to the first man on Earth, Adam. If you grew up going to Sunday school, you might remember Adam as the first human man who ate an apple that was originally offered up by the serpent, subsequently getting cast out of the garden for disobeying God's literal one command. The details of the story are a little different in Hazbin, but all you need to know today is that Adam is upgraded from, quote, guy who ate an apple he wasn't supposed to a high-ranking angel who is basically what would happen if you gave a stereotypical frat bro angelic powers.
I'm sure your relationship will be fine. See you in court.
Adam is the one who kickstarted the genocides in hell, taking great pleasure in exterminating demons indiscriminately. If that's not bad enough, and it definitely should be, Adam tends to throw temper tantrums that cause him to move exterminations up if anyone questions him. Charlie questioning him at all is enough to make him cut the waiting time for the next extermination in half. Adam isn't just the jerk he seems to be at the beginning. He's a jerk with no morality and the powers to kill as he sees fit, vaporizing Sir Pennius' ship alongside him and his egg boys in a single hit. For that alone, we wish we could give him the Gold Medal of Evil, but there's one character we honestly feel deserves it more. If you've been keeping count, you already know that the Gold Medal of Evil belongs to Susan.
Bring Rosie back!
Susan?
Susan.
Okay, no it doesn't. We just kinda wish it did though. In all seriousness, the gold medal of evil has to go to Valentino. Adam was a total POS, but if nothing else, he had something adjacent to a reason for doing what he did, keeping hell from getting too big for its britches, so to speak. That doesn't make him any less evil by any means, but he at least had a reason other than pure hedonism. Valentino, on the other hand, is the kind of person hell was really meant for. He may not be causing genocides, but he's an abusive psychopath who thrives on enslaving vulnerable people to act in his porn videos. He frequently assaults his employees, particularly Angel, and may both heaven and hell forbid if you piss him off outside of work.
I own you. Or have you forgotten that?
Because he'll make you pay for it tenfold the next day at work. Valentino deserves the Lust Medal for the nature of his work, and we'll also give him the Greed Medal for his determination to recruit all the poor sinners he can for it. Valentino is a monster in every sense of the word. He doesn't care about anyone but himself, and sees others as objects at best and targets for his own sick pleasures at worst. He's a scumbag in every sense of the word, and we hope that this moth is kept as far from the light as possible. Okay, we know what you're thinking. These guys are already in literal hell, right? They've already been sentenced. Can we really call ourselves a higher authority than the afterlife itself? Well, when you think about it, is anyone sentencing them for the things they do in hell? I know, what would you do without us? I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and it's time to see how the absolutely wild cast of Hazbin Hotel would be sentenced if hell had some kind of demonic judiciary system. Today, we're sentencing Hazbin Hotel characters for their crimes. Kicking off the list of criminals, we have one of the main characters in the series, the scandalous acting sensation Angel Dust. Acting as simultaneous comic relief and an emotional foil to Charlie, Angel has quite the rap sheet despite his usually bubbly persona. Given his long friendship with Cherry Bomb, we have a good idea of what Angel's been chalking up on that old criminal record of his.
Not big on politics.
Destruction of property and assault with a deadly weapon are among his bread and butter, though he's usually either an accomplice to these alongside Cherry, or helping her out of a jam. As for Angel's own rap sheet, there's illegal substance use. By his own admission, Angel uses drugs to get absolutely wasted night by night, in an effort to numb the pain caused by his boss's horrible abuse. But given just how rough the crowds are in hell though, there are much worse things to worry about than a guy who likes crack and occasionally shooting things. Angel isn't genuinely out to hurt anyone, and on top of that, he's already shown sincere capacity for rehabilitation in Charlie's hotel. We're sure she and her friends would have no issue testifying on his behalf, and honestly, we just feel awful for this poor guy. And while he may not need punishment, he definitely needs help. So Angel's sentence is 1 year of mandatory addictions counseling, and a restraining order against Valentino. And Fat Nuggets is going to be officially recognized as an emotional support animal. But let's move on to our first real bad guy. Let's talk about Valentino, who we really can't wait to sentence to what he deserves. His crimes would make a lot of Hell's residents shudder. Abuse of all types, from SA to financial abuse and domestic abuse. Really throw just about any adjective before the word abuse and it will probably fit this guy. And if you thought that was the full extent of his evil, think again. He's also guilty of murder, torture, and mutilation.
Which of these makes me look sexier?
None of which sure helped by his entitlement and short temper. On the tippy top of his crime sundae, we have his ownership of Angel's soul, which leads to the very unique charge of slavery. On top of being an abhorrent creature in every conceivable way, Valentino has shown zero redeeming qualities. Now, if this were a regular sentencing video, we'd say that he would get the death penalty, no doubt. But hell is a place for darkly fitting punishments. So his sentence is an eternity of acting out all of the horrible scenarios that he forced poor Angel into, and all the profits will go to his many victims. A hellish justice indeed. With that said, we really want to lighten the mood after that. So let's talk about the comic relief cleaner, Nifty.
I like being forced.
Keep that to yourself, Liv.
She's the Hazbin Hotel's housekeeper, always there to make the audience laugh and the people around her shudder in fear from her erratic behavior. Her crime is mainly assault with a deadly weapon, given just how much she loves stabbing things, mostly people.
I like that part.
She's pretty much never out to hurt anyone, unless she's asked to, of course. That in mind, we don't feel like she's really a danger to anyone, though she is owned by Alistair, so who knows what she could potentially get up to. Given her unstable personality, all Nifty needs is a Hell government-appointed caregiver. Notice how whenever Angel is around, he's able to rein her in quite a bit, even saving her from signing her soul to Valentino at one point. At other times, he can be seen safely removing a knife from her hands. As long as she's kept in check, Nifty will be a reliable helper until you need her to be something else.
I'm ready to punish some bad boys.
So maybe Angel's true calling was being a babysitter all along. Sticking in the hotel for a bit more, let's move on to Alistair's other enslaved soul, Husk.
The bartender.
And really, despite his past as a gambling-addicted overlord, we really can't charge Husk with all too much this season in particular. All of his actions therein are dictated by Alistair, who owns his soul due to his gambling problem. Corruption during his former time as an overlord is really the most we could count against him, and even that's pretty much par for the course.
Not a very convincing interrogation scene.
While we don't have anything in particular to punish Husk for, at least nothing that he's not paying for already, his sentence for today is joining Angel in addictions counseling. That way neither of them will have to go at it alone, and hopefully they won't make the same mistake of giving their souls away again. Busting down the walls to the next entry, without paying for it I might add, is Cherry Bomb. Angel's ride or die and literal partner in crime, Cherry is a self-admitted arsonist who loves all kinds of violence and destruction. Assault with deadly weapons and destruction of property seem to be her personal favorite vices.
So think you're gonna get in a lot of trouble for this?
Violent tendencies aside, Cherry is far from a villain.
Thanks?
She's never really out to hurt anyone who's not already trying to hurt someone else, like Sir Pentious in the pilot, or the Extermination Angels in the season finale. We still shouldn't ignore her explosive personality, pun intended, given all the destruction she loves to cause. So Cherry's sentence is paying for the repair of property she's destroyed, like Cherry's wall and 6 months of probation. Just because everything's on fire already doesn't mean you have to make it worse, Cherry.
Worse or better?
But where would Cherry Bomb be without her lovable former arch nemesis, Sir Pentious?
Oh, harder, Daddy. Son?
In the pilot, Sir Pentious got off to an explosive start in terms of crimes. He mistreated his egg boys, who seemed to be more like slaves than employees, and tried to take over Hell as an overlord with weapons of his own design.
No other demon can compare to the likes of I.
This would earn him a pretty rough punishment if it weren't for the fact that this entire season serves as his redemption arc. Sir Pentious manages to right every wrong he's committed in the course of just 8 episodes.
Special little man.
From apologizing to the hotel for attempting to spy on them, to being willing to give up his weapon building and even his egg boys for the sake of reforming. He's a truly changed man by the end. As for the egg boys, they're happy to return to Pentious and even act more like friends than just servants, due to his newly kind treatment of them. That's not even to mention that Pentious literally made it into heaven after sacrificing himself in the fight against Adam. We have zero objections to that decision, so we're gonna not only pardon Sir Pentious, but we're gonna give him a new job designing weapons that specifically fight the forces of evil. I think I speak for every fan of the series when I say we're all very proud of you, Sir Pentious. Now let's go ahead and round out the hotel staff with the radio demon Alistair. Vox may wish that Alistair had stayed gone, but this chaotic overlord is one of our favorites in the ensemble cast.
Maybe.
That said, as lovable as this sadistic overlord is, we can't deny that he still very much possesses the properties of both sadistic and overlord. Alistair has a penchant for torturing and killing others, particularly overlords,
You'll have to try harder than that next time, old pal.
with the intent to topple their empires and take over the world of hell. He also broadcasted their screams all across hell, earning him a charge of snuff filming on top of it all. Oh, and let's not forget some good old-fashioned demon-style slavery. Alistair is a legitimate danger to pretty much everyone around him, given how unpredictable and calculating he is. He has shown some care for Charlie, though, and for helping her build up her hotel. So our sentence for him is renting his soul to Lucifer for 10 years. This way we have a guarantee that Alistair won't try anything funny with Charlie or the hotel.
Radio's not dead, but it is ending this broadcast.
And it should keep him on enough of a leash to not keep murdering the locals and broadcasting their torment. Oh, and also we're gonna have him forgive Husk's debt. Not Nifty's though. It's not that she's worse, it's just that she doesn't seem to mind, and seems like the type who really needs the extra structure. Up on the docket next is Rosie. Rosie is the leader of Cannibal Town. As you might imagine, her main crime is cannibalism. But let's go a bit deeper. In her introduction scene in episode 7, there seems to be an implication that she takes requests for who her colony wants to use as food.
Well, who hasn't thought about eating their first husband? I certainly would have if he didn't taste so bad.
With that, we could probably tack on a charge of organized crime, and definitely a charge of murder. But despite her unsettling line of work and equally unsettling eating habits, if you take everything else out of the equation, she's actually a decently nice, organized person. She leads her people responsibly, helping Charlie to rally them and gain their trust, so they can help her fight the angels that plan on attacking the hotel. So our sentence for Rosie is a new system of processed imitation human/demon/angel food. You know how you see imitation crab meat in stores? Or how every type of meat has a vegan alternative? We're sure there's some chefs in the afterlife that could help her find a solution that isn't, you know, eating people. We've still got 2 of the 3 V's to sentence, and while we've already sentenced the worst of them, Velvet still has some crimes to pay for herself. In the workplace, Velvet tends to use verbal abuse to get her way with her employees. We'd say that she treats them like dogs, but even most of Hell's citizens seem to know how to treat a pet.
No. Unacceptable. You're fired. What is this?
Her worst crime, however, takes place in her admittedly catchy musical number at the Overlord's meeting. She tries pressuring Carmilla to attack Heaven, which not only constitutes abuse of power, but also an attempt to start war. Now, in her limited defense, Heaven had been performing routine genocides for a while, so her instigation wasn't totally unreasonable. But at the end of the day, Velvet seems more like the type to shoot first and ask questions later, so to speak. So we sentence Velvet to a removal of authority, meaning no more Overlord status for you and the V's. And we'll also be taking away her social media until she can use it for something other than cyberbullying and borderline brainwashing. Speaking of brainwashing, next is the last of the V's and the last Overlord for today, Vox. Best known for his never-ending feud with Alistair, this TV demon uses his technological and business savviness to keep the citizens of Pentagram City squarely under his control. His most notorious crimes are consistent of the dynamic duo of mass brainwashing and psychological manipulation. We can also tack on some classic murder charges, since he offered to bring the lowest earners in for Valentino to shoot and let off some stress. Oh, and of course, that also constitutes an abuse of power. Last but not least, we're not forgetting about him giving Sir Pentious some advice in line with Low-Tier God's iconic philosophical speech. Since we've already taken the other V's down from their pedestals, it's only reasonable that we sentence Vox to a total revoking of his Overlord status and redistribution of his various influences, since he's pretty much blatantly brainwashing people.
Trust us with your safety.
Maybe give him some kind of signal blocker so he can't cause mass brainwashing or blackouts at will. We've nearly reached the end of our long list of criminals for the day, and for the final 3, we're going to the other side of the afterlife. Starting things off with Sarah, who works alongside Emily as a Seraphim Angel. That said, she is much less open to the idea of demons redeeming themselves. to the point where she approved of Adam and Lute's extermination plan. Putting this fully into context, what we have here is a high-ranking angel approving 2 other high-ranking angels, performing a series of genocides. Sanctioning war crimes is enough already, but she also lied to her people about it, which we're gonna say constitutes some kind of treason.
It is my position as the head seraphim to protect our people at all costs.
Given her position, it's unlikely Sarah will be facing consequences for her actions. But as for us, we sentence Sarah to being placed under Emily's authority. It's clear that she's the more compassionate and honest of the two, and while Sarah will be great in a position of giving advice, it's clear that her time in heaven has somehow corroded her morals. But she's still pretty darn tame compared to our final 2 characters. So let's sentence the season's main villains, Adam and Lute. These two are something else. They completely abuse their power by using the overpopulation in hell as the perfect reason to start a systemic series of exterminations, aka these two are both proponents of genocide. Tack onto that mass murder, terrorism, and war crimes, and you've got enough of a rap sheet to conclude that these two should not be in heaven.
Are we clear?
Yeah, got it.
So with that said, this is actually our easiest sentence yet. Adam and Lute will be sentenced to be relocated to hell. And not just anywhere in hell. You've earned an all-expense-paid trip to the Hazbin Hotel. They're not just gonna be punished, no. They're gonna have to have a redemption arc from the very people they wanted to destroy. But cheer up guys, it worked for Serpentius, right? Who said hell had to be all that bad? What do you mean that's the whole concept of hell? Not for those invested in the Hazbin Hotel, where sinners can find redemption, friendship, and maybe even more. And that's certainly a good thing because, well, the average hell-centered relationship is far from pretty. This is Hazbin Hotel relationships, healthy to toxic. Let's waste no time. These are the ride-or-die relationships that give hell a more wholesome paint job. These are the healthy relationships. Starting out with the most adorable relationship in the series, Fat Nuggets and Angel Dust. Not only does their relationship sound incredibly confusing to anyone who hasn't watched the show, but it shows us that no matter how hard life gets, there's always going to be someone to count on. In this case, that someone just happens to be the most adorable little demon pig you've ever seen. Angel does not have a happy life, to say the least. He's addicted to thrills, drugs, sex, and the poison. But through good times and bad times, he's always got Fat Nuggets to cheer him up. And you can tell the poor guy needs it sometimes. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're just putting them at the top because you're biased due to how cute Fat Nuggets is. And to that I say, good observation. The silver medal of healthiness, likewise, goes to Charlie and her pets, Razzle, Dazzle, and Kiki. Really, all we said about Fat Nuggets and Angel, we can say about these guys. In fact, it's even more on the nose here. Razzle and Dazzle straight up bring Charlie tissues when she's crying and act as her and Vaggy's loyal steeds in the final battle. But it goes without saying that pets are going to be among the healthiest relationships that these guys have. So let's get to the complicated ones. We'll start with a relationship we don't know much about yet, that of Zestial and Carmilla. Very little is known about Zestial as a character so far, and the same can be said for the nature of his relationship with Carmilla. That said, what we do know is that they're, at the very least, a pair of very close friends. Zestial offers Carmilla his ear to vent after the tough meeting with the other overlords, and encourages her to share the worries of her troubled soul with him. Okay, worded like that, there's gotta be some romance brewing, right? In any case, these two are clearly close and comfortable around each other. Carmilla's daughters seem to be comfortable with Zestial, so they've certainly spent some time together, especially given that nearly everyone else in hell is absolutely mortified of the guy. And when Carmilla sings about her determination to protect, she doesn't just look at them, but also at Zestial. Whatever the nature of their bond, these two clearly care about each other a lot, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing more of that wholesomeness next season. Next up, we have the most fleshed out relationship in the series so far, the romance between Charlie and Vaggy. While we have to take some points away from this relationship for the fact that Vaggy was lying to Charlie about her true identity as an angel for years, that's about the only mark against these two that makes them anything less than a model healthy relationship. Like Rosie expressed, actions are more important than words, and the fact is that Vaggy is aggressively supportive of Charlie, wanting to protect and support her and the hotel in any way she can. Charlie is also a thoughtful partner, being quick to forgive Vaggy for concealing her identity.
They look nice. Come on, Let's go home.
And even giving her a keychain she got as a souvenir from Cannibal Town. While neither of them are without flaws, it's clear that they'll always cherish and support each other. And as long as they've got each other, they'll never be fighting their battles alone. As for Charlie's healthiest friendship, that honor goes to the friendship between Charlie and Sir Pentious. Given that Charlie is the one who reached out to Sir Pentious upon realizing that he wanted to change his ways, this one was pretty much guaranteed a spot in the healthy category. That spot is only made more certain by the friendship they forge over the course of the season.
At this rate, you'll be redeemed in no time.
These two definitely care about each other. You can see them interacting all the time, and it always seems to be in a positive light. From Pentious tearing up at her heartfelt musical number with Lucifer, to Charlie putting up a portrait dedicated to his memory in the hotel, these two managed to make a bond that both of them will remember for eternity. Because our boy made it to heaven. At the end of the day, Charlie's friendship literally changed the course of Sir Pentious's afterlife, and that's worth a lot. Another newly blossomed friendship that many would like for to become more is that of Angel and Husk. Admittedly, things don't start smoothly between these two.
Call me Whiskers again and I'll jam that bottle down your throat.
Husker is a bit insensitive in his methods of calling out Angel's confident facade, and while he is right, this really drives a wedge between the two. We can't ignore Angel's misdeeds in the relationship though, most notably hitting on Husk repeatedly despite his clear discomfort. But thankfully, these two have something very important in common. They're both losers, baby. And with just one iconic musical number, these two went from borderline enemies to instant best friends. Angel and Husk are helping each other learn to fix their greatest flaws, more specifically Angel's self-loathing and denial and Husk's general stoicism. By the end of the season, you can tell there's plenty of change going on thanks to their newfound friendship, and it would be criminal not to mention the friendship between Charlie and Angel. Now, Angel's character development didn't start as quickly as Sir Pentious's, which is why this friendship is a bit lower. That said, there's a very clear care and respect between the two. Charlie goes out of her way to use her hell-given authority to try, emphasis on try, to get Angel some time off of work. Unfortunately, this only makes things worse, but props for effort. Charlie is quick to apologize, and Angel is quick to forgive her by the end of the day. He's gone from a freeloader who's just there for the free room, to a guy who's willing to stick around even when genocidal angels come a-knockin'. Now we return to the best character in the show. It's time to talk about the relationship between Sir Pentious and the Egg Boys. Thankfully, Pentious's redemption arc made him much kinder to his little egg buddies. He still barks orders at them, sure.
Now go clean my quarters this instant!
But it's more of a King Dedede and the Waddle-Dees dynamic now. They may have a duty to clean Pentious's room and whatever else he didn't feel like doing, but after that they're on bedtime snuggle duty. And the Egg Boys will follow into battle no matter what, even if it means sacrificing themselves. God rest their souls. May they comprise the most extraordinary omelets in heaven. For the last of Sir Pentious's major relationships, we have Sir Pentious and Cherry Bomb's prematurely ended romance. Or it could have been a romance anyway.
Cherry Bomb, I love you!
It's clear that Pentious genuinely likes Cherry Bomb, both as an adversary and as a potential partner to, quote, do a sex with. Whether Cherry reciprocates these feelings fully is anyone's guess, but given how she enjoyed that pre-sacrifice kiss, it's a fair chance that the answer would have been a resounding yes.
That was kind of hot.
In any case, these two genuinely like having each other around. Now, normally, an adult film star would not be a great choice for a babysitter, but the relationship between Angel and Nifty defies that logic. If there's anything that proves how far Angel has come, it's his care for Nifty. She's not exactly super close with anyone in particular at the hotel, but Angel is definitely the one who tries hardest to rein her in. When the gang goes to a club to have a fun time, he keeps an eye on the ever-curious housekeeper, even going as far as to risk his neck standing up to Valentino in order to keep Nifty from falling into his clutches.
But out here, I get to do what I want.
There are also some moments where Angel calmly removes weapons from his little buddy's hands, which we're sure the whole hotel staff is quite thankful for. Nearing the end of the healthy relationships, we have Charlie and Lucifer Morningstar. In our Good to Evil, we already mentioned how Lucifer was a way nicer guy than we honestly expected, and that's shown mostly through his relationship with Charlie. Just listen to more than anything, guys. The only reason we're placing this at the lower end of the healthy category rather than any higher is the fact that Lucifer was absent from Charlie's life for a long time. We get that depression is a real demon, But when you're a parent, that doesn't excuse you from, being a parent. Still, Lucifer is stepping up and trying to make up for lost time, and so far, we'd say he's doing a pretty great job. He even saved Charlie's life from Adam in the final battle, and when all hope for the hotel seemed lost, he encourages her and helps rebuild it. He's had his ups and downs, but the guy's making a ton of progress. And rounding out our healthy category, we have the friendship between Cherry Bomb and Angel. While it's obvious these two care about each other deeply, given how much time they spend together and how excited they always are to see each other, we have to place them at the end of the healthy category for one two-word reason: bad influence.
You know you're my favorite guy to party with.
Cherry Bomb isn't a bad person and certainly not a bad friend, but when push comes to shove, she does tend to influence Angel's personality in a negative way. We can see this during their night out at the club when she encourages him to get wasted on drugs despite his progress. Still, the friendship gets a ton of points for the fact that Cherry is still happy for Angel's progress at the hotel. Even if it's not her thing, she still supports her friend and even helps him protect the hotel. Granted, that was partially for the action, but we're still counting it in her favor. These two are serious ride or die buddies, and that's enough to cement that they belong in this category. She might be a bad influence at times, but Cherry is the kind of friend Angel will always be able to count on when the need arises, and that's what matters most. Now we get to the relationships that aren't fully healthy but still remain far from toxic. These are the rocky relationships. This might be a hot take, but we're gonna put Alistair and Charlie's relationship just outside the healthy category. While we can't possibly put a relationship that's pretty much the definition of, quote, preying on your downfall any higher, Alistair showed an impressive amount of goodwill towards Charlie this season. Say what you will about him, but he's true to his word for helping Charlie with the hotel, and seems to genuinely enjoy his time with her, even if that's partially to mess with Lucifer's head.
You are much shorter in real life.
He also took a serious beating defending the hotel from Adam and wasn't opposed to Charlie hugging him upon his return. Maybe this radio-talking psychopath has more of a heart than we expect, but only time will tell. And whether this relationship ends up higher or lower depends on a lot of factors, not the least of which being the favor that Charlie now owes him. Moving on to the pair of main villains for the season, Adam and Loot, the leading extermination angels. While both of them are absolute garbage as people, they do seem to be able to work quite well together.
Awesome job, Danger. It's pound it.
That's not to say they're always on the same page, though. Adam is much more brash and vulgar compared to Loot, who is more collected and arguably even more dangerously tunnel-visioned. Adam and Loot don't have the most deep, intimate connection, but there's a clear respect between them, and given that Loot shed some tears at Adam's death, it's safe to say there was some care between these two scumbags. From one villain team to another, next up is the three-way bond between the V's. No, not that kind of three-way. Then again, with the nature of this show, maybe. These three are tied together by their mutually ambitious evil nature. Together, they work to keep Pentagram City under their control, with Vox's business tactics, Val's manipulation and charm, and Velvet being a influencer. The three of them are determined to keep all the demons of hell right where they want them. But given Val's tendency to throw tantrums, Vox's literal hate boner for Alistair,
I am so hard right now!
and Velvet just being completely done with both of them 90% of the time, there are definitely some stumbling blocks to their relationship. They work well together when they're able to, that is. From a trio of overlords to a duo of angels. Next is the relationship between Emily and Sarah. This one should be pretty self-explanatory. While Emily loves and respects Sarah, and Sarah clearly cares deeply for Emily, there's one faucet missing. That being Sarah's respect for Emily. More specifically, she doesn't have much. She approved of Adam's plan to do exterminations in hell without notifying Emily at all. Of course, Emily was disgusted, as she should be, and has clearly been hurt by what she sees as a deep betrayal on Sarah's end. Given the conflict of interest between Emily supporting Charlie's plan of redemption and Sarah not doing that, we have to rank them pretty low, but there's possibility for some healing to go on here, so we won't call them outright toxic yet. The last relationship we're going to talk about in this category is the old friendship between Alistair and Mimsy. For a notoriously twisted overlord, Alistair has quite a few friends, Mimsy being one of his closest. Unfortunately, that closeness comes less from Mimsy genuinely caring about him and more from her expecting him to clean up all her messes. In her debut, and so far I'm pretty sure her only appearance, she leads a gang of loan sharks to the hotel, placing it and everyone inside in grave danger, all because she wasn't ready to face the consequences of her actions. While Alistair doesn't mind helping Mimsy, and while she does does genuinely seem to enjoy his company, she's still kind of an awful friend for that.
I think you should go, Mimsy. Now.
Especially since Husk recounts that she only really comes by when she needs something. Here's hoping we can see Mimsy pull her own weight next season. But for now, she's closing the curtain on our middle category, and it's now time for the really hellish relationships. These are the toxic relationships. First up in this category warrants a quick mention to the relationship between news co-anchors Katie Killjoy and Tom Trench. They only make 2 appearances throughout the entire season, but these two are still bickering just as much as ever. Actually, it's not even bickering. Katie's just bullying this poor guy for practically no reason. He can't even say his name without being shoved off screen and hidden behind news footage Mike Wazowski style. But at least, not to assume anything, Tom's soul isn't enslaved to Katie. Enter the relationship between Alistair and Husk. Really, the fact that Husk can even compare his relationship with Alistair to Angel's with Valentino says it all. Granted, it's nowhere near as horrific, but Husk still isn't having a great time. In his own words, he sold his soul to Alistair to save his own power, forcing him to be a bartender as long as Alistair wills it. The good in this relationship begins and ends with the fact that as long as Husk doesn't step out of line, Alistair offers him protection and consistent work. But if Husk even questions Alistair, he gets a bit more punishment than just a spray bottle of water. Kicking off our bottom 5 is perhaps the yin and yang of the overlords, Velvet and Carmilla. While we don't see a ton of them interacting, we have to give them a mention in the toxic category for their strong conflict of interests in regards to the dangers of heaven's exterminations. Upon discovering the dismembered head of an extermination angel, Velvet pressures Carmilla to take the fight to them instead of waiting around and strategizing.
We can take the fight to them.
While Carmilla promptly refuses, knowing how dangerous it would be to not only let demons know that angels can be slaughtered, but to give them the knowledge of how to do it. From Carmilla's perspective, Velvet is an impulsive, reckless brat who has no respect for authority. In contrast, Velvet sees Carmilla as a coward who refuses to use the authority she wields for the good of her people. They both have good reasons to hate each other, and to make matters worse, neither is fully correct, making it unlikely that they'll be seeing eye to eye anytime soon. Narrowly avoiding the bottom 3 is the relationship between Charlie and Adam. We've now reached the territory of relationships that have pretty much 0 positive qualities.
How many of you freaks do I have to fight?
Charlie and Adam are enemies through and through. Adam callously exterminates Charlie's people with no regard for their lives whatsoever, and has no issue with making these mini genocides more frequent on a whim. If that weren't bad enough, Adam also vaporized Sir Pennius, one of Charlie's best friends, right in front of her eyes. The only reason we don't place this relationship even lower is the fact that they haven't known each other as long as the remaining 3. So you could argue these adversaries' wounds are a little less deep than those of the remaining 3. For our bronze medal of toxicity, we have the vengeance-driven feud between Vaggie and Loot. This could extend to Vaggie and all of the extermination angels, really, but since Loot is the one who tore out her eye and mutilated her upon seeing her spare a demon child, we're gonna say this one's a bit more personal than the rest. Both of these two have every reason to want revenge on the other, from Loot viewing Vaggie as a dirty double-crosser, to Vaggie viewing Loot with one less eye thanks to what she did to her. In the end, Loot is only alive because Vaggie spared her, which to Loot might just be a fate worse than death. The silver medal of toxicity goes to the villainous rivalry between Vox and Alistair. TV and radio, a feud as old as time, or you know, as old as TV and radio, at least. The point is that these two hate each other. Most of the hatred, though, is on Vox's end. The news that Alistair is back absolutely enrages him, and he promises to make him wish that he'd never returned. The feeling is mutual, though, and what ensues is the most snazzy musical session of mutual roasting hell's ever seen. This goes beyond a business rivalry into full-on mortal enemy territory, to the point where Vox literally gets hard at the idea of Alistair being brutally murdered. With that, you've got some problems you need worked out, man. Oh, and yeah, it's also worth mentioning that Vox asked Alistair to join the V's, which, let's be real, was already doomed to fail since Alistair does not have a V in the name. Alistair's rejection only makes Vox and his wound even saltier. But to be honest, Vox and Alistair may be fated arch-rivals itching to watch each other crumble, but the relationship between Angel and Valentino makes it look absolutely pleasant and tame in comparison. Could the gold medal of toxicity really go to any relationship other better than the one that has 2 musical numbers dedicated to how horrible it is, one of them not even being in the show. Valentino's manipulation led Angel down a dark path from which she's struggling to return. Pretty much any kind of abuse you can think of, Valentino's treatment of Angel makes Adam's exterminations look like a game of kickball on the playground. It makes sense that the scummiest character in the show would be responsible for the most toxic relationship. That said, if we had to say something positive about it, we will say that Poison is an absolute bop, and it's not going to leave our heads anytime soon. But hopefully Angel can leave the soul signing contract soon.
Hazbin Hotel is the current hotspot for animation discussion. After years of waiting, we've finally gotten to see the under/overworld from Vivzy Pop's imagination on full display. With a bunch of brand new characters introduced and much more depth given to the ones we already knew from the pilot, this ensemble cast is one of the strongest in current animation. Which got us thinking, instead of just sticking to morality and such, how about we talk about quality?
Oh, this will be fun.
That's right, we're going to rank every major character in this season from worst to best. I'm Keefinosi with Wicked Binge, and this is the Hazbin Hotel character tier list. For this video, we'll be moving from our least favorite characters to the MVPs of the show, based on a mix of how well written we think they are and how entertaining and likable they are as a whole. We'll be trying our best to keep personal biases to a minimum, but, no promises. Let's begin with the characters who just don't click with us, whether they're not super likable or they just don't contribute much. This is the D tier.
Oh, tasty.
Our bottom ranking character is one who fits both of those categories, Mimsy, Alistair's showgirl friend introduced in episode 5. We feel sort of harsh for this since Mimsy is definitely the most likable character in our bottom tier, which, spoiler, isn't saying a lot, but for a character who plays a decently large role in her debut appearance, Mimsy adds very little value to the story as a whole. This is due in no small part to the fact that she only appeared in 1 episode of season 1, but okay, let's give her a shot. What did Mimsy contribute? Well, she ruined the Hell's Greatest Dad musical number with her out-of-nowhere entrance to the point where some YouTube uploads of it have straight up removed her solo, which pretty much everyone agrees is an improvement. She also endangered the hotel by leading a group of angry loan sharks right to them, which, as Husk asserts, is really the only sort of reason she ever bothers to visit. Really, there's just not much of a reason to like Mimsy yet, at least. She's self-absorbed without the likable characteristics that could otherwise carry her to a higher spot, so we have to call her the lowest quality character so far. In a similar vein as our next character, Katie Killjoy. One half of the news anchor team of Channel 666, while she's far from the most morally depraved character in the cast, Katie falls into the category of Mimsy, where she holds a lot of negative traits without really any good ones to balance it all out. At her best, she's mildly funny, and at her worst, which is almost all of her screen time, she's just really mean. If that weren't bad enough, Katie has less screen time throughout all of season 1 than she had in just the pilot episode. Talk about a downgrade. We guess that at least that means she isn't ruining any musical numbers. It's not enough to fix that awful track record, but it's enough to keep her from dead last place. Rounding out the lowest tier, we have the first of the V's, Valentino. Let's get one thing clear. If this list were based purely on likability, or lack thereof, Val would be an absolute shoo-in for the bottom spot.
Which of these makes me look sexier?
You know you've done a great job of writing a villain when the fandom pretty much universally hates him before even making an appearance in the main series. And rightly so. Valentino is a sex trafficker, rapist, murderer, and an all-around brute with no qualities that are even close to redeemable. He's the most blatantly despicable character in the show so far, and it's not even a difficult choice.
I own you, or have you forgotten that?
It might seem harsh to place anyone beneath Val, but the reason he's not dead last is that we have to give him credit for the fact that, if nothing else, he's playing his role excellently. Valentino is a villain, and the fact is that when a character's meant to be evil or just plain vile, we can hate them all we want, but we can't argue that they're being written poorly necessarily, and okay, someone has to say it, the dude has style. He does not deserve a coat that fancy.
For my collection.
Now we move on to the characters who are just decent enough. While they aren't the best, the C-tier characters are perfectly serviceable. First in this category is the other news anchor, Tom Trench. Punching bag though he may be, Tom is by far the more likable of the Channel 666 news team. Well,
and I'd sure like to nail her hot spot.
Okay, we'll admit, most of that likability does come from pity. He can hardly say 2 words without being abused by Katie, whether there's a reason for it or not, and the guy is really just there. There is something morbidly funny about him being constantly mistreated, hated for seemingly no reason, though. We're not sure if he's ever going to bust out of his role as a comic relief background character, but he's just tolerable enough to not be any lower. Now let's move on to Heaven's opening entertainment, St. Peter. He spends his days greeting new visitors to the city of Heaven, kicking off their stay with an upbeat song about just how happy every day is in heaven. Now, granted, that's literally the only thing he's really done so far, but it's a start. Grab some popcorn, Serpentius, you're in for a treat. Up next, we have his superior, Sarah, one of many characters with presumably much more to her personality than we've been shown. Sarah got off to a rough start this season. She's introduced in episode 6, in which she hears Charlie's case for the rehabilitation of sinners, and, being presented with blatant first-hand evidence, she nonetheless responds by rejecting Charlie's plea.
It is our job to ensure these souls are safe.
While not particularly likable, there's still enough of a gray area to Sarah's personality to keep her from being a full-on antagonist or a truly despicable figure. Her approval of the exterminations definitely calls her morals into question, as does her senseless denial of Angel's rehabilitation, but she's sincere in her efforts to protect Heaven, even if that means kicking the sinners while they're down. Hopefully Emily can help her see the light in season 2. If you thought Ton's screen time was limited, wait until you hear about Lilith. Given how we haven't seen her full face yet, outside of a family portrait at least, Lilith is definitely the most mysterious character we've been introduced to so far. In a show with lore as deep as Hazbin's, though, that's definitely a plus. Her debut at the tail end of season 1 has raised the stakes for season 2's storytelling.
You're going down there and stopping that.
The potential for fan theories here is limitless, which we may or may not be planning to touch on in an upcoming video. I don't know, stay tuned. Rounding out this category is the next member of the V's, Velvet. What she lacks in respect, Velvet makes up for with a cool accent, effortless style, and an independent streak that makes her stand out from the other overlords. Like her or not, you can't deny that Velvet is extremely confident in herself and her power, showing disdain for even the highest ranking overlords around in an effort to push them into war with Heaven.
You going blind, old man?
While neither as despicable as Val nor as brilliant as Vox, Velvet's combination of influence and ruthless self-gratification make her an interesting antagonist, truly living up to her self-proclaimed status as backbone of the V's. We're already getting into much stronger character territory, so it's time to move on to the B tier. While these characters definitely might not be MVPs yet, they show a lot of potential and are definitely going to be on our radars for future seasons. First up in this category is the surprisingly friendly cannibal, Rosie. Although she makes some cameos in the pilot, we're not properly introduced to Rosie until episode 7, in which she's revealed to be a good friend of Alistair's. You can take that as our official apology for forgetting their friendship in our Healthy to Toxic video.
Look at you, so polite. Alistair, you could learn a thing or two.
In addition to that, she's also a good help to Charlie, assisting her in rallying the people of her town to help protect the Hazbin Hotel from warring angels. She's far from the most complex character in the cast, but the fact that someone with such an admittedly unsettling lifestyle is portrayed in an almost exclusively friendly light is pretty endearing. It goes to show that in this world, you really can't judge a book by its cover, or a cannibal by its eating habits. Next is an umbrella entry for perhaps the cutest of the Hazbin Hotel staff members, Kiki, Razzle, and Dazzle. Kiki is a shape-shifting kitty who just so happens to also be the key to the Hazbin Hotel. Sometimes all you need to be a memorable character is to be a cute animal who plays an essential role in the main focal point of the story. Who knew? I mean, you can't get into a hotel without unlocking the doors after all. Well, you can, but we'll get to Cherry Bomb later. Razzle and Dazzle are noble steeds who help defend the hotel from intruders.
You taking care of my widow girl?
You better be.
They can go from admirable baby goat-like pets to gigantic dragons who will smite anyone who dares to threaten their masters. May Dazzle rest in peace for his noble sacrifice, and may Razzle, I don't know, give him a cookie or something. He's earned it. Speaking of adorable characters, next up is heaven-bound sweetheart Emily. Sarah's younger counterpart is by far the more likable of the Seraphim we've been introduced to. Unlike Sarah, she has a truly open mind and sincerely believes everyone deserves a chance to be heard out. When she sees Angel's good deeds at the nightclub with his buddies, she's so moved that she bursts into song to clarify that Charlie was, in fact, right. Emily's sweet personality and goodwill have managed to endear us to her already, but her willingness to stand up for what's right, even against authority, is what makes us label her best of the good guys in heaven so far.
Don't give up on this. I'll figure something out, I promise.
She even celebrated Serpentius' redemption alongside the audience, and, knowing her, she's probably not even going to gloat about it. We wouldn't fault her for it, though. But while she's not nearly as pleasant, to say the least, Lute, the extermination angel, lands a spot just above Emily. We hate to put Emily below the more depraved angels, but the fact is that Lute is just a solid villain all around. Acting as Adam's right-hand warrior and voice of reason, she's out for blood from the excess sinners, but even more so from Vaggie, who she labels as a traitor for sparing one of said sinners long ago. go. We're only placing Loot this low because she didn't get much time to shine in season 1, since Adam generally took the spotlight as the main villain. Nonetheless, we can't deny that it's intriguing how Loot's arc in season 1 ended. This character, who was already driven by vengeance, now has yet another reason to seek it out, that being the death of her good friend and comrade. We've got a feeling she's gonna be one of the most interesting characters to watch unfold in the coming seasons, so she's earned a respectable place on our list regardless. Cherry Bomb is finally bursting onto the scene. We were actually going to put her in the A tier, but she blew up one of our walls while we were recording this video, so that docked her a few points. Okay, jokes aside, are we that far off? Cherry's explosive in every sense of the word, from her personality to her character design, even down to her hobbies. Cherry doesn't get a lot of screen time in this season, and actually doesn't show up until episode 6, but her impact is still felt pretty strongly. Her dynamic with Sir Pentious is both hilarious and weirdly wholesome, and her chaotic yet open-minded personality makes her a character who's unpredictable, yet somehow reliable at the same time. Her best attribute, though, is her loyalty to Angel Dust, from being willing to fight the exterminations alongside him to supporting him through good times and comforting him through bad ones. She's rough and tumble, but she's the definition of a ride or die. Even without truly understanding why Angel's investing in the hotel, she still supports him nonetheless.
What weighs on our soul, old friends?
Oh, just the fact that we can't place Zestial any higher. We'll acknowledge right now that yes, Zestial only has like 5 minutes of screen time this season, but if there's one character trope we can't get enough of, it's a character with much more to them than their surface level attributes. That could describe a lot of characters in this series, but few as aptly as Zestial.
They purge all of hell for daring an uprising.
Despite being the oldest overlord in hell, feared by just about everybody around him, Zestial is far from the terrifying menace you'd expect him to be. In fact, the man is completely even-tempered. He never gives too much rein to his emotions, even when being disrespected directly to his face by someone like Velvet. If that weren't enough, he's also a good friend who allowed Carmilla to confide in him about her slaughtering an angel. Surprisingly, this was totally genuine. No overarching plan, no treachery, just a compassionate friend lending an ear to his struggling companion. Zestial, as far as ancient hell-dwelling overlords go, is a pretty nice dude, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing him unfold even more. But for now, his genuine likability is enough to give him our top spot in the B tier. We're inching into main character territory now with the characters who have the most fleshed out arcs and best uses of their screen time. These are the A tier characters. Certified Hell's Greatest Dad is visiting up next. Lucifer Morningstar wasted no time making a mark when he made his grand debut. To the surprise of many, or us at least, Lucifer is a shockingly nice guy, with a phone call from Charlie being all it takes to get him out of the house and depression. Lucifer makes a commitment to start anew with his daughter and to get to know her for real, all the while supporting her hotel. So far, he's proven to be loyal to that promise. He helps Charlie get a meeting with Heaven to make a case for the hotel with the Seraphim.
I won't be able to go with you. Will you be okay?
And in the final battle, when all hope seems lost, Lucifer shows up in the nick of time to proposition himself to Adam so he wouldn't destroy the hotel.
And now I am going to fuck you.
Oh, he meant I'm going to fuck you up. Why didn't he just say that?
Wait, what did I say?
If you're struggling to crack the code to the next entry, we've got you covered. The Egg Boys are taking the next spot. These little guys bravely sacrificed themselves alongside Sir Pentious for the sake of protecting the hotel, except for one who seems to have survived during the finale, which earns them plenty of points right off the bat. On top of that, just look at them. They're eggs with top hats and funny voices. They're even kind enough to warn their friends about the reality of bank accounts being a scam made up by the shadow government.
Bank accounts are a scam created by the shadow government.
One day they'll listen, Frank. Whether you like it or not, we're placing Adam in the next spot, and just outside of the top 10. As despicable as he is, from openly describing exterminations as entertainment, to committing the nigh unforgivable act of vaporizing Sir Pentious and the Egg Boys, we can't deny that Adam managed to play the role of the season's main villain excellently. Adam is one of those villains who manages to be a legitimate threat while simultaneously being fun and entertaining. He's the definition of a love-to-hate character.
You all should be worshiping me, you ungrateful, disgusting.
One who has just about no truly good qualities to speak of, ironically, yet poses a significant enough threat to really keep it itching for his eventual takedown. Basically, if Charlie's the answer to, what if there were a Disney princess in hell? Adam is the answer to, what if there were a Disney villain in heaven? Granted, that's probably a question even fewer people were asking, but we're glad it got answered anyway. He may be a loser, but Husk is a solid enough character to kick off our top 10. This eternally grumpy bartender proved himself to have a heart of gold in episode 4. While his repeated callouts of Angel's fake persona might seem mean at first, it turns out they come less from a place of resentment and more from a place of genuine sympathy.
I can handle myself.
You might need a bartender to talk to.
Loser Baby is arguably the best musical number in the whole show so far. Through its hilariously blunt lyrics, Husk reaches out to Angel to let him know that he's not the only one who's hit rock bottom and is enslaved to a total psychopath.
Good talk, my good man. Always nice to catch up.
From here on, the two form a genuine camaraderie, and Husk starts to open up just a little bit more to supporting the hotel, showing enough loyalty to stick around even when he briefly believes Alistair is dead. But when it comes to supporting the hotel, Charlie has few allies greater than Vaggie. Charlie's girlfriend truly acts as the yin to her yang. Vaggie is short-tempered, realistic, and never shies away from speaking her mind. At the same time, she has a soft side and sincerely wants to support and protect Charlie and her hotel no matter what. We later find out that the reason for this isn't just surface level though. It turns out that Vaggie is actually an extermination angel who is left to rot in hell for sparing a demon child.
Filth like you has no place in heaven.
It's a tragic origin that really sheds a new light on her inner frustrations, and we're definitely interested to see where her story goes from here. It's clear that she supports the hotel not only out of love for Charlie, but out of conviction for just how despicable the higher-ups in heaven can be. That said, many of the other core characters have a bit more of our attention right now. One of those characters being Nifty. She's a hyperactive, unpredictable force of pure chaos who's sure to make you either laugh or shudder in fear every time she's on screen. She strikes that perfect balance of cute and cuddly and absolute menace that we love to see in dark comedy series. Seriously, for someone whose soul is enslaved to a total psychopath like Alistair to not only be completely content with their situation, but to occasionally bewilder even him is impressive. Whether there's some deep lore reason for Nifty's bizarre nature or not, we wouldn't change a thing about her. Don't hide in radio where you'll totally miss our next pick. New villain Vox steps onto the scene. Acting as Alistair's business rival and archenemy, these guys have more than their fair share of bad blood between them. Vox is a smooth-talking, scheme-toting television who takes every opportunity at his disposal to keep Pentagram City under his influence, with the help of the other V's, of course. His tactfulness is made all the more apparent by his way of calming even the toddler-tempered Valentino down on his worst days. But all that tact is stripped away the moment Alistair becomes involved. At that point, Vox gets tunnel vision that demands focus on nothing but taking down that before-the-future radio host he sees before him.
I'm afraid you've lost your signal.
While we doubt Vox is going to be overtaking him anytime soon, he's still a formidable foe with quite a resume. The combination of such a calculated, intelligent leader and such a blatant flaw of a short temper makes Vox one of the most intriguing of the new characters in the cast. And let's bring in one more overlord to close out the A tier. Carmilla Carmine, angelic weapons dealer. Being the first overlord to kill an angel, she used her newfound knowledge to foster her own angelic weapons to fight against them. But Carmine is far from a mere advocate for war. In fact, she openly opposes Velvet's insistence upon it, knowing that the wrong minds holding the knowledge of how to kill angels would be disastrous for hell as a whole. Unfathomable as it may sound, here we have an overlord of hell who has a genuine moral compass, to the point where she struggles to come to terms with killing, even in defense of herself and her family. Ultimately, she even helps protect the hotel by giving Vaggie training in fighting angels and providing the gang with a plethora of weapons. Carmilla is almost undeniably the most heroic overlord in hell, and we hope to see her remain an ally of the hotel in future seasons. Entering the top 5, we have the S tier characters. For us, these are the characters who managed to totally steal the show. Leading lady Charlie Morningstar is our first top tier pick. Writing a character who's pretty much pure good is a risky move. If you don't do it carefully, you can get a character who seems like a Mary Sue, or perhaps even worse, boring. Thankfully, Charlie falls into neither category. She's a chronic people pleaser who's called out on her need to appease others multiple times throughout the series, which often gets her, and said others, into trouble. That said, Charlie remains lovable precisely for these faults, because at the end of the day, she genuinely means well for everyone around her and approaches them with an open mind. No matter how many messes she causes, they're always made with good intentions, and you can bet she'll stick around to clean them up.
I just wanted to help you.
Well, you ain't!
From redeemable sinners like Angel and Sir Pentious to absolute scumbags like Adam or Val, Charlie's willing to give anyone and everyone a chance, not to mention that she's got a really good singing voice. In 4th place, we have the final pet of the Hazbin Hotel, Fat Nuggets. This is the face of a creature who's comforted Angel through ages of trauma, through thick and thin. You might wonder how he's ended up so high despite his minimal screen time, and the answer is simple. Look at him. This is peak peak adorable character design. There's no reason a character native to hell should be this cute and this cuddly, yet here we are. Frankly, he's only even outside the top spot because we felt like judging him against the others would be downright unfair. When asked what he thought of his top tier placement, Fat Nuggets had this to say: "Wise words from a wise pig." We're entering the top 3 now, and the bronze medal happens to go to the last entry's owner, Angel Dust. Moment of honesty here, we weren't totally sold on Angel from the beginning. While his overly promiscuous personality could be fun, at other times it could feel like a bit much. That said, Angel's character arc does an excellent job of fleshing this out. His mask of hypersexual narcissism is a coping mechanism for the abuse he suffers at the hands of Valentino, and really his job in general, which he opens up about in episode 4. This episode in general elevates Angel to a whole nother level, and we can actually see that growth reflected in the episodes that follow.
Out here, I get to do what I want.
Sure, Angel is still Angel, but he's different. He's more outwardly compassionate to others, no longer feeling like he has to constantly wear a mask. He unapologetically accepts himself for who he is and shows great progress on his path to redemption. He becomes strong enough to even stick up to Valentino before he gets nifty in his clutches, and in the last episode of the season, he saves an egg boy from an extermination angel at the last moment. He also brought Fat Nugget into our lives, and for that alone, we owe him a lot. Angel Dust is a highlight to be sure, and if we haven't said it enough, he's not the only one who's addicted to poison. The silver medal goes to an even better redemption arc, Serpentius. It's funny how the most outlandishly diabolical character in the pilot episode became one of the most endearing and sweet ones in the proper series, but Serpentius' elevation from a joke villain to a sincerely redeemed friend is just what the world needed. Seeing his legitimate remorse turns an already endearing character into an even more endearing one, just in a different light. From episode 3 onwards, we see Serpentius slowly but surely change his ways, genuinely enjoying his time at the hotel and bonding with his new friends. All of that isn't even mentioning his most prominent trait: dude's freaking hilarious.
Not so cocky now, are we?
From his reactions to the Egg Boys' insane ramblings to his impressively awful bouts of flirting with Cherry Bomb, there's never a dull moment when Serpentius is on screen, and he goes out with a bang. Despite being vaporized by Adam, he still ends the season on a high note by appearing in heaven to the delight of Emily and bewilderment of Sarah. This was the most satisfying, touching moment in the whole show for us, and for many others too. Charlie is proven right. Serpentius is finally rewarded for all of his hard work, and most importantly, he'll be in season 2. Serpentius is awesome, but... okay, call us cliche if you must. We just can't give the gold medal to anyone but the radio demon himself, Alistair. Indie projects really have a way of making some of the most entertaining, intriguing villains out there, and Alistair is no exception. Yet despite being a serial killer, overlord, and all-around psychopath, Alistair is somehow not a full-on villain. He allies himself with Charlie, helping her with the hotel in any way he can, for unknown reasons.
No, I am here because I want to help.
Sure, he says it's for ongoing entertainment, but you can tell that the longer he's there, the more endeared he becomes to the staff, particularly Charlie herself. Alistair never fails to be entertaining throughout the series. Never is there a dull moment with him on screen, and the season finale only intensifies our interest in him as a character. Al nearly gets killed fighting Adam to protect the hotel, leading to a mental breakdown in which he reveals that he himself is enslaved to someone else and is hungrier for freedom than ever. This guy really had a mental breakdown because he started to care about others, but at the same time, we genuinely feel kind of bad for him. While he's almost certainly not going to be a good guy, there's just so much to unpack with Alistair. Who gave him his powers? Who's keeping him on a tight leash? Does he really care about Charlie and the others, or is it all just a farce? On top of all of that is a fun character design, a fantastic vocal performance both in and out of song, and a character who manages to be as fun as he is intriguing and menacing. So Alistair is our favorite Hazbin Hotel character, but we'd love to see you broadcast yours down below. We're not pulling all the strings after all, or are we? No, we're not. Now that we've reflected on practically everything there is to reflect on with season 1 of Hazbin Hotel, it's time to take a look at the most terrifying aspect of any series: what the internet is saying about it. It's no secret that a lot of people love Hazbin Hotel, us included, but given the show's premise and sense of humor, it's probably unsurprising that it's garnered its fair share of controversy. You get the idea, surely. I'm Keith Inosi with Wicked Binge, and these are Hazbin Hotel's biggest controversies yet, but probably not its last. Of course, not every controversy is equally scandalous, so we'll be starting off with the more lighthearted ones. First up are the new voice actors. Those who watched the pilot to refresh their memory before starting season 1 probably got quite a bit of whiplash given just how many voice actors were changed. How many, you ask? Oh, not many, just the entire main cast. Mind you, not every change was received poorly. In fact, fans were able to get used to a good few of the changes somewhat quickly. Serpentius' pilot voice, Will Stamper, was replaced with Alex Brightman, who did a great job recreating the rehabilitated supervillain and voicing the season's actual main villain, Adam. Likewise, Mick Lauer's performance as Husk in the pilot was great, but nobody's complaining about Keith David stepping into his shoes. Known for voicing Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog, they really got a Disney villain's voice on this show.
You really gonna sit there and act like these scripts ain't hot garbage?
Man, kudos for that. There are also some other characters like Nifty and Charlie who, despite having different voice actors, are still pretty on point with their original castings, and as a result, few people complain about them. Charlie's voice isn't as high-pitched and cutesy, and Nifty's is a little more on the unhinged side, but it's not like those changes are unfitting.
Maybe the tone is a bit...
But then we move into the more controversial examples. Let's start with Vaggie, who was voiced by Monica Franco in the pilot and replaced by Stephanie Beatriz in the full show. Already another Disney voice, this time that of Mirabelle from Encanto. It should go without saying that Beatriz did a great job in her vocal performance, but we're far from alone in saying that her singing was kind of a shock. Again, great singer, but when you have a character with a relatively gravelly voice hit an absolutely crazy falsetto in a musical number, you can't expect us to not get some whiplash. Then there's Angel Dust, who was voiced by Michael Kovac in the pilot and Blake Roman in the final product.
Oh, harder, Daddy. Son?
A lot of fans found Angel's much higher voice in season 1 to be a bit much, especially in regards to his accent, which is amped up a lot.
You think after how you treated me, I'm gonna open up to you?
We kind of see where they're coming from there, but Roman is doing a fantastic job of portraying Angel's emotions, if nothing else. The Poison musical number, his confrontation with Valentino at the club, and plenty of other examples really highlight the fact that new doesn't always mean bad, but that ignores the elephant in the room. Roman's doing a great job, but Michael Kovac's absence is hard to avoid. He not only voiced Angel in the pilot and the Addict music video, but he's also a pretty popular voice actor in other indie projects. He plays N in Murder Drones and Jax in Digital Circus, just to name a couple. But as far as filling big shoes goes, we've got optimistic feelings about Blake Roman. Finally, without a doubt, the most divisive new voice is Alistair's. In the pilot, he was voiced by Edward Bosco with a heavy static filter to complement his New Orleans radio show host voice.
I've come to crave a new form of entertainment.
It was one of the most popular vocal performances from the pilot, which is why it was divisive when he was replaced with Amir Talai. He's best known for such illustrious roles as... he played Crane, specifically in the Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesome spin-off show. That's gonna be hard to unhear. But call us crazy, we actually like Talai's performance a lot. Heck, maybe even more than the pilot? Don't hear what we aren't saying. Edward Bosco was great as Alistair in the pilot, but Amir Talai's performance in the show still allows that creepy, sinister vibe that Alistair's character has, while also bringing out his more playful side. It also could help with Alistair's character becoming more complex by the second, so we're gonna give this one a glowing review. While the new voices can take getting used to, they're still doing a pretty darn good job. But when talking about the show's controversial nature, we can't ignore the head honcho herself, Vivian Medrano, aka Vivzy Pop. Let's get one thing out of the way. We're not condoning anyone who goes after Vivzy Pop to harass her for anything we may mention. And we're not just saying that to cover our butts. Creative differences aside, the fire pointed in Vivzy Pop's direction has been overblown to say the least. But let's start with the valid criticisms first and foremost. Many fans have found it a little bit unsettling just how insistent Vivzy is about responding to any criticism levied against her work. Like some other controversial internet figures, she finds herself in the crosshairs of an angry internet, be it for some strange projects she was involved with, or even for disagreements over whether or not her show is good, even down to the infamous written by Vivzy Pop memes. While this is hardly a moral failing, Medrano's insistence on responding to every critique she sees paints her as a little stubborn. We don't say that to be mean. We'd just hate to see a creator with a genuinely fun project be reduced to an internet laughingstock. And sadly, that's exactly how many onlookers want to see her. It can be as innocent as some goofy trolling, think the aforementioned memes, which are ultimately harmless, to legitimate slander. Opponents have raised allegations of everything from racism to transphobia to being a child predator to freaking wage slavery. Evidence for these claims ranged from mental gymnastics routines to straight up non-existence, but in true internet discourse fashion, that was no problem for Twitter. Hazbin fans, you'll be relieved to know that Vivzy Pop is not a racist, transphobe, predator, nor, I can't believe slave owner is technically one that we have to add to that list, but here we are. If you're looking for a controversy with actual evidence, you can't hide away from this one. By this point, the Verbalace incident should need pretty much no introduction, but in case you don't already know, the YouTuber Verbalace is a popular beatboxer and voice impressionist known for his cartoon Beatbox Battle series. You might remember the legendary battle between Patrick Star and Thanos a few years back, but as wild as that was, nothing prepared anyone for the fact that this man literally paid $50,000 to commission a video where Charlie from Hazbin Hotel chases him down to tie him to a bed and, rehabilitate him, so to speak. This led to all sorts of rumors spreading. It went from a simple "Lamau, look at this weird video he spent $50K on," to accusations of him not paying his employees properly, to accusations that he commissioned the video from a minor, and as it often does, it escalated to child predator allegations. We use allegations loosely because also, as it often does, there was pretty much no evidence for this. The good news is that, as you might guess from the whole no evidence thing, Verbalace did not commission this video from a minor, nor did he ever intend for a minor to see the video. In his eventual response video, he clarified that he only briefly uploaded it as a private video marked for mature audiences. The bad news? Well, Verbalace has been suspected to have a somewhat poor track record with paying his animators, and while there's no damning evidence of this, the fact that he paid $50,000 to make a music video of him getting molested by Charlie Morningstar speaks to his less than savory financial decisions. Live and let live, we guess, but don't expect us to not have a field day with a video like this. Also, it shouldn't need saying, but please don't harass Verbalace. The free comedy is punishment enough. Now, given that Hazbin Hotel is a show about, among other things, hypersexual demons fighting against murderous angels, we imagine you can get a good idea of Christians' resistance to the show, just by thinking for a few seconds. A lot of right-leaning Christians have a long history of making mountains out of molehills when it comes to modern media. Rock music, Pokemon, Harry Potter, etc. It's all been labeled satanic at some point in movements dating back to the 80s, which were rightly nicknamed Satanic Panic. So imagine our complete lack of shock at the vitriol many Christians have towards Hazbin Hotel. It's not hard to see why. Many Christians have described the show as anti-Christian at best and demonic at worst. I mean, there are demons. Anyway, on the surface, this is totally merited.
Her had these amazing ideas and dreams that were for the good of everybody, and it all looks so happy.
The show antagonizes heaven while humanizing hell, and considering most of its cast consists of demons, you know, like I said, it's technically demonic by sheer definition. But what if we told you that the show is actually pro-Christian?
All right, everyone, let's make a commercial.
Or at the very least, far from anti-Christian. Hear us out. For those unfamiliar with the doctrine of Christianity, the core belief is that, while humanity is inherently flawed and sinful, through faith in Jesus Christ, the Son of God who died for the sins of mankind, we can obtain eternal life and, in the meantime, grow to become better, kinder, more loving people. So, basically, the Christian doctrine hinges on a guy who devoted his entire life to helping sinners so that they could be redeemed. That goal, gee, that sure does sound familiar, huh? That's right, Jesus and Charlie have a goal in common, to redeem sinners so that they can go to heaven. And we're far from the first people to point this out.
Our scripture for this one, our scripture from today, is John chapter 3, verses 16 through 19.
This guy literally made a sermon about that. We're not kidding.
I will not crush on Lucifer's daughter. I will not crush on Lucifer's daughter. I will not crush on Lucifer's daughter.
Huh, that was a surprisingly wholesome entry. How about we end with something a bit more toxic? Poison. There just wouldn't be a complete video on Hazbin's controversies without it. Angel Dust and his story arc are, by far, the most controversial aspects of Hazbin Hotel. On that note, trigger warning for mentions of sexual assault. In essence, Angel Dust's character is a porn star who sold his soul to a psychotic pimp named Valentino. He's now effectively Val's slave and frequently suffers from sexual abuse to the point where he becomes numb to its poisonous effects on his mental health.
Now, please, I'm sorry.
We don't have any jokes here. It's a genuinely tragic character arc that fleshes him out from a promiscuous goofball into a broken man desperate for any sense of escape from his day-to-day hell. This all culminates in a song from episode 4 called Poison, which has Angel performing a song that, while peppy on the surface, has portrayals in both its lyrics and visuals of Angel being assaulted. As catchy as the song is, the actual subject matter is horrific, as it should be. Inevitably, a lot of fans took to the internet to express their rage at this video. Anything dealing with such a harsh topic is bound to garner controversy. That much is inevitable. Some disagreements were understandable. A lot of people disliked that the assault and Angel's trauma were portrayed in such an upbeat song. While this was an artistic choice, that's an understandable thing to point out. What's not as understandable is villainizing the team behind the show for portraying this. The entire point of the song is to show just how dehumanizing Angel's life is due to the abuse he suffers. His upbeat persona aside, the assault he goes through every day is portrayed in a genuinely terrifying way with no jokes whatsoever. It makes the audience super uncomfortable, and that's intentional. Vivzy Pop even put a trigger warning at the beginning of the episode, and for as many people as there were who criticized the way the episode handled Angel's SA, a lot of victims expressed that they found comfort in Angel as a character, and the way the episode humanized him. But other victims still have found him a bit insensitive. At best, this is because of his hypersexual personality seeming a bit stereotypical of gay men. At worst, and this is a much more concrete criticism, there's the fact that storyboard artist R2 Ninja Turtle, who allegedly worked on the Poison sequence and had frequent contact with Vivzy Pop, enjoys the ship of Angel and Valentino and has even made art of them together. Every fandom is gonna have horrible ships, but I mean, that certainly added fuel to the whole fetishizing abuse argument. Many suspect suspect that the artist in question might have been inserting their own fetishes into the final product. And while we do see where such an argument's coming from, and why it would make the scene tarnished for many fans, it's worth noting that the scene itself is absolutely meant to be graphic and disturbing, not sexy. There's no concrete evidence of their intentions one way or another, but what's important is that this is not a glamoration of SA by any means. Thinking critically, it's a depiction of the horror it entails and the great efforts victims go through to cover up their pain. Whether you like the portrayal or hate it, our hearts go out to anyone who's been affected by poison of their own. We hope this video has been a nice escape for you, and may all of your days be filled with the joy of fat nuggets. Amen. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, and nor was hell built in a decade, so let's take a tour through the underworld without having to suffer the weather to talk about the Hazbin Hotel timeline. In the beginning. In just the first couple of minutes, the show itself already did part of our job for us. Hazbin Hotel uses some aspects of biblical lore in its own world building, but as you might expect, it deviates quite a bit. We could almost call the show a kind of historical fiction in that sense, or historical half-fiction? Or, look, it's a show with some theological themes, and that's what counts here. Similarly to the beginning of the Bible's opening book of Genesis, the world of Hazbin Hotel begins with the creation of the world as we know it. Though rather than a deity speaking things into existence, the world seems to be sourced from the city of heaven, in which angels and other beings of light worship the concept of goodness itself while protecting the world from the concept of evil. The existence of cherubs in Hell of a Boss implies that there are many different types of angels, but as far as Hazbin Hotel is concerned, the main types we see are the exorcists and the seraphim. The exorcists are unique given their role to keep hell from getting overpopulated and possibly overpowered via periodic killing sprees. The seraphim, mainly Sarah and Emily for now, are basically there to keep the rest of heaven in check. They're actually named after the high-ranking angels in scripture. Their designs, not so much. Yeah, Kirby called he wants his final boss back? Actually, no, you can keep it. Let's talk about the angels. Now, in Hazbin Hotel, it was not a singular deity, but rather the angels themselves who shaped Earth in their own image. It's unknown whether there's one overarching ruler in this series, but we do know that the angels are overseers of both Earth and Hell, and they started with the creation of Adam and Eve. I mean, Lilith? No, you didn't miss something in Sunday school. Lilith herself is not a character mentioned in canon biblical lore at all. That isn't to say the idea of Lilith wasn't there, it just isn't in the Bible. Think of it as like a Bible-themed fanfiction. In any case, in Hazbin Hotel, instead of Adam and Eve, Adam and Lilith were the first humans. Here, Adam is given more characterization than he usually gets. Instead of being dude who ate an apple he wasn't supposed to, Adam was, more specifically, a misogynistic narcissist who demanded control over Lilith, who, due to her desire for independence, fled the garden. This placed her in good company with Lucifer, a high-ranking angel who didn't really vibe with the higher-up angels' visions for the world, but saw more extravagant ideas and was often treated like an outcast as a result. So, the two fell in love, wanting to share their passion for free will with the human world, but in doing so, they introduced it to evil by giving Eve the fruit from the Tree of Knowledge, which, you guessed it, is the exact one God told Adam and Eve not to eat. While Lucifer plays the same role as the serpent, aka Satan, in the Bible who tricked Eve and Adam into eating the forbidden fruit, Lucifer here is different in that he didn't explicitly trick Eve into it. Rather, he actually wanted to share his creative vision with the world via free will. But in transferring the knowledge of good and evil to humanity, he gave our channel its most beloved and iconic format. Oh, and I guess he also let sin creep into the world through the newfound potential of sin and disobedience. Hopelessness and ruthlessness. Just like that, one small act of disobedience let evil creep into the world. More on that in a bit. And thus, punishment had to be dealt to the perpetrators. Adam and Lilith were cast from the garden into an abyss from which they could see only the bad things free will brought about, and as anybody who's been alive for more than like 5 years understands, there's plenty of bad in the world. To make matters worse, Lucifer wasn't allowed to see any of the good of the world, which put him in a deep depression that no amount of rubber duckies could fix. They did help a little bit, though.
Oh god, who am I kidding? This sucks!
Things were very different for Lilith, however. Rather than falling into despair, Lilith took it upon herself to continue her strive for self-sufficiency and control by using her power and influence to civilize hell itself.
Adam is dead. Your deal is done, and I'm in charge now.
But Kifinosi, you blithering idiot, I hear you ask. Isn't Lilith a human? How does she have the power to civilize an entire portion of the supernatural world? First of all, don't interrupt me. Second of all, that's where we get into a character who's so sinister, so diabolical that she hasn't even shown up yet. Rue, the root of all evil. This is Rue, the creator of sin and death and the source of all the world's evil, and that's the wrong Rue. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is Rue. Now, you might have some questions, perhaps along the lines of, What the living hell was that? Rue is short for root of all evil and was drawn and mentioned in 2019 by VivziePop on Twitter, at which point she described her as the character she's most excited to get into. Being that her name is literally the root of all evil, it's safe to assume that Rue is the very evil that the angels were trying to protect the world from. But thanks to Lucifer and Lilith, albeit accidentally, she's out there. Through her release, Rue influenced the world in dark and sinister ways. Even so, although Vivzie herself has stated it's going to be a while before Rue gets any spotlight, she's almost certainly going to be the greatest threat in the series. So no matter what form she appears in, do not trust her by any means. Okay. Now hear me out. No, let's ignore that idea and focus on the lore. Rise of the Overlords. We know that Rue is the root of all evil, and given that it took strategic planning on behalf of all angels to keep her from invading the world, it's safe to say that she's pretty darn tough. Since she crept in via the disobedience of Adam and Eve, we know that all it takes for her influence to grow is someone willing to sin. So Rue stands to gain a lot from making deals with other sinners, like, say, sinners who are fiercely determined to gain independence, who are sort of ruthless about it, who are named Lilith. Yeah, it's just a theory, but it's pretty dang likely that Lilith got her demonic powers from Rue, which is what allowed her to civilize Hell and turn it into what it is now. As Hell grew exponentially, so did its power. Through contractual deals in which stronger demons lent their power to weaker ones in return for loyalty and servitude, there came about hierarchies of sinners in Hell. But so far, there's only one, aside from royalty, that we need to really focus on: the Overlords. Really, the Overlords can basically be summarized as demons who have more power and influence than the average sinner demon. In this context, think of demon souls like money. The more you've got, the stronger you are. Characters like Alistair, Zestial, Carmilla, Rosie, the V's, etc. all have plenty of souls in their clutches, and so they have more power and influence than normal. Additionally, unwise demons can result in a loss of power, as we see from Husk, who allowed his penchant for gambling to cost him his status as an overlord, stuck on Alistair's leash for who knows how long. It's quite probable that Lilith and Rue, through the deception of the latter, kickstarted this system and made Hell a more significant threat than it was before. Heaven sadly took notice of this and made, as Charlie described it, a truly heartless decision. They permitted Adam and the other extermination angels to systematically exterminate percentages of Hell's population so they wouldn't overtake Heaven in terms of sheer power.
We're gonna go down and exterminate demon ass.
It was a cold decision, but a calculated one. I mean, if all it took for Rue to invade the world was one person eating an apple, who's to say how much devastation a bunch of superpowered overlords could cause? And then that overlord. No discussion of Hazbin Hotel's lore would be complete without some attention to our boy Alistair, the most complicated and intriguing character in the ensemble cast. Back in 2018, before the pilot was even released, the Hazbin Hotel Twitter account released several character profiles detailing aspects of the sinners' lives and deaths before Hell. One of these describes Alistair as a former radio host and southern serial killer who died in 1933 and made a big mark upon debuting in Hell. Combining his two great loves of showboating and serial murder, good ol' Al stepped into the scene by killing numerous overlords in rapid succession, broadcasting their tortured screams for all to hear. He was very infamous throughout Hell for just how quickly he rose to prominence, to the point where Charlie and Vaggie needed no introduction to him, and the latter was shocked that Angel Dust didn't know about him.
Pleasure to be meeting you, sweetheart. Quite a pleasure.
Given just how unusual it was for a sinner/overlord to gain power so quickly to the point where even some prominent overlords looked weak in comparison, it's been speculated that Alistair's deal is with Lilith, especially given that at the time of the show's start, both have been gone for 7 years. Like, come on, the same number? There's no way that's a coincidence, right? But we digress. Theories aside, we have a whole video for those. All that matters is that Alistair is the most unpredictable overlord we've met so far, and given his clear distress at not having freedom, we can only hope there's at least some good in that soul of his. But what about the sinners? After the overlords, there are sinners to consider, the people who lived less than honest lives on Earth and find their new home in Hell as a result. We don't know a ton about most of the characters' lives before Hell, likely because that's going to be a focus later on in the series, but there is still the matter of those aforementioned biographies. We'll save Charlie for later since she was born in Hell, but as for the others, in order of confirmed death years, there's Sir Pentius, who died in 1888. He was an unstable inventor in the Victorian era. Given his personality and struggles in Hell, my best guess is that he contributed to making weapons of mass destruction, and one of these might just have backfired on the poor guy. Then Alistair, who died in 1933, we talked about him already, so on to Angel Dust, who died in 1947. He's been stated to have at least 2 siblings elsewhere, though we haven't met them in the series yet, and in this bio it's stated that he drowns out his world with narcotics and a twisted sense of humor. Sadly, this would be what took his life, as he's confirmed to have died of an overdose. Katie Killjoy, remember when she was relevant? Anyway, she died in 1992 and was a scummy news broadcaster in real life. Perhaps she tried to uncover some shady business for the ratings, but got killed in the process. Heck, maybe Tom went along with her for the sake of money, who knows? Finally, there's Vaggie, who died in 2014. We have by far the least info on her of this bunch, but given how it's later revealed that Vaggie is a fallen angel, we know that she actually went to heaven, so her cause of death was probably less scandalous. Our best guess is that she died in defense of herself or someone else, given how knives and short-temperedness are still major aspects of her character in the afterlife. As for the rest of the ensemble cast, there's not much, if any, canon information about their pre-afterlife existences. To make up for that, how about a lightning round? Fun facts: Husk is a big fan of magic shows, with VivziePop describing it as the one thing that melts his heart. Nifty is apparently the only straight character in the hotel. Fat Nuggets was a gift from Valentino. Okay, so I guess everyone's got at least one good attribute, okay. Vox was originally an older box-style TV as opposed to his flat-screen design, implying that he either changes forms with age or can shapeshift to some degree. Finally, make way for Charlie! Sometime over 200 years ago, Lucifer and Lilith decided to bring their little ray of hellshine into the world, and so Charlie Morningstar was born. As a child, some of her fondest memories are her father Lucifer sharing his visions for the world with her. Memories that, after their heartfelt reunion, would be remastered in glorious HD. Hell definition. Charlie has both angel and demon in her blood, and as such is one of the strongest and most ambitious characters. Exhausted of the constant extermination of her people, you know, as anyone would be, she comes up with a plan to rehabilitate them in her happy hotel, later to be renamed the Hazbin Hotel. And, well, you know the rest, right? Sure, there's the tiny detail that the hotel was just destroyed and is now the primary target of a war between heaven and hell, and that Charlie is changing the very fabric of the afterlife by proving that sinners in hell can be redeemed, and therefore heaven has been killing actual people with irrefutable evidence.
Oh. Hello?
But tiny details like that surely won't be important until later on. See you guys whenever Season 2 comes out, with a video that I'm sure is gonna be at least twice as long. There's already a full-on war between both sides of the afterlife, so today we're ranking Hazbin Hotel characters from weak to powerful. Since every character in this series is supernatural to some degree, we've decided to start with a tier specifically for the characters who aren't quite in danger of taking over the underworld. These are the C-tier characters. Making for a pretty easy bottom spot choice are the Egg Boys. I can't imagine we need to explain this decision too thoroughly. The Egg Boys, as suggested by their name, are eggs. They're not big, nor particularly strong, and their yolks are not exactly the best substitutes for brains. Given how fragile they are, they're generally used as little helpers for significantly stronger characters, so while they're great as support, there's not much room to doubt that they're the series' weakest characters. Landing in second to last place is news co-anchor Tom Trench. We can't say that we're entirely sure why Tom is constantly wearing a gas mask, or maybe it's just his face. It could make him more versatile in more toxic terrains. In any case, he's not really impressing us in terms of strength so far. He's physically pretty tiny and gets pushed around by Katie on screen constantly. Given the lack of any self-defense we see from him, unless Katie is just way stronger than we realize, it's safe to assume that Tom is relatively weak. That said, it's also safe to assume he's pretty durable given how much he gets pushed around. The same can be said for the character you were surely all waiting for, Mimsy. We're gonna give Mimsy some credit because, at the very least, she somehow managed to borrow $50,000 from some literal loan sharks, but rather than investing it in a controversial AMV, she just ran off to Hazbin Hotel to get some free protection from her old buddy Alistair. Whatever powers she may or may not have, the fact that she defaulted to seeking outside protection is a pretty strong indication that she can't compete with most of the sinner demons.
Watch it, tall, dark, and creepy.
Her skills at dancing and showmanship might just give her the upper hand in a melee battle, but that's a big might. Now the character you've actually been waiting for, the legend himself, Fat Nuggets. We couldn't help but mention him, despite him being a pet with less than a minute of total screen time so far, because while Fat Nuggets doesn't have any powerful feats to speak of yet, there's also the fact of Razzle and Dazzle's transformations to consider. While they also start off as cute little pets, they can transform into gigantic, powerful dragons that can fly and fight pretty. There's no proof that Fat Nuggets has a similar transformation, and if he did, we feel like he would have probably sent Valentino to double hell by now, but we'd be surprised if there wasn't at least one skill he hasn't used quite yet. For now, we're giving him the highest placement we can. Now, we do know that Kiki has a transformation. It's just not much of an intimidating one. Doubling as a cat and the key to the hotel itself, Kiki's main powers are shapeshifting and agility. We wouldn't suggest counting on Kiki to get you out of a turf war, but she would definitely be useful in finding a place to retreat to if things get too intense. Everyone's favorite homophobic news anchor, Katie Killjoy, is up next. As we mentioned in Tom's entry earlier, she's constantly pushing him around on camera, whether it's by pouring hot coffee on his crotch or shoving him off screen effortlessly. Katie is physically strong enough to swat away weaker opponents like flies, well, provided they're as small and relatively powerless as Tom, that is. Rounding out the C tier is the only character flies should be even more wary of, Nifty. As the Hazbin Hotel's housekeeper, Nifty is obsessed with keeping everything neat and tidy. Her tiny size and ability to fly ensures that she can reach all those stubborn cobwebs, but what about her fighting skills? Well, while she's not exactly the most powerful attacker nor the most brilliant strategist, Nifty's more than capable of joining her friends in battle when her help is needed.
We're all gonna die!
Let's not forget that she was the one who dealt the finishing blow to Adam, after all, showing that she's definitely got some weapon proficiency on her resume. Nifty's strength comes from her unpredictability in battle more than anything else. There are much bigger threats, but Nifty's definitely the type you want on your side, so just give her a knife and tell her explicitly who to stab. But if you're looking to hire a Hellhound bounty hunter, you might want to consider the other resumes too. These are the B tier characters. Kicking off this tier is our favorite duply armed actor, Angel Dust. As we saw in the pilot during his and Cherry's fight with Serpentius, Angel is skilled with a variety of weapons, most notably machine guns. While machine guns aren't exactly as dangerous in hell as they would be in the human realm, there's still nothing to scoff at, and with Angel having 4 arms at his disposal, we can assume that he has even greater control over his weapons than the average fighter. On top of that, he's shown to be able to fight alongside Cherry Bomb, showing that he's pretty agile and durable. Angel is a strong fighter who can hold his own in most cases. That said, it's here where we need to start considering the power dynamics in hell, specifically in regards to contracts. Angel Dust's soul is owned by Valentino, meaning that he's kept on a tight leash and that his freedom is limited. That said, he's been shown to have control over his actions when he's not on the clock, so he's still got some autonomy over his choices. Regardless, that lack of total freedom is an inherent downside that'll keep him from landing any higher. In a similar vein is our next character, Husk. Husk is one of the series' more intelligent characters. He's skilled in deceiving others and has a gift for gambling with literal souls. This made him a formidable overlord for a time, until he lost his own soul to Alistair. We place him a bit higher than Angel for 2 reasons. 1, he's also capable of flight in addition to his intellectual and practical skills, and 2, he was an overlord at one point, meaning that we almost certainly haven't seen his full potential yet. Returning to villain territory, next is Velvet. Self-described as the backbone of the V's, and she said so in a musical number, so you know she meant it, Velvet actually might be more honest with that description than you'd think. Like the other V's, she's less of a blatant fighter and more concerned with her influence over Hell's media. With that being said, it makes sense that she's not much of a fighter from what we've seen, which really isn't too much, but she is resourceful, using her connections with Vox and Valentino to help spread their influence over Hell, and even being shown to have a potion business. While she's more of a string puller behind the curtain, Velvet is still audacious and formidable on even her worst day. Next is another overlord, Rosie. As the ruler of Cannibal Town, Rosie is noteworthy for keeping them, mostly, in check. Despite the nature of her job and culture, Rosie is a cool-headed and thoughtful person. She hasn't been shown to fight yet, and she seems to be one of the weaker overlords in terms of sheer power. Still, she's not to be slept on. Not being as strong as the other overlords doesn't take away from the fact that she is one, after all. Blowing up the next spot is Cherry Bomb. We mentioned that Angel was pretty skilled with weapons, but Cherry puts even him to shame. She is less of a gunhead though. As her name suggests, Cherry's specialty is kickboxing. Wait, nope, that's not right. Oh, okay, yeah, it's bombs. She can conjure them, throw them ridiculously long distances, and with her skillful aim, can be as reckless or precise as she needs to be with them. And while we were joking with the kickboxing line, it's worth mentioning that Cherry is agile and strong enough to fight alongside the rest of the hotel staff against the Angels, so the girl's got some moves and some stamina. The ever-reliable Razzle and Dazzle are sharing the next spot. You know the power levels of a universe are crazy when the literal dragons aren't even in the second highest tier. Razzle and Dazzle might look small at first, but their enormous transformations more than make up for that. They can provide transportation and battle support to Charlie and will do anything to protect her and her loved ones, with Dazzle even dying during his and Vaggy's fight with Loot. Now, rounding out B tier is everyone's favorite slithering redemption arc, Serpentius. As much of a goofball as he might be, Pentius is actually quite a threat in one-on-one combat. He has a huge arsenal of weapons at his disposal, from a giant airship complete with a death ray to a whip-like he can restrain and slam opponents with. Oh, and that's not to mention his army of egg boys who, although weak on their own, provide great support in his sometimes evil, usually good schemes. Given the sheer variety of skills and resources at his disposal, we think Serpentius deserves the highest spot in our middle-of-the-road tier. He was able to hold his own against both Angel and Cherry at once, and has been shown to have some powers he rarely uses, like briefly stunning Angel Dust with a hypnotic stare. Now that he's in heaven, who knows what he'll be capable of? We'll have to wait to find out. Meanwhile, you won't have to wait at all to find out who made it to our A tier. Valentino kicks off this category. We've yet to see a proper fight of his in the series so far, but given the sheer amount of influence he has, it's pretty safe to say that he'd probably do just fine in most scenarios. His charm rarely fails to sway those he's interested in, making him a man with friends in all sorts of places. Sadly, though, friends isn't a purely good term here. Valentino simply has a lot of people in a lot of places who are willing to do his bidding, or rather know better than to refuse him. That said, he's also short-tempered and lacks the composure that would be needed to win a battle of attrition. Basically, if he's overpowered by an opponent, he's not likely to make a comeback. Driven by detestation, Vaggie has managed to earn an honorable spot in the A tier. As a former extermination angel, Vaggie has no doubt killed more than her fair share of sinners. Normally, being an angel would automatically get her an even higher spot on the list in terms of power, but sadly, an act of compassion led to her being stripped of both her wings and her position. As a result, Vaggie not only lost her powers, but most of her skills as well. It took intense training with Carmilla Carmine in order for her to regain her battle proficiency with angelic weapons, and even her wings ultimately. We only place her this low because, like we mentioned earlier, she's just now getting back into the swing of fighting, but given her newly regained angel wings and an arsenal of anti-angel weaponry, it's only a matter of time before we see even more of what Vaggie's made of. Fittingly, landing right above her is Carmilla. Just as Velvet suspected, Carmilla was the demon who managed to infamously slay an angel in defense of her daughters. It's one thing to have proficiency with weapons that most of Hell's people can use, but to be able to use weapons that are highly exclusive and able to kill angels is a huge plus for Carmilla's skill set. Given her skills at both dance and hand-to-hand combat, at the same time might I add, we can also assume Carmilla has no problem with endurance during a fight. Resourceful, intelligent, and durable, Carmilla's one of the toughest overlords we've seen so far. She's credited with dealing the very weapons the hotel used to defend themselves against the extermination, which earns her a lot of brownie points on our list. But call us crazy if you will, we're going to give Vox the final spot in our A tier. Out of all the Vs, and perhaps the overlords in general, Vox is the one with a power set that most easily lets him gain control over others. He has control over electricity to the point where he can do anything from lighting his partner's cigarette to traveling across hell through various electric channels. Given his control over electricity, he also has the most direct control over Hell's media out of the Vs. That said, we have to ask the same question as Alistair. Is Vox really as strong as he purports? We haven't seen him fight after all. While he has a ton of power and influence, he might truly just be the man behind the curtain. Currently, there's no telling how he'd do in actual combat, but in any case, he's earned a formidable spot on our list so far. We now enter the characters with such immense power that even the A-tier fighters pale in comparison. This is the S tier. We could very well be wrong about Emily being the lowest in our S tier, but we're fairly sure she at least belongs this high, at the risk of sounding biased. The reason is simple. Emily's an angel, not a fallen or wounded angel like Vaggie even. She's pure, bona fide angel. As such, while we haven't seen Emily fight yet, her angelic powers are surely immense if she works on relatively even footing with Sarah, but with no feats to go off of, we sadly can't place her any higher. She's not as pleasant of an angel, but Lute absolutely earned her place as Adam's second in command. Lute can fly, has highly trained senses, is proficient in melee combat, and, of course, has mighty angelic power. She's also among the fiercest fighters in Adam's army, to the point where even Adam himself is sometimes put off by just how angry she gets. Oh, and let's not forget that she killed Dazzle pretty easily despite his massive size. Now, it feels downright wrong to place Alistair outside of our top 5. Having appeared out of absolutely nowhere, Alistair toppled high-ranking overlords like it was nothing, and when he finally returned 7 years later, Charlie's Hotel would act as a testimony to his power. Alistair has great powers of conjuring and transformation, able to protect the hotel with minimal effort even against strong opponents. When Serpentius manages to take a single thread off his suit, Alistair tells him that's near the absolute closest anyone's come to actually hitting him. With all that being said, it might seem ridiculous to place Alistair anywhere below the top 3 at least, but there's one factor we have to consider: contracts. Yes, Alistair is the last character on our list whose soul is on a tight leash bound to someone else. That's not to say that he's not extremely powerful. He was able to fight on even footing with Adam, a top-ranking angel, until his staff was broken. But the fact of the matter is, Alistair still has limitations on his power, and hopefully it's only a matter of time before we get to see his full power unleashed, on the good side, hopefully. Entering the top 5 is our final overlord, the mighty Zestial. Minimal screen time aside, Zestial lands this high on our list for the simple fact that he's the oldest overlord in Hell. We haven't seen him fight yet. In fact, the only power of his we've really seen was him conjuring a cup of tea out of thin air. Nonetheless, his eternally cool head and the fact that even Alistair seems to respect and maybe even fear Zestial makes him a character we want to keep our eyes on. Just outside of the top 3 is the leading lady herself, Charlie Morningstar. It's easy to forget just how insanely powerful Charlie actually is in an objective sense. Being the daughter of Lucifer and Lilith, Charlie has some angelic attributes aside from her personality, and some demonic ones. She has the wings of an angel allowing for flight, and the transformation abilities shared by many demons. When she fought Adam, she managed to fling him into a wall with one hand and made him bleed. Let us reiterate, Charlie, without even using her full power, made the top-ranking extermination angel bleed. Charlie isn't one to fight often, but when she does, you'd better watch out. That said, while we don't yet know the nature of her deal with Alistair, it could potentially threaten at least some of her power, but either way, these last three characters are even stronger. The Bronze Medal of Power goes to Adam. The ever-entertaining main villain of the season, Adam, like in the biblical lore, is the first man ever created. Unlike in biblical lore, however, he's also a psychopath who approves of genocide. Any angelic power that could apply to other angels applies doubly to him. He can fly, levitate, conjure objects, has great resilience, and can only be harmed by those at or near his power level, and only if they have angelic weapons or power of their own. We hate to have to relive this moment, but let's think back on Serpentius' demise in the final battle. That gigantic airship we gave him praise for earlier? Sure, it got destroyed by Alistair once before, but he's also much stronger in general. So surely it'll put up some fight against Adam, right? Okay, and there we go, he one-shots it. Like, poof! Just a giant death ray to the face. It's hard to even imagine someone more powerful than a guy who can do that without breaking a sweat. But the Silver Medal of Power goes to the final full-on angel of the list, Sarah. Sarah is the highest-ranking angel we've met so far. While Adam is the leader of the extermination army, Sarah is the one who approved of their pitch out of what she saw as necessary. This begs the question, though, of why Sarah isn't participating. Is she just not strong enough to keep up with Adam? Not likely. So, on the contrary, we've got a feeling that Sarah is prioritizing her image and that of heaven as a whole by staying out of the conflict. Obviously, this doesn't work forever, but like, she's a top-ranking angel. If Sarah has authority over even Adam to the point where he has to ask her permission to go to war, surely she has some crazy amount of power we don't know about, right? Well, in any case, the Gold Medal of Power was definitely the easiest decision we made on the list. It's a tie between Lucifer and Lilith. Lilith is the one who civilized hell and made it what it is. Lucifer, on the other hand, is just a powerful showboat in every sense of the word. Don't let his goofy demeanor fool you. Lucifer has a list of skills that stretches farther than Nifty's criminal record. Pretty much any power we've mentioned a demon or angel having so far, Lucifer either has, such as flight, immense angelic power, and conjuring, or can imitate. Even aside from his sheer fighting prowess, shown by him absolutely decimating Adam when rebuilding the hotel, Lucifer was able to conjure up all the materials needed to get the job done in no time. We might not have seen Lilith fight yet, but there's no doubt she's just as tough as Lucifer, if not, potentially more so. And if the theory of her being the one owning Alistair's soul is true, oh, Charlie, you're gonna have quite the power to inherit. Did you really think we were done talking about Hazbin Hotel? Not quite yet, and this is just season 1, baby. We've talked about morality, criminality, theories, queries. Oh, here we go. Shipping. Every fandom's greatest aspect, or worst nightmare, depending on where you stand. Hazbin's communities come up with no shortage of popular ships with its pivotal characters, so you know what that means. We've got a question to answer. Which romances and would-be romances are downright heavenly, and which ones are toxic as hell? I'm Keith Finosi with Wicked Binge, and today we're talking about Hazbin Hotel's ships and whether they sink, swim, or sail. If you need a reminder of the rules, here's how it works. Sink means that we don't ship it. Sail means that we do. And swim is somewhere in between, but we aren't denying the potential. For the best of the best and the worst of the worst, we also have the 5-star cruise and shipwrecked categories, respectively. But let's start with the steadiest ship in the show so far, Charlie x Vaggie. Their relationship took center stage for a lot of season 1, and we got to see basically everything we needed to say that we ship it. Their relationship started when Vaggie was left in hell as punishment for sparing a sinner demon child during one of the exterminations. Her act of kindness was rewarded as quickly as it was punished when Charlie came to her aid. From then on, these two became crucial sources of comfort and support for each other. Vaggie acts as support for Charlie's hotel and her endless optimism, and Charlie acts as an emotional support who keeps Vaggie from falling too far into the negative.
God, I'm such a bad liar.
Vaggie, you're my partner.
It's as close to a match made in heaven as you could get in hell. We'd be crazy not to ship it, really. Even the bombshell of Vaggie being a former extermination angel can't stop this one from being too adorable to ship. While we're on the most popular ships, let's talk about one that may or may not become canon, Husk x Angel Dust. This ship is one of, if not the most popular ship in the fandom so far, and it's not hard at all to see why. Their chemistry from the Loser Baby musical number and onwards is worthy of being called one of the series' most endearing relationships so far. Like many characters in the show, both of them their character journeys are pretty damn blatant. Husk straight up says he's lost the ability to love in the pilot, and Angel he's just, we love him, but the guy's a mess in general. And this premise of two complete messes coming together not to make each other less messy, but to help each other deal with life despite their messes, makes this ship infinitely appealing to many fans. Frankly, we'd gladly call it a 5-star cruise, but we're gonna go more middle of the road and ship it. This isn't because we have any complaints about the potential of this ship, but rather it's just that this ship would work every bit as well as a platonic friendship. Granted, Angel does have Cherry to fill the friend category, so we can see why this one's thrown right into romantic territory by the fans, and the two becoming an item would effectively fix Husk's inability to love, given that by his own admission, Angel is the only person he's found that can relate to his situation.
Well, we could improv this shit, baby cakes. Rawr.
However you slice it, the equal potential here for romance and bromance makes this a top tier for both categories. Staying on the topic of top tiers, next we have Zestial x Carmilla. And look, we're not gonna waste your time here. 5-star cruise. You cannot show us a soulful musical number by a struggling single mother turned potential war criminal prompted by a gentlemanly overlord who just wanted to know how his old friend was doing and not expect us to ship it. There's mutual respect between these two, from Carmilla's daughters clearly trusting Zestial to Zestial not betraying his friend's confidence, and they have perhaps the most sincerely healthy relationship in the whole series. And if romance means we see more of these two, that's just another perk in its favor. But enough of all these sweet ships for now. It's time for something a bit more controversial. Enter Vox x Valentino. Do bad guys deserve love? Well, we're not here to answer that question today, but we'll acknowledge that, deserved or not, they often find it. Case in point, Vox and Valentino, who seem to have a sort of on-again, off-again fling going on. This one's questionable for a few reasons. The first is, obviously, there's not really much of a desire to see either of these two happy. Don't get me wrong, we love Vox as a character, and we love Vox as a character, but they're both among the most pure evil villains introduced so far. And second, we doubt this relationship is much more than what we described it as earlier, an on-again, off-again fling between villains.
What did you just say?
Still, they have fun chemistry, which is at least worth something. So this ship can swim. We could go with or without it, but it leads to some fun interactions between the two. And while we're talking about the V's, let's bring Velvet into the mix. What about Vox x Velvet? Someone's thought of it, surely. With Vox's hold on the media and Velvet's status as a top-tier influencer and fashion designer, these two would make one, literal hell of a power couple. That said, we have to ask just what about them really screams romance? If anything, Velvet seems to find Vox and Val's romance endearing, so unless they got a polyamorous thing going on, we'll have to sink this one. And even if it were a poly thing, come on, can we really trust any of these three in a relationship setting? Oh no. Now it's time to bring everyone's favorite psychotic radio host into the discussion with the ship of Charlie x Alistair. It's practically inevitable that when a show has a character who's sweet as cotton candy and another as endearingly malicious as a melted SpongeBob popsicle, there are gonna be some people shipping them. And to be fair, Charlie and Alistair have a great dynamic. Charlie's open-mindedness and Alistair's mysterious nature make every interaction between them as hilarious as it is weirdly wholesome. That said, we've got to sink this one. Look, we want these two to be on good terms at the end of the series as much as the next guy, but per Alistair's own words, Charlie is like the daughter he wishes he had. While he mainly said that to screw with Lucifer, it implies that there's enough of an age gap between them for Alistair to at least potentially see her as a sort of daughter figure. There are some cute moments between the two, but they never go beyond a pseudo-familial bond, so while we hope to see more of their interactions, we don't want them to become a romantic item. Speaking of opposites attract ships, next we have Lucifer x Adam. If there's one shipping dynamic even more inevitable than good guy x bad guy, it's got to be two people who absolutely freaking hate each other. Enter Lucifer and Adam, two guys who met through their relationships with the same girl and the eventual fall of mankind that resulted. While we see the appeal of this ship from a fan art perspective, there's just no way these two would work out on any level.
Don't forget, you're in my house!
Especially since Adam is, double dead, and also hurt Lucifer's daughter. This one's a shipwreck, but for you opposites attract fans out there, it's hard to get more on the nose than this one. Staying on the topic of hate shipping, why not talk about one of Lucifer's other foes next? It's Lucifer x Alistair. This one at least seems somewhat more plausible than the previous. Playing devil's advocate here, pun intended. Lucifer and Alistair are both invested in Charlie and her hotel.
Who is this? Who is this man? Are you the bellhop?
Though for very different reasons, it seems. It's also possible that Alistair genuinely genuinely cares about Charlie to an extent, and he does play a big role in protecting her. So while it's unlikely that these two are going to have any kind of hallmark love story, it's entirely possible that they could become allies through mutual care for our favorite hell-dwelling princess. We're surprisingly going to give this one a swim. We're not shipping them, but these two could definitely use more screen time together. Whether they become buddies, enemies, or lovers remains to be seen, and it's almost definitely going to be enemies, but you know what? Just color us curious about it. Consider it an ongoing investment in entertainment for ourselves. And okay, alright. We can't avoid talking about Alistair X Vox. This is so far the king of hate shipping in the Hazbin community, and it's easy enough to see why. Stayed Gone is one of the best moments in the show so far, and it's just these two talking and singing about how much they hate each other and their forms of entertainment. There's no doubt that these two have some serious baggage between them, and we're certainly curious to see how Vox went about asking Alistair to join the V's. That said, sometimes good old-fashioned bitter business rivalry is better than any romance that could spawn from it, so we have to sync this one. That said, love song or not, we need another duet between these two. Oh, you didn't think we were done with the hate ships yet, did you? Next up is Killjoy x Tom Trench.
Good evening. I'm Katie Killjoy.
And I'm...
Nobody gives a who you are, Tom.
Man, you know what? We really thought that going into this, we'd say these two are a total shipwreck, given how awful Katie is to Tom and how one of Tom's only character traits so far is that he likes objectifying women. But then we thought about it, and these two totally deserve each other. The mutual bullying and top-tier slapstick to go on between them would actually be some pretty good stuff. A classic love-hate, but mostly hate relationship. It'd be like something straight out of a Boomer comic. We ship this one. Yeah, we're surprised too, honestly. Now it's time to get back to some more wholesome ships. So next we have Cherry x Angel Dust. As his quintessential ride-or-die best friend, Cherry keeps Angel from falling too deep into despair. Whether that means getting him out of the house, or hotel, or comforting him after a rough day of working for Val, Cherry is a friend that Angel can always rely on, and this has led to some shipping the two as a romantic item. But while this feels harsh, we have to sync this ship. It's nothing personal really, but these two work so darn perfectly as friends. Also, apparently Angel is canonically gay, so even if we wanted this one to happen, it'd just be totally impossible. So Husker Dusk is the best bet. Don't worry though, because Cherry's got another apple in her eye. Cherry x Serpentius is up next, and this ship is as adorable as it is hilarious. Their explosive rivalry turned into lighthearted flirting bouts by Cherry's reintroduction in episode 6.
Well, if it isn't my arch nemesis.
This ultimately resulted in Serpentius' final moment before his sacrifice being a kiss with his crush.
That was kind of hot.
If that weren't cute enough, notice how there are kiss marks on his little head flaps in his heaven design. These two deserve a 5-star cruise in heaven, which will hopefully happen when Cherry surely finds redemption of her own to reunite with her frenemy turned lover. With that, we're only missing one of the hotel's residents. Nifty x Husk introduces our favorite housekeeper into the fray. Understandably, Nifty doesn't really get a lot of shipping action. She's a character who's meant to be more cute, silly, and childlike than the others, so this is natural. And really, she doesn't have a lot of viable love interests. The closest we could find is Nifty x Husk, which, yeah, considering Nifty seems to see Husk as somewhere between a pet and a big brother figure, we're gonna say sync for this one. Sorry, Nifty. Here's hoping you find the bad boy of your dreams one day.
I'm ready to punish some bad boys.
Speaking of bad boys, let's take one last trip to heaven to talk about Lute x Adam. Really, it's never made entirely clear what the nature of these two's relationship was. We do know that they were loyal to each other though. Adam's death crushed Lute enough for her to shed a tear, and Adam's smile as he passed was one of his only compassionate moments in the series. Given how little we know about their feelings for each other, we're going to say this ship can swim for now. Hopefully, Lute's future arcs will reveal more about how their connection was behind the scenes, but for now, there's neither much information nor a lot of likelihood we'll be seeing more of their interactions. And we'd feel wrong if we didn't include Charlie's parents, Lilith x Lucifer. This is a rough one, given how shrouded in mystery Lilith is, and how complex and also mysterious Lucifer is. Why exactly these two star-crossed lovers separated is anyone's guess. A pretty safe bet is conflict of interest, however. While Lucifer grew depressed in hell, Lilith saw the opportunity to really make something out of it. This surely had to be at least part of why they parted ways, and why Lilith felt the need to distance Charlie from him. But what if that's not their whole story? What if Lilith's work in civilizing hell was done to help cheer Lucifer up? Heck, maybe the reason she's in heaven is that she's trying to, behind the scenes, create a world where her family still has hope. That's probably being way too optimistic, but with how much this show's lore we don't know yet, it's possible. And no, what the heck, we're suckers for happy ending, so sail on, you two, and maybe don't ghost your kid for 7 years while you're sailing this time. Just my thoughts on the matter. Grade point averages are probably the least of the Hazbin Hotel cast's concerns, but considering it pretty much falls right into our job description, we're more than happy to take the burden of judging them for it on ourselves. In this war between heaven and hell, who are the greatest intellectual assets, and which ones fall on the other side of the spectrum? I'm Keefe Nosy with Wicked Binge, and this is Hazbin Hotel characters dumb to brilliant.
Welcome to the Hazbin Hotel.
As usual, we'll be working our way from the least intellectually gifted to the most utterly brilliant characters in the show. These characters are not the brightest. In what's likely an unsurprising revelation, the Egg Boys are taking the bottom spot on our list. It's ironic that the characters who are literal eggheads are by far the furthest from intelligent, but that's exactly where the charm of these little guys comes from. The Egg Boys are simple creatures who follow the orders of whomever has orders. They don't really question much of anything, and they're fiercely dedicated to the orders of, again, whomever they're serving, but that doesn't stop them from being generally incompetent. A perfect example of this comes when Alistair tells everyone's favorite character, Frank, to spy on the Overlord's meeting in episode 3. While he's successful in doing so, that night he immediately tells Serpentius about Camilla's angel-sidal secrets, despite Alistair telling him to keep it between the two of them. He even mentions the fact that he wasn't supposed to tell anyone, making this even more of a mark against his IQ score. By Serpentius' own admission, they just say crazy stuff all the time. Eventually, you just have to take it with a grain of salt.
Now go clean my quarters this instant!
The Egg Boys are certainly loyal, but if you're looking for much more than that, you might be best looking, I don't know, anywhere else. Up next we have the hotel's pets, who fall into a similar category. Fat Nuggets, Kiki, Razzle, and Dazzle are certainly nowhere near as insane or occasionally incompetent as the Egg Boys. In fact, they're perfectly darn functional. They demonstrate the ability to follow simple orders and even have a surprising amount of emotional intelligence, like Razzle and Dazzle bringing Charlie tissues when she's crying, or Fat Nuggets having a sixth sense for when Angel's upset. They're not geniuses, but they're simple creatures who are doing their jobs just fine. But obviously, being that they're pets, they don't really have the same level of intellect as the humanoid characters. Rounding out this category, we have the first proper member of the hotel staff, Nifty. To Nifty's credit, she's at least a semi-competent housekeeper. That does not, however, cancel out the more impulsive and unstable aspects of her personality. Nifty has a childlike state of mind, generally just doing whatever she feels like until someone tells her to do something else, for better or for worse. Nifty often misunderstands simple instructions, from not realizing that she actually needs to say her lines to the camera during a commercial shoot, to mistaking Charlie's encouragement to stab any angel she sees as a request to stab Angel. But who knows? For all we know about her so far, this could be an Izzy from Total Drama case where her insanity is more like the cherry on top of a secretly brilliant mind, or maybe, like we said in a previous video, it's a Gur from Invader Zim case where she's just plain crazy.
I'm ready to punish some bad boys.
Either way, one thing's for sure, she definitely followed Charlie's instructions by the end of the day, because Adam is not coming back from that. Next, we move on to the characters who aren't particularly dumb nor smart. These characters have adequate intelligence. First up, we have probably the most average intelligence characters in the cast, Katie Killjoy and Tom Trench. Really, these co-anchors of Channel 666 News both demonstrate a total lack of sensitivity for others, from Katie abusing Tom on camera to Tom making risque comments about women, also on camera. They don't have any particularly brilliant traits, but they're both competent enough to do their jobs just fine, albeit rather unprofessionally. Bursting onto the scene next is Cherry Bomb. With an arsenal every bit as explosive as her personality, Cherry is a reckless anarchist who's always itching for a fight. She's a skilled fighter who has excellent proficiency with weapons, particularly, you guessed it, explosives. She's able to not only organize her own attacks against other sinner demons like Serpentius, but also manages to use her destructive skills for the good of others, like helping Angel protect the hotel from the angels.
Here, hold this.
While Cherry isn't brilliant by any means, she isn't really trying to be. To be blunt, she's a free spirit who likes blowing stuff up, and if that means an occasional bit of property damage, so be it. Though we will compliment her on her opportunistic side, shown when she invited all the hotel staff out with her and Angel when Charlie offered her money to do so. She's not gonna be discovering the cure to cancer, but if you need someone to help you blow up some bad guys, Cherry's your girl. It pains us to say it, but Angel's boss, Valentino, has made it higher than his ride or die bestie. Can you guys tell what our stance on old Val is yet? Being a total creep who uses his weird moth roofy saliva stuff to brainwash people into working for him, there's no low this nasty little mothball won't sink to in order to get what he wants. There's also very little that will stop him from doing what he wants in general, no matter how reckless. He often has to be reeled in by Vox before he does something stupid, like attacking the hotel just because Angel happens to be staying there.
Which of these makes me look sexier?
He's he's frankly a detriment to his own brand, and Alistair's roast to Vox would have been better placed against him. He really would be powerless without the other V's. For all his influence, Val isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. His influence over his workers is due in large part to the aforementioned roofie saliva. As threatening as he can be, he's more of a superpowered, sleazy brute than anything else. The best we could give him as a compliment on his intellectual side is that he has pretty good business skills, but that's all he's getting from us. Now it's time to talk about the season's more central villain, Adam. While Adam is a huge threat to demonkind, that threat does not come from his intellectual side. We'll give him this. He has reasonably good leadership skills, is a skilled fighter, and managed to convince Sarah, with Lute's help, to give her blessing to the idea of exterminations to prevent a possible uprising. That said, Adam's greatest weakness is easily his impulsive, arrogant attitude. He wants to handle problems right as they pop up, in whatever way he feels like it. Reason be darned.
It's almost out of time. Guess we should get into it.
We see this most notably in episode 6, Welcome to Heaven, in which he wants to fight Vaggie and Charlie immediately upon seeing them in heaven, totally ignoring the countless onlookers who would see this display of violence. Later in the episode, he slips up and ends up revealing the exterminations to the entirety of heaven, the one thing Sarah told him not to do, even after being warned about the danger of doing precisely that by Lute earlier in the episode.
Don't shush me.
If you had any doubts about his ego, look no further than his temper tantrum right before being defeated, which basically proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that, to him, this was never about protecting heaven, it was about stepping on the people beneath him. Very classy. From an extermination angel to a hotel vacation angel, next up is Angel Dust. The first guest of Hazbin Hotel has similar skills to his best friend Cherry, proficiency in weapons and a shrewd opportunistic side. He's able to think of some creative ways to use his work as a porn star and the skills that come with it to further the hotel's progress and get himself out of a variety of bad situations.
Do you really expect me to memorize this whole script?
Angel is also highly perceptive. He can tell when someone spiked his drink and often picks up on potentially dangerous situations before those around him, like when he protected Nifty from Valentino in a nightclub. His struggle with self-loathing can sometimes lead him to stifling his own potential, but Angel Dust has overall proven to be a reliable friend to the hotel, both morally and intellectually, which earns him a modest but respectable place on our list. Now it's time to talk about the princess of hell herself, Charlie Morningstar. Charlie is the go-getting heart and soul of the Hazbin Hotel, a girl with a huge heart for the people whom the afterlife has mostly left behind to rot. Determined to save her routinely exterminated people, Charlie is eternally optimistic and wants to see the good in everyone, which is simultaneously her greatest strength and weakness. Look, we love Charlie as much as everyone else, but it's impossible to deny that her optimism can sometimes go straight into naive territory. We see examples of this in her few attempts to use her political power as the princess of hell to further her goals. She fails to convince Valentino to give Angel some time off from work and actually ends up making Angel's day even rougher by ticking his boss off. She also gets the exterminations moved up on 2 separate occasions, and while the extent of her responsibility for that is debatable, it's definitely something worth mentioning either way. Her book smarts are pretty solid given that she was able to plot out the hotel idea and use various connections to get the ball rolling, but Charlie gets in over her head pretty often, the results of which can be disastrous. While you can bet that Charlie will do her darndest to clean up her messes, those messes can be pretty severe. She's capable, but she's usually going to need a lot of helping hands, and that keeps us from placing her any higher in the context of this list. Slithering into the tail end of this category is the lovable Sir Pentious. This supervillain turned super friend is difficult to rank for just how different his smarts are in different areas, but we think we've got the perfect way to explain it. Sir Pentious is a genius in terms of book smarts, but utterly hopeless in terms of street smarts. Let us explain. Sir Pentious is able to design a variety of deadly weapons of mass destruction entirely on his own. Well, with the help of the Egg Boys, but I mean, come on, we know they aren't doing much of the thinking.
Wait! I can't fight without my minions!
This shows that Sir Pentious has an extremely creative mind, excellent engineering skills, and overall combat prowess. That said, then there are his street smarts. Sir Pentious tends to be extremely naive and occasionally inept, from his intensely awkward flirtations with Cherry that lead to him buying drinks for and banging everyone in a nightclub, to thinking that Angel calling him daddy means that he's actually his son. While these traits are as endearing as they are hilarious, they're unfortunately keeping Pentious from ending up any higher on our list, but his heart more than makes up for his lack of brains. And the giant death ray blimp, that's kind of impressive too. We wish he'd gotten to use that longer. Now we're getting somewhere with the smarts. These characters are super sharp. First up is local hellbound influencer Velvet. The second of the V's, Velvet is a fashion-obsessed internet celebrity who cares more for appearances than anything else. She wears her heart, or sometimes lack of a heart, on her sleeve and doesn't hold back from telling people how she really feels, even if they're in higher positions of authority. This is most prominent in her relationship with Carmilla, who she shows practically zero respect for, but her reason for this is rocky to say the least. While Velvet's ambition to wage war against heaven after finding out that angels can be killed is debatable relatively respectable. Carmilla and Zestial do a great job of pointing out the flaws in her logic. The fact is, Hell isn't prepared for all-out war, and Velvet being quick to pitch the idea doesn't exactly paint her intelligence in the most flattering light.
Now, Shoo, take care of the piss baby.
Nonetheless, we give her points for her ambition and the successful amount of control she hovers over her portion of Hell's media. Former extermination angel Vaggie is next. Getting the obvious out of the way first, Vaggie managed to hide her true identity as an angel from her best friend Charlie, her girlfriend Charlie, for years. That alone showcases some pretty great skills of deception, albeit not great honesty. On top of that, Vaggie acts as a voice of reason for Charlie, offering her both emotional support and logical advice in her efforts to build up the hotel. She can also be quite persuasive, using her knowledge that Carmilla killed an angel to essentially strong-arm her into coughing up their weaknesses and training her. The worst we could reasonably say about Vaggie is that she can be a bit hot-headed, which, I mean, it's Hell. Isn't everyone's head hot here? Well, if you didn't like that joke, you're not alone. Husk is no easy audience to make laugh either. This former con artist overlord proved to have some pretty great gambling skills, specifically in the business of gambling with souls. You could honestly argue that doing this in general is kind of a dumb move, but I guess with great power comes great temptation to gamble or something. In any case, Husk's skills of deception and ability to usually keep a cool head earn him a lot of points, but his weaknesses come when that cool-headed persona slips up. Most notably when he gambled with Alistair and lost his soul, thus effectively ruining his afterlife and becoming enslaved to him.
You may own my soul, but I ain't your fucking pet.
Really though, the only reason he isn't higher is that the remaining characters are just that smart. Next up we have Rosie. One of Alistair's many friends across Hell, Rosie is the leader of Cannibal Town, using her influence to keep the admittedly horrifying place under control and well organized. She has great people skills shown by how organized the town is in general, at least by Cannibal Demon standards. She's able to not only rally the people of the town with her words, but to advise the people-pleasing Charlie to do the same, and if that weren't enough, Rosie can even offer some solid relationship advice. Honestly, for a cannibal, you could definitely do a lot worse than Rosie, in pretty much every sense of the word. Now we finally return to heaven to talk about Lute. Lute is the brains to Adam's brawn. Note, she also has brawn. She often finds herself reeling Adam in whenever he goes too far, like the aforementioned time she kept him from spilling about the exterminations. In terms of intelligence, Lute is basically all of Adam's leadership skills, but with his impulsivity replaced by some impressive strategic skills.
Angels don't make mistakes.
She never lets her emotions take over, even when witnessing Adam's death, which brings her to tears, but she's smart enough to call off the current battle so that no more casualties are suffered, though she's as hot-headed as she is strong-willed, and while that feels like splitting hairs, we really have to do that to order these last few. Moving on to an admittedly less morally questionable angel, next is Sarah. Regardless of anyone's views on her approval of Adam and Lute's genocides, Sarah has proven herself to be an intellectually, if not morally, reliable leader. Every decision she makes is calculated with the consideration of heaven's safety in mind, and given St. Peter and Emily's musical assurance,
every single day in heaven is a happy day.
We can't say that she seems to be doing a bad job. That said, her stuck-in-her-old-ways mentality sometimes leads her to deny or outright ignore any new ideas or evidence that conflicts with her own ways of thinking and acting. That's why we're placing her just below Emily, the last character in this category. We actually ended up placing Emily a lot higher than we expected, and frankly, we're pretty darn happy about that. Personality-wise, she's practically Charlie's heaven-dwelling doppelganger. Eternally optimistic, sees the good in everyone, and wants every human soul to have a fair shot.
Yeah, let's give him a chance.
But Emily is much more apt in using her political authority and less worried over what others think. When she finds out about Sarah approving of the exterminations and hiding it from the people, she openly tells her that she's disgusted and no longer respects her. Seeing the clear evidence in front of her, Emily's willing to hear Charlie out and accepts that it's possible for sinners to be reformed and even redeemed, expressing her support of Charlie's efforts. What's more is that we see that she was completely right in the last episode, where Serpentius successfully reaches heaven. The look on her face next to Sarah's tells you all you need to know, so we're rooting for this young angel to make an even bigger mark in season 2. For now, she's got a spotless track record when it comes to her intuition, and is only kept out of the top category because of her lack of experience compared to our final 5. Finally, we've reached the highest category of intelligence. These characters are truly brilliant. Kicking off our top 5 is Lucifer Morningstar, Charlie's until recently distant father. Don't let his long-winded, depressive state fool you. Lucifer's leadership skills and creative intuition were strong enough to get him cast down from heaven. He was a dreamer with great visions, but his rebellious actions tragically led to evil infiltrating Earth, and so he was forced to bear the guilt of responsibility for humanity's evils. But while Lucifer hasn't taken a lot of W's so far, he's still remarkably inventive and a shrewd opportunist. We're not just saying that because of his skill at creating incredible rubber duckies either, though that is part of it.
Take that,
depression.
Lucifer's devoted himself to support Charlie's dreams no matter the cost. He's been a great asset to the team so far, but before we move him any higher, he's gonna need to prove himself a bit more. Causing the downfall of a perfect world is a pretty big mark against you, man, accident or not. And the fact is that being someone with pure angelic power, he's practically at an advantage already, so from an intellectual standpoint, this feels like the fairest place to put him. Landing just outside of our top 3 is the man with currently the most influence over Hell's media, Vox. The age-old advice of don't get too close to that screen is certainly applicable to our favorite diabolical TV, because this guy's an absolute mastermind. He's able to manipulate people on both large and small scales, from turning the looming extermination threat into an advertisement for Vox angelic security, to successfully talking Valentino down from attacking the hotel on impulse.
Now that's why they pay you the big bucks.
He's also not above using people as disposable pawns, seen most notoriously when he convinced Sir Pentious to work as a spy in the Hazbin Hotel to see what Charlie and Alistair were up to, and upon his failure, basically told Pentious to unalive himself. If there's anything we could fault the guy for from an intellectual standpoint, it'd be his feud with Alistair, which is so intense that he'll drop anything else going on to focus on taking him down. But even then, that's just smart business considering they're arch rivals. We're in exclusively Overlord territory now. The Bronze Medal of Intellect goes to Carmilla. A graceful fighter and caring mother to her children, Carmilla acts as more or less a voice of reason among the Overlords. For starters, she's the only one so far who's been smart enough to figure out that the only thing capable of killing angels is their own weaponry, and she manages to hide the fact that she herself killed one to defend her family from everyone but Zestial and, unknowingly, Frank. While she's understandably hostile to Vaggie when she first confronts her, she ultimately decides to teach her how to fight angels for the sake of Hell's safety. On top of this, she's the top weapons dealer in Hell who's even been able to forge Hell's very own angelic weapons to protect her people. There's not much of a weakness in this Overlord's brain, but we've decided to give the next spot to a more sinister Overlord. Runner-up to the top spot, the Silver Medal of Intellect, is going to Alistair. Look, he might not be characterized as a genius before anything else, but Alistair seems to always be plenty of steps ahead most people around him. He managed to topple high-ranking Overlords at his debut and broadcasted their screams as a display of power and intimidation. He's a top-shelf opportunist as well, using every opportunity that comes his way to further his own plans to conquer Hell and gain his own freedom. At every twist and turn, Alistair is coming up with some new step to his ultimate goal of something, at least.
Yeah, I was going for hilarious.
From getting a royal favor from Charlie by helping her protect the hotel from the extermination angels, to using Frank the Egg Boy to spy on the Overlord's meeting, he constantly holds leverage over just about everybody in his afterlife. Alistair is the definition of terrifyingly brilliant. If and when he becomes freed from the constraints of his deal, it's sure to be an excellent show. And yet, I can't deny that little part of myself that's rooting for him out of sheer entertainment-driven curiosity, but how is he not at number 1? While we were tempted to give Alistair the gold, we feel that the most intelligent character in Hazbin has got to be the oldest of the Overlords, Zestial. Zestial is truly wise beyond his years, or at least wise at his years, but regardless, that's a lot of years. He's perhaps the most calm and collected character in the entire show. While we haven't seen much of him yet, he's a level-headed leader who, like Carmilla, refuses to go along with Velvet's plan to attack Heaven due to not having enough evidence. He also manages to stay even calmer than Carmilla, showing that he can keep a cool head under any amount of pressure. Despite how intensely feared he is throughout Hell, Zestial does not default to violence nor intimidation to get his way. He's shockingly level-headed and compassionate, which isn't at all what you'd expect from the guy who's supposedly Hell's oldest Overlord. It may be controversial to give him the gold medal given just how little screen time he's had so far, but Zestial's centuries of experience combined with his excellent composure make up a demon who's earned even the respect of a notorious radio demon, and if that's not convincing enough, just look at that top hat! Here at Wicked Binge, we're not here to judge our audience. Except when we are, of course. Now, relax, we're not going to tell you which side of the afterlife you'll end up on based on your preferences. But nonetheless, I'm Keefe Nossi with Wicked Binge, and today we're telling you what your favorite Hazbin Hotel character says about you. Let's start with the main heroine herself, Charlie. Charlie is about as uncharacteristically nice as you could expect from a future ruler of Hell. Were it not for her royal status, there'd simply be no understandable explanation as to why she's on this side of the afterlife. She's kind, caring, and did not canonically chase a YouTuber down the city streets without consent. If Charlie is your favorite, you're definitely in good company. Pretty much everyone loves her, but you go the extra mile. Many people say that pure good characters tend to be boring, or at least less interesting than their more morally questionable counterparts. You are not such people. You can appreciate acts of kindness everywhere, be they real or fictional.
A smile is a valuable tool, my dear.
You're definitely the type of person to wear one of those kind of people are my kind of people shirts, But take caution, you might even be a bit too nice and upbeat. Like Charlie, this can lead to you taking on others' problems before your own, or looking on the bright side. Despite the hundreds of storm clouds on the horizon, the world needs people like you, but make sure you're staying grounded in reality. What we're trying to say is that if you're a Charlie, you need a Vaggie in your life. Right off the bat, if Vaggie is your favorite character, there's about a 95% chance you're a lesbian, or at the very least, not straight. But that aside, it's an even safer bet that you're as loyal and dedicated as they come. Vaggie's character is all about loyalty. She devotes herself to supporting and protecting Charlie in any way she can, whether that's by means of advice or emotional support or even just acts of service. Ironically, you're even more likely than a Charlie fan to be wholeheartedly devoted to helping, but for you, it's less about helping out a lot of people and more about helping the ones you care about most in every way, shape, and form possible. And heaven help anyone who tries to stop you, because you're as determined as you are devoted. Speaking of heaven, let's go and take a trip there to discuss Adam. Adam is the main antagonist of the season, and the first full-on main villain of the series so far. His frat bro personality, love of rock music, and afterlife-sized ego make Adam a character who strikes that awesome blend of obnoxious and fun.
Awesome job, Danger Tits. Pound it.
Love him or hate him, Adam's presence is an undeniable highlight of every scene he's in, and it's straight up impossible to ignore. If you're a fan of Adam, nothing gets you going quite like a bombastic villain. The more musical numbers, the more you're invested. The bigger the ego, the bigger your enjoyment. You're the kind of person who watches Disney movies just for the villains and their musical numbers. You probably didn't like Wish very much, join the club. It's also probably difficult for you to get through more than 3 sentences without swearing. Now we move on to his right-hand lady, Loot. With Adam down for the count, Loot is spearheading, pun intended, the Extermination Angels, and also whatever the heck is going on with Lilith. If Loot's your favorite, you think she's hot, and that's valid. Just don't deny it, we know what you are. That's not to downplay her other attributes though. With Adam's death ending the season, Loot's drive for vengeance will be stronger than ever. So in addition to liking hot characters, fair play, you also like hot-blooded characters. The angrier they are, the more intrigued you are. This is total speculation, but you might be a masochist. We're not judging, just nudging. But for some people who prefer a more traditional ruler of heaven, enter Sarah and Emily. We're mentioning these two in the same category because 1, they're the only other major characters from heaven so far, and 2, they share almost all of their screen time. If your favorite is Sarah, you're in a bit of a minority, but if I had to guess, you like a project. You like complex characters, and you have an open mind to giving others the benefit of the doubt, even when what they're doing seems really messed up on the surface. One way or another, you want answers, but you're definitely what we'd call a cautious optimist. If Emily is your favorite, you're so real for that, honestly. You're like a Charlie fan on steroids, the sugary sweet cinnamon bun of any friend group, the person who always somehow knows how to comfort someone in need. A pure soul, if you will. Never change. In a world full of almost everyone else in the show, be an Emily. Now it's time to head back to hell, and when it comes from traveling from heaven to hell, Lucifer is as on the nose as it gets. You're attracted to dorkiness in every sense of the word. If you're not a total dork yourself, you're pining after one, to be sure. You also believe that height is truly just a number, and
you are much shorter in real life.
To quote what we said about Emily fans, you're so real for that. You're not quite a fan of the heroes nor villains as much as you are a fan of the 3 C's, confidence, charisma, and creativity. You can find inspiration in just about everything. Heck, you're probably finding inspiration in this sentence, so you're welcome. So find your own rubber duck passion project and get working on it. We believe in you. Now for the character who's like 90% of the fandom's answer to the titular question, Alistair. He's a smooth-talking radio host with a penchant for helping run down business endeavors, and a serial-killing overlord and slave owner. Not that that's important. Alistair has quickly become the most intriguing character in the series, whether you like him in a Tumblr sexy man way or a holy crap this dude's interesting way.
I will tear your soul apart.
It's hard to say what Alistair fans are like since, again, he's by far the most popular character in the series, but we'll simplify it like this. If you're a fan of Alistair, you value entertainment and personality above all else. You enjoy things for the sake of enjoying them, and you appreciate characters who do the same. You also have a dark sense of humor, and so to you, there's nothing like a character who's morbid enough to get a kick out of, but has just enough debatable decency to not be labeled as pure evil yet. Also, you're praying that his care for Charlie is genuine, which, same, dude, same. If your favorite character is Sir Pentious, you're honestly just straight up correct. My favorite character, a scriptwriter POV, is between Alistair and Pentious, and while both of them are awesome in their own ways, Sir Pentious has a particular charm to him that just can't be matched.
We meet yet again, Alistair.
Do I know you?
Oh,
yes you do.
Chaotic good is your bread and butter. You love to joke around, sure, but you also love genuine, bona fide redemption stories. There's nothing like a character with way more to them than the surface level stuff, after all. You root for the underdog whenever it's possible, so those final 30 seconds gave you absolute euphoria. In conclusion, you're someone who's got way more of a soft side than you let on. At least, that's how you'd put it. In reality, everyone knows you're a total softie, and also, if we may make a character suggestion, you should invest in King Dedede from the Kirby games. I know, it's weirdly specific, but trust me, you will love him. Now we move on to the series' most divisive character and the hotel's first guest, Angel Dust. If your favorite is Angel, you're a loser, baby, a loser, goddamn. Just kidding. But if Angel's your favorite, we'd have to guess that you know what it's like to have some less than savory coping mechanisms, and likely some trauma as well.
You think I ask for it? I don't ask for any of it.
We won't pry, I mean, we literally can't, this is a video and I don't even know you, but seeing a character whose flaws, burdens, and coping mechanisms are shown, no matter how ugly they are, is comforting to you. You love to see a down-on-their-luck character grow as a person and become stronger, kinder, and all-around happier. Also, your opinions on Valentino are not exactly positive. Sticking in the hotel for a bit, we next have Alistair's dear friend, I was doing air quotes, Husk. You probably tout yourself as the mean one of the group. I hate people, you say. I don't care, you say. But yeah, you do. Come on, you're way nicer than you gave yourself credit for, and that's okay. You might be blunt at times, sure, but you're also the most likely to jump at the opportunity to help a friend in need, especially if that need is a good listening ear. Like Angel fans, to an extent, you probably like to invest in perpetually sad characters because, whether you relate to them fully or not, you want to see them get better and happier. Alternatively, you might just like cats, or Keith David, or both. They're not mutually exclusive. Feast your eye on this next entry, Nifty. Now, it'd be bold of us to imagine we have any idea what's going on in that head of yours, so we'll keep this one simple. If Nifty is your favorites are determined by 2 words: gag characters. It doesn't matter how many theories surround a cast of characters, the one you're going to gravitate towards is the silliest and goofiest. Whether it's coming up with joke theories on how Nifty actually owns Alistair's soul, or just enjoying the absolute chaos she creates every second she's on screen, Nifty is a national treasure you're more than willing to steal. You're also probably a bit of a contrarian. Not the kind to deliberately choose the road less traveled, so to speak, just the type to stick up for the option most others acknowledge, but not first and foremost. You're a devil's advocate with a little less devil than the term implies. Though, speaking of devil, let's move on to the oldest overlord in the series so far, Zestial. Let me guess, this isn't the first time your favorite character hasn't gotten anywhere near a satisfactory amount of screen time. We've all been there, but perhaps none so much as you. And me, I like weird characters. That said, you believe in quality over quantity. This guy may have only shown up for a few minutes, but his calm demeanor and loyal friendship won you over quickly.
Camilla, what troubles thou?
As such, Zestial fans are probably some of the most simple, chill people in the fandom. You're not so much concerned with theories, who's gonna die, who's gonna live, who's gonna kiss, etc. You're just here to enjoy the ride. Well, okay, you do probably want one kiss to happen. Speaking of which, next we have one of the strongest of the season's new characters, Carmilla. Similarly to Loot fans, Carmilla's fans probably have a strong liking of strong women, but for you it's less black and white than that. Like Carmilla herself, it's more of a gray. You're among the most logical and straightforward people around, and you believe in respect, duty, and orderliness. That said, you don't believe in these things above everything else. They can be pushed to the side for the sake of people you care about. Whatever It Takes has about a 90% chance of being in at least one of your playlists, and Out for Love has a 190% chance. You better show some respect for this next entry, Velvet, backbone of the V's, or so she claims at least. You don't particularly care about being nice, and you care even less if someone else is. What you do care about, my friend, is authenticity. Mincing words is a red flag fit for a bullfight in your eyes. This doesn't mean that you yourself are mean, mind you just appreciate blunt, honest communication. You were probably the kind of kid who rooted for Heather to win Total Drama Island, not because you liked her, but you just wanted to see what would happen. Oh, and you're also into chicks with accents.
The game has changed. We can take the fight to them.
If that descriptor fits you, we also have to recommend Cherry Bomb. Cherry's explosive personality and hobbies, combined with her lovably hedonistic persona, make her one of many fan favorites. At the risk of sounding redundant, once again, nothing matters to you more than a good time. You don't feel the need to explore things in depth. You just want to try as much fun stuff as possible without getting bored. Despite your thrill-seeking side, though, you've got a soft spot for friends and family. You put pleasure before business any day of the week, but when that business involves someone you care about, it might just be the exception. Speaking of loyal friends, next we have an Umbrella entry. If your favorite character is Fat Nuggets, Kiki, Razzle, or Dazzle, nothing matters to you like cuteness does. You're the kind of person person who will invest in anything with the cute character just to see them do cute things. If you play Pokemon, you couldn't care less about winning, as long as you've got a team of little guys that make you go, aww, constantly. I'd bet you're also a soft-hearted person, and you either have or want a huge stuffed animal collection. You're the kind who will straight up refuse to watch a movie where an animal dies. Not even Cocaine Bear. Frickin' true that. Okay, we've dunked on Valentino plenty in recent videos, but we acknowledge he does have some fans out there. And fret not, we're not here to judge you guys harshly. You have an appreciation for pure evil villains. The more scummy and sleazy they are, the more you want to see them. Tragic backstory? Gray motivation? No, not for you, no thanks. You want pure, unadulterated evil in your life. This probably stems from a love of drama and conflict. You love Valentino as a character, sure, but you're just as ready as anyone else to see Angel freed from his clutches. The higher the stakes, the more you're a fan, and you also might be jealous of Valentino's fashion sense, which is valid, honestly. Nearing the end, let's round out the V's with Vox. We've made a few Tumblr sexy man jokes, but this guy's got to be the most guilty of the bunch. You may or may not be attracted to televisions now. These things just happen. We'll tell you what you definitely are attracted to, though. Underdogs. You probably love Alistair, sure, but you want to see the other lovable psychopath get some time in the spotlight. If Valentino fans love drama, you absolutely live, laugh, and love drama. You'd probably never partake of it yourself, but you're more than happy to enjoy it from a distance, and we're sure Vox will be happy to provide you with some.
Trust us with your safety.
In summary, you're a total geek, but we love you for it. From an old foe of Alistair's to an old friend, next is Rosie. On the surface, you're about the most elegant and collected type of person in the fandom. Beneath the surface, well, the nifty fans aren't the only ones with a surprisingly dark sense of humor. You're probably a huge horror movie fan, but you prefer the ones that are more lighthearted, so you can laugh at just how ridiculous some of the threats are therein.
It can be difficult to admit to things you're not proud of.
You've probably got a strong liking towards 50s aesthetics, and we'd be willing to bet that Alistair is a close second on your favorites list. But let's not forget about Alistair's other old friend, Mimsy. If Mimsy's your favorite, you're joking, right? Look, I'm all for choosing a favorite character who's underrated, be it limited screen time like Zestial or a lack of lore like Nifty. They can still be interesting. But Mimsy? I mean, I guess if she's your favorite, you have a thing for obnoxious characters.
Easy, cause I'm adorable.
We don't say that to be mean, but it's objectively what she was designed to be. You probably love listening to cringy stories on the internet or watching embarrassing videos. You are immune to secondhand embarrassment, and I can't decide if you're admirable or terrifying for it. We also aren't sure if Katie Killjoy and Tom Trench are anyone's absolute favorites. If they are, though, you love slapstick comedy that involves two people just bashing each other, whether it's those really cruddy boomer comics or some classic Tom and Jerry cartoons. Nothing gets your laugh box going like watching people absolutely roast each other.
Suck it up, you little bitch.
For our grand finale, we have Frank, and by extension the other Egg Boys too. It might seem odd that we rank them separately from the hotel pets, but the Egg Boys actually have minds of their own. If they're your collective favorite, you're somewhere between a Nifty fan and a Hotel Pets fan. You like cute, charming characters, but you also appreciate delving into some dark humor here and there.
And I was not supposed to talk about it.
It's the perfect yin and yang combination for you. You're the kind of person who would get nominated for prom king or queen as a joke, but somehow then win by complete accident. And the best part, you didn't even know you were running.
With Hazbin Hotel's first season being wrapped up, focus has been shifted to what the future of the series holds. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and today we're talking about Hazbin Hotel Season 2 predictions we love and hate. Think of this video as a brainstorming session regarding what Season 2 could cover, based on VivziePop's own hints, Season 1's newly opened plot lines, and honestly, just whatever seems the most interesting. It's all in good fun. And where better to start than the season finale? Let's begin with the topic of redeemed reptile, Sir Repentious. Just when fans were about to write a very strongly worded email to VivziePop for breaking their hearts, everyone's favorite serpentine former supervillain appeared in heaven after his untimely vaporization.
Where am I?
Which begs the question of how we'll see his story unfold in Season 2. Serpentious as a heaven-bound celebrity. With Serpentious's redemption having gone full circle, Charlie has been proven right about sinners being redeemable. If Emily's reaction was any indication, the majority of heaven would be pretty darn happy to see this. So could Serpentius become Heaven's newest celebrity? It's simple enough, really. Emily could show off Serpentius' reformed self to the citizens of Heaven, hopefully through a fun musical number, and we could see them in awe of how exactly this happened, perhaps making Serpentius into an ambassador of sorts for the hotel, and by extension, sinners as a whole. We'll say that we love this prediction. Serpentius' redemption would no doubt be inspirational to the citizens of Heaven, especially in contrast to how he was a literal supervillain before. In fact, we'd say this one is pretty likely considering that VivziePop suggested in a recent livestream that Serpentius' origin story, including why he was in hell in the first place, would be revealed in Season 2. In any case, we can definitely expect to see more of him, but it may not all be smooth sailing. Sarah versus Serpentius. We've seen the darker side of Sarah's character, from approving of genocides to how absolutely baffled she looked by Serpentius' arrival in Heaven. Some fans have been speculating what role she might play in Season 2, specifically in Pentius' story, and one such theory is her covering up Serpentius' redemption, perhaps by holding him as a prisoner. We have mixed feelings about this prediction. The conflict between Sarah and Emily that would ensue would no doubt be interesting. Maybe we'd see Emily slowly break Serpentius out of prison, leading to the celebrity status arc we mentioned before.
Why isn't he here?
Of course, whether or not Sarah playing an antagonistic role would work depends on her motivations. We've seen that Sarah isn't an outright evil character and seems sincere in her desire to keep Heaven safe. Maybe there's a greater threat than anyone else in the series knows about so far, that unbeknownst to the public, Sarah is actually protecting them from. It's all dependent on how consistent the world and character building remains in the story, but there's plenty of potential, so we aren't writing this one off yet. But now it's time to talk about the other aspect of that final 45-ish seconds of the season, Lilith. Episode 8 ends with Lute informing Lilith that Adam is dead, and that her, quote, deal is done. Her mysterious debut has already caused the fandom to do plenty of speculating about her potential role. Is Lilith a villain? VivziePop has even gone on record saying that Lilith's narrative is what she's most excited to get into. So the mystery of why exactly the monarch who helped civilize hell is in heaven will be solved soon, since Lute tells her that her deal is done after Adam dies. It's likely she made a deal with the angels to get to heaven, which also implies her leaving her people and family behind. Given how independence is central to Lilith's character, this isn't necessarily off-brand for her, but the question remains whether she's a truly villainous figure, or just a selfish one. We'll say that we dislike this prediction simply for the reason that it seems way too cut and dry. We've literally only seen Lilith shrouded in shadows, or at least with her eyes covered by sunglasses. Or is Lilith a tragic hero? Okay, maybe making Lilith a straight-up hero would be a bit of a stretch, but hear us out. With Lilith being in heaven and having associated with Adam and Lute, maybe she's trying to somehow protect hell from exterminations. Maybe she's supporting Charlie in her own way, with a lot of mental gymnastics going on.
Don't worry, Mom. I'll make you proud.
How might she be doing this? We have no idea. We have mixed feelings on this prediction, and we say that because we know so little about Lilith and her motivations, but we definitely prefer a more ambiguous character than a full-on villain, given how many we have already. Speaking of mysterious, potentially but not certainly villains, next it's time to talk about Alistair's soul and role. In the finale musical number, Alistair has a chilling solo that doubles as a mental breakdown, and it's led to a lot of speculation. Alistair made a deal with Lilith. We know that Alistair was a serial killer in his earthly life and that he manifested in hell with power strong enough to topple the strongest overlords therein.
Ran in the same circles when we were alive, up with me on the dance floor.
We also know that he disappeared for 7 years before the start of the series, which just so happens to be how long Lilith has gone without contacting Charlie. And wouldn't you know it, when Alistair returns, he comes to the hotel precisely to help Charlie with her endeavors.
This hotel! I want to help you run it.
More than anything, he just protects the hotel, and particularly Charlie. This has led many fans, including us, to speculate that Alistair made a deal with Lilith, since she's the only one who helped civilize hell in the first place. We'll say that we like this prediction. Everything just lines up too perfectly for this not to be the case. It would explain how Alistair got so much power out of seemingly nowhere, and would make sense for Lilith's motivations. The fun part is wondering what the nature of the deal is, which leads us into our next thought. Is Alistair a pure evil villain? Alistair's musical breakdown reveals quite a bit about him. He's devastated by the fact that he almost died for his friends and swears that he'll find a way to free himself from the constraints of his deal. He's hungrier for freedom than ever before, and he's ready to be the one pulling all the strings. The lyrics described it pretty accurately. This makes it clear that Alistair is going to be an antagonist in some capacity, but his uncertainty definitely raises some questions. Some fans are still on the boat that Alistair will be the main villain of the series, or at least one of them, and we have to say that we kinda hate this prediction. The fact is, Alistair has shown some moments of sincere goodwill. He's able to get along with some of his overlord friends like Rosie, and like he mentioned in his own song, almost died in a fight with Adam to protect Charlie and the gang. We just don't buy him being a fully evil character, and honestly, we just plain don't want him to be. That hug with Charlie in the finale song just warmed our hearts a bit too much. So surely, Alistair will be a hero then, right? Yeah, we hate this prediction too. We're sure that he can find at least some level of redemption in his own way, but the man has so far been portrayed as a total psychopath with minimal redeeming qualities.
He's a bad boy.
They're definitely there, but it's pretty rare to see them. We don't want him to be pure evil, but him going full-on good guy would just feel unnatural. So the solution? Alistair is a broken villain. Think about it. Alistair is torn between his desire for freedom and his commitment to his deal with probably Lilith. He's torn between his need to protect the hotel and his desire to be the one pulling all the strings. He's torn between his newfound care for Charlie and his literally everything else about him. We also know that, according to legend, Alistair appeared in Hell practically overnight with powers that let him topple some of the strongest overlords. Could it be that Alistair made a deal to get power, but didn't realize just how much pain his deal would put him through? Is this a situation where he gets all the power he wants, but regrets it due to being too much for him to handle? In any case, we do love this prediction. It could be that Alistair will end up being a big bad later on, and maybe redemption can only come for him if he's taken down. He did make a deal with Charlie, after all, and that could be done to unknowingly save him from his deal, which, if it's with Lilith, could just be a favor of, hey, could you maybe ask your mother to emancipate me? Thanks.
Who's joking?
But in any case, we simply don't think Alistair is going to be the one pulling all the strings, and if he is, he'll at least pull some of them nicely. Now, speaking of potential redemption arcs, what's gonna happen to Adam? Is he just dead? Well, okay, he's obviously dead, but is he afterlife dead? The obvious answer is a resounding yes, since he's not seen back in heaven and his corpse is seen in hell. It would make sense for him to be dead, but we'd say that there is likely more to it than meets the eye. As a result, we have mixed feelings about this prediction. Adam's return in hell. Now, there's also the possibility that Adam could revive in hell. After all, an angel who led a series of systematic exterminations of human souls is not likely to get into heaven, angel or not. But hear us out when we say we dislike this prediction. Sure, it could potentially be fun to see Adam try his hardest for a redemption arc at the hotel, but it also wouldn't feel very consistent with his character. We already saw an example of a bad guy being redeemed with Sir Pentious, and if there's a market for a more pure evil figure being reformed, we'd prefer the longer and more tragic route of Alistair's we mentioned earlier. Why did we say there might be more to him then? Simple. We'd love to see more of Adam in flashbacks, but him being in the hotel might be a bit redundant. There's a lot of other characters who need the spotlight, after all. Which brings us to our next group of characters, the Overlords. Please give us more Zestial. We're allowed some biases here. We're not sure what specific plot lines we're gonna see this gentlemanly old overlord involved in during future seasons, but all we know is that we really want to see more of him. We love this prediction, literally just because this guy seems way cooler than he needs to be. Vox will be a main villain. Vivzipop has stated that the V's are going to play a major antagonistic role in Season 2. We're glad to hear that, and especially true of Vox. His rivalry with Alistair could lead to some attempts to sabotage the hotel, and maybe through him we could learn more about both of their true natures. If Alistair is gaining slow but sure care for the hotel staff, Vox could be the pure evil rival that keeps him on his toes.
What did you just say?
So we'll say that we love this prediction, because Vox is a strong character we'd like to see more of. Velvet, potential anti-hero. Now, hear us out. Velvet's rebuke of Carmilla and Zestial was rooted in her wanting to fight heaven for all their exterminations. In her own twisted way, she might actually care about the people of hell. So could it be possible that she'll show some heroic feats in the coming episodes? We have mixed feelings on this prediction. It's a fun thought, sure, but we can't exactly see her turning her back on the other Vs. It's more of an afterthought than anything else, but she is the least evil of the Vs, and could definitely use some more screen time to boot. Valentino could inadvertently free Angel Dust. Since Angel is making progress in terms of selflessness and being kinder to himself, it's only a matter of time before his redemption is finalized. And we have one theory as to how this might happen. It's no secret that Val has been growing frustrated with his rebellious attitude and newfound self-worth. Could it come to pass that Val could somehow break his contract with Angel? Maybe there's some kind of secret condition that he'd break in his anger.
You're gorgeous. Do you need a job?
Or maybe Lucifer could use his own authority to command him to let Angel go. Or, and this could be a much darker route, but if Angel were to die at Val's hands by accident, he could be sent to heaven with Pensius, and then they'd have one more insider to help out. We'll say that we like this prediction. There's no way of knowing how it will happen, but we want to see Angel escape Valentino's awful clutches one way or another. Which brings us to another idea: Fat Nuggets, Angel's deliverer. We've made our stance on Fat Nuggets as the objective MVP, most valuable pig of the Hazbin universe, plenty. But what if he's even better than we think? It's been said that Fat Nuggets was a gift from Val to Angel Dust, aka the one good thing he's ever done. And we've yet to see this little guy do anything but love and support Angel. Could it be that Fat Nuggets has a razzle and dazzle-esque transformation that Angel hasn't discovered yet?
Not now, Fat Nuggets.
Could he be the one to defeat Valentino once and for all? What better fate for a pig like him than to be demolished by an actual pig? We'll say that we love this prediction, and we'd love to see more of Fat Nuggets in the storyline. But how about some potential relationships? This is more of a lightning round, as many fans are wondering what popular relationships will be the focal point of next season. Charlie and Vaggie. We'll say mixed feelings. Not because these two aren't precious together, but because they had a lot of focus in season 1. Husk and Angel Dust. This one we'll say we like it, as these two have one of the most wholesome friendships in the series so far. And whatever direction that relationship grows, these two just play off one another really well. Valentino and Vox. We're gonna say mixed feelings. We're not really rooting for the serial to have a wholesome romance here, honestly. Though their random kiss at the end of finale was kind of funny though. Zestial and Carmilla. For this one, we'll say we love it. The way she looked at him while she sang "I'll Keep You Safe" during her song in episode 3 was just too pure for this to be anything but true love. Even if it's just their unexpectedly wholesome friendship though, that's fine too. Sir Pensius and Cherry Bomb. We like it. We'd say love, but we're not sure how long distance works when one is in heaven and the other is in hell. Hopefully Cherry's redemption isn't far off either. On that note, let's talk about the hotel, namely a new guest. Cherry Bomb gives the hotel a shot. Let's not waste any time. We love this prediction. Sir Pensius was a comical supervillain before his time at the hotel, so despite some lovable character traits, his role seemed cut and dry before his redemption arc.
Well, if it isn't my arch nemesis.
Cherry staying at the hotel would offer us an even more interesting redemption arc, since we've already seen plenty of her good traits before she even considered signing up. And given her help in rebuilding the hotel, it's not too much of a long shot to say she might join the crew. We saved this one for second to last. It's time to talk about a character who hasn't debuted in the show yet. Rue, the root of all evil. Not to be confused with the adorable Joey from Winnie the Pooh. This is the manifestation of all evil in the known universe. You know, subtle differences and whatnot. Will Rue debut in season 2? Rue is almost certainly going to be the main antagonist of the overarching series, being the literal origin of every kind of evil. We've already speculated that Alistair gained his power from a deal with Lilith, sure, but where did Lilith gain hers from? We know that Lucifer has angelic powers, but Lilith was the first human woman created in this universe. YouTuber Finn the Pony has come up with an interesting explanation in this video, which is really interesting and you should check out. But the gist of it for this section is that Lilith's powers were from a deal with Rue. This would make Alistair a puppet of a puppet, and Lilith a puppet of Rue. We'll say that we love this prediction. It opens Alistair and Lilith up to a complex web of motivations, which is exactly what we want to see from the two most mysterious characters in the show so far. While we almost certainly won't see everything revealed in season 2, we definitely like to see Rue at least make an ominous first appearance. But now it's time for the grand finale. It's time to talk about Nifty. Nifty is the strongest overlord. When asked about Nifty's past and what's going on in her head, Husk responds that the others do not even want to know what her deal is. She shows no restraint with stabbing people, even allies, if she believes she's been told to.
Alright, Nifty,
and behaves in mysterious ways no matter the context. Alistair seems to genuinely enjoy her company, and the feeling is mutual. But here's the thing, we found out that Husk was an overlord before being owned by Alistair, and so it stands to reason that Nifty might be one as well. In fact, what if she's pulling way more of the strings than we expect?
I'm ready to punish some bad boys.
What if Nifty is the one who owns Alistair's soul, instead of the other way around? What if her big beady eyes is actually a spy camera for whoever he made a deal with? Needless to say, we love this prediction. No, not because it's even remotely plausible or likely. It would just be really, really funny. And we want to be able to say we called it on the off chance that it does happen.
Action!
Hazbin Hotel is a fun and colorful series about redemption and friendship, filled with all sorts of wacky characters. That said, it's not safe to throw on as a means of babysitting an iPad kid. After all, animation is for adults too. And this show is as raunchy as HE double hockey sticks is hot. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge. And these are 7 sinful reasons Hazbin Hotel is not for kids. And it's awesome. Also, spoilers ahead. So let's start out with the violence. Now granted, that's something you can see a lot of in cartoons, even kids shows like Tom and Jerry or Looney Tunes. But given the setting of literal hell, you can imagine Hazbin has more than its fair share of it. Casual weapon use seems to be a favorite, from Angel's four-armed firearm skills to Cherry Bomb staying very true to her name. It's less portrayed as a danger and more as an everyday occurrence. This show takes the classic "don't try this at home" message and runs with it. But when it comes to violence, nothing beats good old-fashioned body horror.
Weird, but there's a kink for that, I'm sure.
Some of the most memorable scenes in that regard include Lute ripping Vaggy's eyeball out when she spares a demon, Alistair and Valentino repeatedly threatening Husk and Angel respectively, and unfortunately, we'll have to get back to the latter in a while. And of course, the absolutely brutal beatdown Adam received by the hands of Lucifer, and then Nifty dealing the finishing blow. Oh, and we can't forget Alistair's afternoon snack of freshly slaughtered deer. In fact, knowing him, it might not be slaughtered. But let's pivot and take a look at the largest and most infamous category, and probably the one that we shamelessly put in our YouTube thumbnail. The amount of sexual jokes and references in this series is off the charts. And while there are only 8 episodes of the series so far, not including the pilot, there's no shortage of raunchy humor that would make the average episode of Family Guy look like a Nick Jr. show in comparison. It's not even a shock value aspect, since the show takes place in hell. It's more of a simple expectation. We could probably, no, definitely make a whole video about these innuendos by themselves, but instead we've decided to go through a highlight reel of our favorites, from cleanest to dirtiest. One slimy individual. The show wasted no time getting into dirty humor. During the first song in the first episode, Happy Day in Hell, Charlie is confronted mid-song by a giant slug who requests that she touch his parts. Unlike the gentlemanly Sir Pentious, he is far from tactful with his approach, and we'd say he could use a stay at the hotel. But we also don't like the idea of him sleeping in the same building as the main character. Sir Pentious' acting. During the crazy Broadway-level performance between Sir Pentious and Angel in episode 2, Sir Pentious resists the charm of Angel and his offer of the, quote, devil's dandruff. I guess that's actually a drug reference.
Say no to drugs.
But Sir Pentious wouldn't have time because he's too busy not having sex before marriage. Or is he? In episode 6, he tries repeatedly and unsuccessfully to pick up Cherry Bomb at a club, with zero room for mistaking his intentions. It starts with him offering to buy her a drink, only to play it off by offering to buy everyone in the club a drink. But eventually, when he asks her if she'd like to, quote,
do a sex with me,
he plays this off by, you guessed it, offering to have sex with everyone in the club. Does Vox really hate Alistair? The obvious answer is yes. Yes, he does. But let's go deeper. In Stayed Gone, the song he unwillingly shares with Alistair, Vox shows off his artistic talent with a slanderous drawing of our favorite diabolical radio host. And you'll notice that he suspects his staff is a dildo. If that weren't enough, when he witnesses Alistair getting brutalized by Adam in the season finale, he's given a hard-on by his own admission. It may be a literal hate boner, but it's a boner nonetheless. Which brings us to the BDSM club. It says a lot when the show that takes place in hell can still make many people feel more uncomfortable than usual, like the BDSM club that Angel takes the hotel to in episode 3 to practice trust exercises.
No bond stronger than those formed through bondage.
While yes, we would imagine that BDSM requires a lot of trust, we're not sure it's going to help you earn a ticket to heaven. Then again, maybe it will. Lucifer's threat. When Lucifer shows up to the final battle, he's so ready to annihilate Adam that he forgets one very crucial word from his threat.
And now I am going to you.
At least buy him an apple first, Lucifer. Val's threats are a bit freakier though. When the V's are brainstorming how to keep Alistair and Charlie from rising to power with the hotel, Valentino's suggestion to, quote,
put something inside them,
gives Vox inspiration to send Serpentius in as a spy. This wasn't Val's plan though. By his own admission, that's just how he gets his employees to behave. And of course, just angel dust. We'd be doing Angel a big disservice if we boiled his character down to just being about sleazy sex jokes. That said, it is still a pretty huge part of his character. His first major scene in the full series is him pitching the idea of using his, quote, celebrity, aka being an adult film star, status to help advertise the hotel. He says he's got it all, including, and I quote, the chest fluff everyone thinks are tits.
Come on, keep talking dirty.
In any case, practically every other line from this character is promiscuous, at least for the first half of the season, even to the point where his idea of a show and tell entry is showing the hotel one of his proudest performances. And if there's one thing the show is more infamous for than that, it's the crazy amount of swearing, like Scorsese levels of profanity. We're not trying to give the show or its writers grief for how much vulgarity is in it. After all, it takes place in hell. It wouldn't make sense for it to not be vulgar. But even taking that into consideration, the amount of swearing here is just... it's actually kind of impressive. If you brought a swear jar into this series, you could quit your day job. It's so infamous that it spawned memes that imagine what would happen if other shows were written by Vivziepop. And no disrespect to her or the show. If anything, the series is very self-aware of its profanity. An official ad posted on Twitter for the series actually counted all the swears in the entire season. 302 to be exact. And just for fun, we decided to do some extra calculations. 302 swears over the course of 8 episodes. That's an average of 37.75 swears per episode. And each episode goes for about 22 minutes before the credits roll. Over the full course of the series, that totals out to an average of 1.72 swears per minute. So you'll be hearing a swear word every 35 seconds.
Well, this just got interesting.
And to be honest, that's actually less than what we expected. So Vivziepop, if you're watching this, that's a challenge for season 2. Now, as you can probably guess from the last 2 entries, dark humor is this series' bread and butter. We mentioned the BDSM club earlier, but there's another setting that's much more morbid. Enter Cannibal Town. While most of the locals are surprisingly friendly, this is an entire territory of hell reserved for, well, cannibals. Even Rosie, nice as she may be, offers Charlie some pinky fingers as a snack, which Charlie very politely declines. This is just one of many examples of the show's morbid sense of humor.
Alistair, you could learn a thing or two.
It can range from cynical, like Husk and Angel singing a heartfelt duet about how much their lives suck, to downright freaky, like Nifty's determination that the bugs won't be winning the war for long. Or really just Nifty in general. But let's take a closer look at the story's setting. Hell, as fun and goofy as the show usually is, it also contains some interesting religious commentary. While Hazbin Hotel is definitely most well known for its raunchy, profane sense of humor, its focus on world building and lore is nothing to sleep on. To fully understand it though, you've got to take into account Vivziepop's inspiration from and subversion of religious lore, particularly Christianity. Popular biblical figures like Adam, the first human man, and Lucifer, the fallen angel and root of all earthly evil, are present in the story. but their stories are changed significantly. In this universe, Eve was actually Adam's second wife after Lilith, who ended up having a fling with Lucifer and bringing our lovable hellborn princess into the world. In many ways, it turns the contemporary heaven and hell message on its head by showing corruption on the angel's side and some sympathy on the demons. But to play devil's advocate, or angel's advocate, for a moment, the show actually isn't as counter-Christian as you might expect. While it isn't a Sunday school lesson by any means, the story is about Charlie building a hotel to redeem sinful demons who have been ostracized by the higher-ups of their world, in the hopes that they can enjoy a happy eternity in heaven. Call us crazy, but isn't there a character in the Christian faith whose main goal is also to redeem sinners in a fallen world so they can reach heaven? The name's right on the tip of my tongue. Oh, and that's not to mention the symbolic irony of Serpentius, a literal serpent, being the first sinner demon to be fully redeemed and make it to heaven.
I didn't think this would ever happen.
This may not be a show for all ages, but it's one that all religions can enjoy. Now, we've been having a lot of fun so far, but it's time to get to the darker side of the series. In this section, we'll be talking about the various kinds of trauma the characters experience. While Hazbin Hotel is a dark comedy, there are plenty of moments where it takes itself much more seriously. Charlie's daddy issues come to mind, as do her daddy's struggles with depression. Husk accurately traces Charlie's goal of fixing other people's problems back to Lucifer's absence throughout most of her life.
You got daddy issues?
And likewise, said absence caused by the divorce with Lilith brought Lucifer even deeper into despair, after already being cast out of heaven. But the more controversial, hard-to-swallow aspect is the show's depiction of sexual abuse and assault, most notoriously with the character of Valentino, who happens to be Angel's boss and the owner of his soul. In contrast to Valentino's usual over-the-top, almost idiotic demeanor, when he and Angel are alone on screen together, he's portrayed as a terrifying menace who towers over his victim. Many have praised the show for how it handles SA, as a lot of other forms of media have either glamorized it or underplayed its severity. And that's the perfect segue to our final category. When you have a show about hellbound demons looking to make their way to heaven, you're bound to have no shortage of controversies. Staying on the topic of Angel, he's definitely the series' most controversial character, especially in recent weeks, where his song Poison in the 4th episode divided fans. We mentioned earlier that many praised how his story handled the trauma he experienced, though some were critical of the music video, which they claimed glamorized Angel's experience, mainly due to his confident and promiscuous performance. That said, we would argue that the whole point of that episode was to show that Angel's promiscuity was a facade he came up with to cope with what he was suffering from his boss, aka the absolute furthest thing from glamorizing it. I mean, his character literally breaks down at the end of the song.
I need a drink. The hottest you can make.
While the praise outweighs the controversy, as with anything eccentric and popular as Hazbin Hotel, there will always be controversy surrounding it, even when that controversy deliberately sidesteps what the scene was actually trying to do. And if the controversy isn't about the series, then about the very strange decisions its fans tend to make. So let's move to a more lighthearted one. And yeah, you already know where we're going with this. In our Good to Evil video, we made a quick mention of what we'll call the Verbalese 50K incident, where the YouTuber in question commissioned an animated music video of Charlie chasing him to the song Hideaway. And really, every joke we could make has been said 1,000 times already. So we'll just say that while we aren't sticking up for the business decision, this is America, and who are we to tell you how to spend your money, guy? Hey, remember that scene in the finale of Season 1, where Charlie and Vaggie casually reveal that their pets Razzle and Dazzle can basically become huge dragons to help fight the extermination angels? What if they had even more helpful creatures? Better yet, what if everybody did? I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and today we're asking one of Hell's hardest questions. Which Pokemon would Hazbin Hotel characters choose? Now, let's start with Hell's royal heroine, Charlie Morningstar. Charlie is all about helping others find redemption and rehabilitation. She's also extremely compassionate, so we're gonna say her first choice is Cubone. This heartbreaking little guy wears its dead mother's skull and is literally categorized as the lonely Pokemon. Charlie would never be able to turn a blind eye to this poor little guy. She'd also want to pick some Pokemon that would help make the hotel an even nicer place to stay. Alistair has been a great help so far, but one magical being who could perhaps do even more for the hotel is Jirachi, the wish Pokemon introduced in Generation 3. Not only is it just plain adorable, Jirachi also has the ability to grant wishes if woken up with the song of a pure voice. Since Charlie loves singing and helping people, this is a match made in heaven, or metaphorically at least. Finally, Blissey of Gen 2 would be great as a nurse of sorts who can heal injuries within the hotel. Plus, it's said that the eggs it lays can make anyone unfailingly pleasant, which would make Charlie's job way easier. Next up we have Vaggie. Charlie's girlfriend is the brains and brawn to her heart and soul, so she'd probably want to focus on Pokemon that would help her protect Charlie and support the hotel.
Who wants to go first?
Glade is our first pick for her team, a fierce fighter who is said to be able to sense what her opponent is thinking and attack accordingly. The skillful fighter Lucario would also be a good choice with his excellent martial arts skills. Plus, we have a feeling that he would totally be her main in Smash Bros. Not sure why, it just feels right. And she'll want a mighty steed too, in her dearly departed Dazzle's memory. We'll give her a Skarmory for both speed and defensive capabilities. Now, let's move from the hotel staff to its first guest, Angel Dust. Promiscuous but sensitive, Angel has grown into one of the hotel's most reliable allies. Smoochum would be a great friend for this lewd star, and his appetite for sampling, with its habit of finding likes and dislikes via lip contact. Angel Dust would truly have a companion after his own heart, and we're sure he'd like a reminder of his bestie, Fat Nuggets, too. And to fulfill that role, we have Lechonk. Lechonk's body gives off a herb-like scent that bugs can't stand, which could come in handy if a certain bug-like pimp gets too handsy. And for that reason, we'll throw in Oinkalone, its evolution as well. Staying on the trend of guests, next we have the first redeemed soul from Hell, Serpentius. Serpentius learned his lesson, but that doesn't mean he has any less of a creative mind when it comes to battle.
Alright, new guy, you're up.
To start off, he'll need the help of his egg boys, so he'll want an executor on his side. They're gonna need some transportation, of course, and being that Pentious is a snake with lots of helpers to tag along, this is Rayquaza's time to shine. He'll be able to carry Serpentious and his egg boys, new recruits included, and fly him to battle in order to fight whatever fiend dares to threaten his friends. Finally, for close quarters combat, we're giving him Sir Viper, because, well, come on, just look at him. His name even starts with Sir, so it was meant to be. Just give him a little top hat and he's home free. It's time to tune in to everyone's favorite serial killer turned hotel assistant, Alistair the Radio Demon. Alistair may have a perpetual smile on his face, but that doesn't quite mean he's friendly. The shadow Pokemon Gengar is a match made in hell for him. He hides in the shadows of his victims, only to strike when an opportunity arises, much like Alistair's iconic debut in Hell.
This face was made for radio.
Alistair wouldn't pass up Hypno either. He's all about manipulating people and making deals with them, so Hypno's powers would surely come in handy for gaining his freedom. And while he's on his quest to pull everyone's strings, or at least their leg, Beheeyem's ability to control its opponent's memories would make him a beast. He'd be able to quite literally strike fear into the hearts of anyone who dares to cross him. Charlie should stay on his good side because he's going to be one tough customer. If you want somebody to vouch for that, Husk is your guy. We all know Husk is a gambling man, so he's going to want to increase his odds of winning in any situation. Victini, the victory Pokemon, is a must-have for him. Its victory-themed powers can help increase the odds of a big win. Porygon, being an expensive casino prize, would be a good choice as well. With the ability to win valuable rare Pokemon, and having proof in the Porygon, Husk might be able to slowly regain his power via smart trades. Or maybe he could at least break free of his current deal with Alistair. Who knows? Maybe he just likes really blocky, pixelated duck thingies. We'll also throw in Meowth. That's right, this cat's joining Husk's team. With his love of sleep in the daytime and his hunting for treasure in the dead of night, Husk would appreciate the company of this little scamp 24/7.
It was nice to have that power.
Speaking of little scamps, let's move on to Nifty. Being that she's an energetic ball of chaos and cleanliness, Mincino was made for Nifty. Its obsession with keeping everything tidy would give Nifty a valuable helping hand. command. The same could be said for Swablu, who could be even more useful in a practical sense. This guy is even more cleaning obsessed than Mancino, with the added benefit of flight to clean those tough to reach places. What's more, both these guys are adorable animals, which Nifty will enjoy playing with, if her attachment to Husk is any indication. Incineroar, last but not least, fulfills Nifty's inevitable bad boy quota. Incineroar is big, mean, and willing to straight up ignore its trainer's orders. Quite possibly the easiest character to pick Pokemon for so far is Cherry Bomb. Cherry's always itching for a battle, and her weapon of choice is, you guessed it, bombs.
Here, hold this. Oh my god, oh my god!
Electrode, which likes to explode just out of sheer boredom, is a no-brainer here. The same can be said for its stronger, even more volatile evolution, Voltorb. But in addition to those Gen 1 classics, we also have a much later addition to the series for her. Turtonator from Pokemon Sun. From living in a volcano to having a shell that blows up anyone who dares attack, even right down to its droppings being explosive. The hotel would never have to worry again with these explosive allies on its side. Well, except for the walls. Still might want to worry about those. Rounding out the hotel's staff/helpers, we have Lucifer. Lucifer is both a doting father and an avid fan of ducks. So Ducklet and Psyduck are as obvious as they are self-explanatory for his team picks. But Lucifer is much more than a duck enthusiast. He's also a dreamer with great visions for the afterlife, having passed that dreamer's heart down to his daughter. Now he just wants to protect her and support her hotel more than anything.
You see? This is exactly what I'm talking about, Charlie.
With its illusion-making capabilities, Zoroark could both help the gang visualize the hotel's potential future and keep enemies at bay with terrifying mirages. Now let's take a trip to heaven for our next few characters, starting with Sarah. She's the highest ranking authority of heaven we've met in the series so far, so it's a safe bet that her team will mostly consist of legendaries. Silvally is an obvious choice given that it was originally made to model Arceus, and it can turn itself into any type as long as it has a trusting bond with its trainer. The legendary Xerneas is also a given. It's said to be able to share eternal life, which, come on, that's like heaven's main thing. Finally, we know that Sarah is willing to make risky and even borderline evil moves to help keep heaven safe. So alongside Xerneas, we'll also include his Y counterpart, Yveltal. More or less the Grim Reaper of Pokemon. Sarah would likely want to employ Yveltal to ensure it's doing its job to keep the world in balance. Moving on to the eternally pure-hearted Emily. Her support of Charlie's Hotel and generally positive attitude implies that she'd go for the sweetest Pokemon out there, with a touch of power of course. When it comes to sweetness, it doesn't get more on the nose than Alchemy. The more loving they're raised, the sweeter the cream they produce becomes. And if every day in heaven is going to be a happy day, they're going to need some quality frosting. They'll also want some quality hugs, which Beware would be happy to provide. Its Pokédex entry warns that it could easily shatter the bones of us mere mortals, but in heaven, that should be of minimal concern. Finally, we're throwing in Kirlia, a Pokemon empowered by cheerful energy to see into the future and dance like there's no tomorrow. If somehow Sarah hasn't seen enough evidence of Charlie's Hotel, Kirlia's powers will help convince her and then some. It's about time to visit the more unsavory side of heaven, starting with Lute. Lute is a fierce, fearless warrior who will stop at nothing to carry out exterminations, or whatever her orders are.
Angels don't make mistakes.
Kabutops chops up its enemies into pieces and sucks out its bodily fluids, which is absolutely horrifying. In other words, perfect for Lute. Ponyard is another good choice for her team. Don't let its tiny size fool you. This little guy fearlessly attacks whatever stands in its path, and its variety of blades are sure to make it a deadly assistant to its even more violent assistant. But we'd imagine that Lute won't want to have a repeat of Adam's death, so she'll want some protection too. Gardevoir is willing and able to expend all of its psychic energy to create a small black hole to protect its trainer. Combined with Kabutops, Ponyard, and Lute's fierce fighting skills, this team's extermination will be quite the spectacle. He may be dead, but we're not leaving Adam out of the fun today. While he's also a fierce fighter, Adam's a bit less serious about it than Lute. He's more of a showboater, so we're gonna give him Toxtricity and Explode to start off. With Toxtricity's cool-headed rockstar persona and Explode's city-piercing sound capabilities, nobody would be able to ignore Adam in the throes of battle, which we're sure he'll appreciate.
There won't be a demon left alive.
Finally, while it may seem like cheating, Arceus is a no-brainer for Adam's team. Being a high-ranking soldier in heaven, it would make sense for him to choose the Pokemon equivalent to a god for his team. And honestly, if anyone's prideful enough to dare to do so, it's Adam. From pride to gluttony, up next we have Rosie. Well, not gluttonous in the traditional sense, more in the cannibalistic sense. Given Rosie's unsettling diet, Guzzlord seems like the Pokemon for her. With its constant hunger, Guzzlord is always eating something, so we're sure it wouldn't pass up some delicious extermination angels. But with a big mouth to feed like that, she'll need to gather some extra food. That's where Woobat comes in. This cave-dwelling bat-like Pokemon specializes in using echolocation to find bug Pokemon for its prey, which would no doubt keep Guzzlord satiated. Finally, Pansear can help with food preparation. Stratton City Gym doubles as a restaurant, which means that its adorable trio of monkey Pokemon double as expert chefs. Pansear is our choice because he has heat capabilities, which is the most immediately useful for cooking. Plus, he won't mind the harsh weather. Next is heroic angelic arms dealer Carmilla. Carmilla is another skillful fighter in the series, but as we saw through her fight with Vaggie, she's more graceful than her heaven-bound enemies.
You have to do better than that.
Carmilla is out for love, so she's more concerned with protecting her friends and family than defeating her foes. Aegislash is a clear-as-day choice for her team. It's literally a sword and a shield in the same package, so what's not to like? But to complement her own fighting skills, she'll need more than some high-quality sentient objects. That's why we're going to give her Scyther and Medicham. These two specialize in speed and technique, respectively. Scyther's movements are so fast they can't be seen by the naked eye, and this would work in tandem with its razor-sharp arm blades to eviscerate its opponents. As for Medicham, its disciplined meditation makes it as stealthy as it is deadly. We could totally see these two being guards of sorts for Carmilla's family. Now for the finale, it's time to talk about the Vs, starting with the infamous Valentino. He's a moth who uses his toxic skills of manipulation to bring more workers into his business.
Which of these makes me look sexier?
Venomoth should be self-explanatory, but we also think he'd be fond of Lickitung, whose saliva contains paralyzing, itch-causing effects. We're not too fond of thinking about how he'd likely use it, but, well, he certainly would. Finally, Val definitely seems like the guy who couldn't resist choosing Lopunny. Just don't think too hard about it. Next, we have the notoriously disrespectful influencer Velvet. She's another relatively easy one to pick for, but for a different reason. For Velvet, it's all about aesthetics. Looks are everything, so she's gonna choose the flashiest, most eye-catching Pokemon she can. Zarina might butt heads with Velvet, but she'd no doubt respect this Pokemon's independence from its owner's commands. But one isn't enough. According to the official Pokemon website, she views Quackable as her arch-rival. That gives us the idea that these two living with the same owner would cause plenty of drama, which is sure to get Velvet plenty of those sweet, sweet likes.
The game has changed.
Lastly, the mysterious Iron Jugulus has no shortage of rumors surrounding it. And on top of that, just look at those stylish hot pink stars all over its body. That is so in right now. For our grand finale, we have the main monitor himself, Vox. Rotom was, without a doubt, the easiest Pokemon to assign in this whole video. His whole shtick is being able to infiltrate electronic devices and control them. Sound familiar? Well, familiar though it may be, just controlling the devices won't be enough. You'll need to control the audience too, right? That's where Malamar comes in, a dark psychic Pokemon who can gain total control over its victims. It seems like these two already fill what you'd expect from Vox, but we'll also throw in Pikachu, because, come on, even an evil company needs a cute mascot to lure more viewers in, right? Tune in next week to see Pikachu enslave an entire generation of sinner demons. You don't want to miss